These two were just about to do what you've all been waiting for, when a sudden, buzzing ringtone interrupted Emoji Yang, who had just said, "Don't come from behind, I want to look at you." Shin Shanglu answered the phone and tossed the person under him aside. It seemed the person on the other end had a problem that required Shin Changlio's attention. Emoji Yang, lying behind him, asked with a wrong tone, "Subai again?" Shin Chanlu, somewhat angered, pinched his chin and said, "You're just his substitute, remember that? Acknowledge your place, you're not qualified to discuss these matters with me." Did he really just ditch him without even putting his pants on? Emoji Yang turned his face to the side, a tear sliding down his cheek. He fought back his tears and said meekly, "Your stomach isn't well, I'll go make you some porridge." This made Shin Chanlu feel a bit strange. Every time Subai was mentioned before, Emoji Yang would throw a fit. Why was he so well behaved this time? Little did he know, the soul residing in Emoji Yang's body had already changed. As soon as Emoji Yang entered the kitchen, a scornful smile appeared on his face. Turns out, the current Emoji Yang was a renowned heartthrob bigshot from the quick transmigration world, tasked with entering various worlds and completing missions. He called out to the system, "What's the mission this time?" The Kawaii system sprite materialized out of thin air. I learned from the system that the original host was a crazy fan of the movie star Shin Chanlu. Because he looked similar to Shin Chanlio's White Moonlight, Subai, he was kept as a substitute lover. But after Subai returned to China, the original host was ruthlessly abandoned. Under Subai's slander and framing, the original host died in depression. And his mission this time is to snatch Shin Chanlu back. After hearing this, Emoji Yang complained with disgust about the original host. He was already abandoned and still thinking about snatching a man back. Isn't he too much of a love brain? Looking at Emoji Yang swallowing clouds and blowing smoke, the system had a feeling that its host was going to cause trouble. Emoji Yang brought the porridge and called Shin Chanlu to eat. Looking at the table of dishes made for him, Shin Chanlu apologized to Emoji Yang in a low voice. Emoji Yang said it was okay, what you said was right. He even thoughtfully picked up food for Shin Chanlu. Shin Shanglu felt that Emoji Yang's attitude was very wrong. Before going out, he tentatively asked, "Are you really okay? Do you want me to take you to work?" After Emoji Yang refused, Shin Shanglu started to undress as he walked. The system asked curiously, "Shin Chanlu rarely takes the initiative to show kindness to you, are you not afraid that he will be angry if you reject him like this?" The original host was so humble because he loved Shin Chanlu but couldn't get him. He is already used to being at the beck and call of the original host. Since I am here, things should change. Why did Emoji Yang look pained when he took a shower? This startled the little system. "Host, you're crazy to take a cold shower in this weather." But he disdained to explain, "You know nothing. The good show is just about to begin." The system sighed, as expected of a narcissistic boss, "I can't afford to mess with him." As dusk settled, Shin Changlu felt depressed after a whole day of gloom. Something was off about Emoji Yang's behavior today. Could it be because of Subai? He drove to Emoji Yang's office building and called him, asking if he wanted a ride home and dinner together. However, Emoji Yang refused. Shin Changlu became even more puzzled. He had never rejected me before. What was wrong with him? His thoughts were interrupted by a sound in the distance. He turned his head and saw Emoji Yang walking side by side with another man, chatting and laughing. Suddenly, the other man half-embraced Emoji Yang. Seeing their intimate behavior, Shin Shanglu felt like he was being cheated on. He clenched his fist and slammed it against the steering wheel in anger. Emoji Yang watched as a familiar car sped past them, a slight smile in his eyes. It seemed everything was going according to plan. "Just wait for me at home, Shin Shanglu." As night fell and the dinner came to an end, Emoji Yang arrived at Shin Changlio's apartment. As soon as he opened the door, he saw him standing there. The moment the door closed, Shin Shanglu questioned him angrily, "Who was that man? If you have a new love, get out of my sight." Shin Shanglu grabbed his arm and slammed him against the door. Emoji Yang just softly called out, "Shanglu." He suddenly felt weak and fainted. Shin Shanglu was so scared that he quickly caught him, only to find that Emoji Yang was burning up. Emoji Yang, who was placed on the bed, slowly opened his eyes and saw Shin Shanglu looking at him with concern. He struggled to sit up, and Shin Shanglu couldn't help but blame him. "You have a 102-degree fever and you still came here? Aren't you afraid of dying?" I'm afraid you're not eating again." Hearing this, Shin Shanglu felt a pang of guilt and couldn't help but soften his tone. He gently coaxed Emoji Yang into taking his medicine and told him not to do this again. Emoji Yang then explained that the man was just a colleague, and they were just making small talk because they were going the same way. Shin Changlu felt a little embarrassed for jumping to conclusions, so he told Emoji Yang to rest well. Emoji Yang took this opportunity to reach out his arms for a hug. After a moment of hesitation, Shin Changlu helplessly hugged him and said, "Go to sleep. I'm here with you." However, Emoji Yang, who was being held in his arms, revealed a triumphant smile. Ever since the Black Lotus bloomed, it has been manipulating everything. In just a few days, all of Shin Changlio's emotions were under Emoji Yang's control. Have you ever seen your boyfriend's shirt worn like this? At this moment, Emoji Yang, wearing Shin Changlio's shirt, was about to make a move, proving that he and Subai were completely different. I just want to know if there's anything under the shirt. Shin Changlu sat on the sofa, turned around, and froze. Emoji Yang was wearing his shirt. Because of their difference in size, the oversized shirt made Emoji Yang look extra petite. Emoji Yang clutched the hem of the shirt awkwardly and said, "I accidentally got my pajamas wet when I was washing up just now, so I wore yours." Shin Changlu swallowed, his face flushed, his mind blank. He could no longer hear what Emoji Yang was saying. His mind was already filled with images of how to get Emoji Yang into bed. Snapping out of his thoughts, Shin Changlu quickly called Emoji Yang to eat strawberries with him. He picked up a strawberry and held it to Emoji Yang's lips. "Try it, this strawberry is very sweet." "I'm sweet too," Emoji Yang said with a sweet smile, then opened his mouth and took the strawberry from Shin Changlio's hand. Holding Shin Changlu, he slowly fed the strawberry to him. The sweet strawberry burst in their mouths, filling them with its sweetness. Overcome with emotion, Shin Changlu pulled Missouri Jiang close and whispered, "You're sweeter than strawberries." Then Shin Changlu acted on the thoughts he had before eating the strawberries, and pushed Emoji Yang down. Pinned beneath him, Emoji Yang thought, "Shin Changlu, be careful, I can be so sweet I kill you." As they kissed passionately, a paparazzi outside the window was snapping away. Unsurprisingly, the next day, photos of the two of them looking intimate quickly made headlines. Even Shin Changlio's first love, Subai, saw the photo abroad. Shin Changlu is mine. In a fit of anger, he cancelled his concert and decided to return to China immediately. Meanwhile, Shin Changlu was surrounded by reporters, who demanded his response to the news online. When he finally managed to return home, he saw Emoji Yang sitting on the floor, crying her eyes out, looking utterly pitiful. Seeing Shin Changlu return, Emoji Yang stepped forward with guilt and said, "I'm sorry. I didn't expect to be photographed by the paparazzi." "I'm sorry, I didn't expect to be photographed by T." Shin Changlu hugged Emoji Yang, comforting him by saying, "It's not your fault, the company will handle this matter." "Will it affect your career? Will the company freeze you?" Yang, why would you think that? I became famous because of my acting skills and works, and I even have an actor award. Exposing our relationship won't cause any impact, understand?" he said and gently wiped his tears. Comforted, Emoji Yang showed a sweet smile, and then Shin Changlio's phone rang. Answering the call, Shin Changlio's face changed drastically. He nervously told Emoji Yang that he had to go out. Emoji Yang obediently agreed, saying, "It's okay, Changlu, you go ahead." "Could you tolerate your boyfriend leaving you in the middle of the night to pick up Ziyuguang?" Shin Changlu left Emoji Yang in the middle of the night and rushed to the airport, just to pick up the Ziyuguang he had been longing for, Subai. The 8 years of distance made both of them feel that the other was different from before, inevitably making Shin Changlu think of the charmingly smiling Emoji Yang. Meanwhile, as soon as Shin Changlu left, Emoji Yang started smoking. The little system worriedly reminded, "Smoke less, be careful of lung cancer." Emoji Yang asked, "Isn't Subai arriving tonight?" Unfortunately, he came back too late. The system didn't understand. "Aren't you worried that Shin Changlu will return to Ziyuguang's embrace? Shin Changlu has already been trained by me to this point. His appearance now will not only fail to rekindle their past love, but it will also shatter the illusion Shin Changlu has of him. Only through destruction can we rebuild. If Su Zizi doesn't return, how can Shin Changlu realize his own heart? Do you think I really didn't know that someone was outside the window taking photos that night?" The atmosphere inside the car was silent and somewhat awkward. Su Zizi suddenly glanced at a small medicine bottle placed in the car. He picked it up and asked, "What is this?" Seeing the medicine bottle, Shin Changlu was reminded of Emoji Yang's previous instruction, "I've put some stomach medicine in your car. Remember to eat." Shin Changlu replied, "It's stomach medicine. I have a stomach condition." "When did you get it?" Shin Changlu sneered inwardly. "My stomach condition started 8 years ago after you left without a word, and I drown my sorrows in alcohol every day." However, he simply said, "It's nothing. Just something from the past few years." When they arrived at the hotel, Shin Changlu suggested Subai go upstairs to rest early. But Su Zizi held his hand and said softly, "Let me stay at your place, Chanlu. After all, it's been so long since we've seen each other. I want to catch up and talk more." Chanlu looked troubled because Emoji Yang was still at his house. Su Zizi pressed on, "Aren't you welcoming? Or is there someone at your place that makes it inconvenient for me?" Under Su Zizi's persistence, he agreed. However, Emoji Yang was unexpectedly not at home. Had he gone out? Chanlu was thinking about how to explain to Emoji Yang when he returned. Suddenly, Su Zizi leaped forward, hugging his neck, and said, "I came back because I want to be with you." Coincidentally, the door behind them clicked open. Emoji Yang, carrying vegetables, watched the two intimately embracing. This was awkward. Chanlu still hadn't realized his own feelings. Let's wait and see at the chasing wife funeral. What would you do if you saw your boyfriend hugging a rival? Emoji Yang witnessed this scene. He silently put the things in his hands on the ground, turned around and left, even thoughtfully closing the door behind him. The two watched Emoji Yang's departing figure, each lost in their own thoughts. Chanlu picked up the things from the ground, feeling heavy-hearted. Subai looked at the vegetables in the bag and said, "Chanlu, so you can cook?" While saying this, he reached out and wrapped his arms around Chanlu's neck. "I want to eat the food you cook, okay?" Remembering that it was always Yan Yang who cooked for him, Chanlu turned around and said, "I can't cook." Hearing this, Subai persisted and hugged him, "Then let's order takeout. I want sour fish soup." Chanlu, who had a stomach ailment, refused, saying he didn't want to eat. Subai suddenly got angry and insisted on eating, taking Chanlu's phone without care to order takeout. Meanwhile, Emoji Yang, who had just left, let himself go the moment he stepped outside, exclaiming, "Go! I'm going to eat fried chicken and Mao blood hot pot. Why should he eat plain congee and light dishes with them?" He was dying of cravings, but the system teased him, "Are you that greedy? Not even saying goodbye." The people regard food as their primary need, so eating is important. As for Chanlu, let him fend for himself with Su Zi. At this moment, Chanlu indeed felt uncomfortable. For dinner, Su Zi only ordered a large portion of spicy fish with pickled vegetables. He kept saying it was delicious while serving it to him, even though he knew I had a stomach ailment, yet still ordered such a spicy dish. This made Chanlu involuntarily think of Mo Ziyang. If Yan Yang were here, he certainly wouldn't let him eat this and would even cook some stomach-soothing porridge. Chanlu couldn't understand why his heart hurt so much for Mo Ziyang, who was merely a substitute. The more he thought about it, the more it pained him. Chanlu couldn't eat and said he had to get up early for a schedule tomorrow. Then he went back to his room to rest. Chanlu lay on the bed, and after a while, he curled up in pain from his stomachache. The pain was so intense that he suddenly remembered Mo Ziyang had said he left some stomach medicine in his bedside cabinet. He endured the pain and opened the cabinet. Sure enough, he found the stomach medicine inside. People are most vulnerable when they are sick. At this moment, Chanlu felt deep guilt and remorse for not cherishing him before. Looking at the phone beside him, Chanlu thought of calling Emoji Yang. At this moment, Emoji Yang was indulging in food and drink, carefree. The system asked him worriedly, "Do you really plan to ignore Chanlu? What if they rekindle their old love in the middle of the night?" Emoji Yang was not worried at all. "It would be strange if they could. Chanlu has long been used to my meticulous care. Subai has always been self-righteous, thinking highly of himself. With me for comparison, Chanlu definitely couldn't stand him. I'm like strawberry flavor. Why would Chanlu want to drink bitter water after tasting strawberry?" Hearing this, even the system admired him. Even so, the system still didn't believe that Chanlu would return to Emoji Yang's side. Emoji Yang took a puff of his cigarette and said, "What I'm not short of is patience. As long as I throw the bait, the prey will bite one day." Before he could finish speaking, Chanlu's call came through. Just overnight, the prey was hooked. Chanlu asked to meet Emoji Yang at the cafe. At this moment, Emoji Yang appeared dejected. Seeing the person in front of him, Chanlu felt as if it had been a long time since they last met, even though it was only a day. Seeing Chanlu pick up the coffee, Emoji Yang habitually said, "Your stomach is not good, you shouldn't drink black coffee. Drink hot cocoa instead." Then, as if suddenly realizing he misspoke, he quickly apologized, "I'm sorry, I shouldn't meddle." Holding the coffee, Chanlu was stunned and said with some heartache, "The person who should say sorry is me. I'm actually aware that all this happiness I've stolen, sooner or later, I have to return it to Mr. Su." Hearing this, Chanlu quickly stood up and took his hand. "No, Emoji Yang did not give him a chance to speak and pulled his hand away. Rest assured, I won't tell Mr. Su about this. If there's nothing else, I'll leave now. Thank you, Changlu. I don't regret a single day spent with you. With tears in her eyes, Mo Jiang turned and left, looking like a pitiful and delicate lotus. Watching Mo Jiang's departing figure, Shin Changlu was puzzled. He was with Mo because he looked like Su Bai, but he couldn't understand why he was reluctant to see him leave. On the way back, Mo Jiang ate stinky tofu leisurely, complaining to the small system. I thought it would take a few days for him to come find me. Ha, it seems Su Bai is really awful. The system was speechless, thinking it might be the first system to be stung to death. How many more days do you want to eat stinky tofu before you're satisfied? What do you know? It won't be long before I return to Shin Changlio's side. Let me get my fill first. Since parting with Mo Jiang, Shin Changlu had not returned home. He was miserable, despite having the person he liked since childhood at home, yet he couldn't find joy. Isn't this the result he wanted? Suddenly, his phone rang. Shin Changlu eagerly answered, thinking it was Mo Jiang, but instead, he heard Su complaining, asking when he would come home. Coming home in the evening, he saw Su Bai looking unhappy. Shin Changlu, holding back his temper, asked, "What's wrong? Are you feeling unwell?" Su Bai asked accusingly if he had been very busy these days, not even returning home. Shin Changlu bypassed him, saying he was indeed very busy, a bit tired, and needed to shower. Suddenly, Su held him and said, "I know it's been hard on you all these years alone. We can be together now, like we used to. For example, doing what both you and I like." Shin Changlu looks displeased and suddenly pushes the person in his arms away, saying it's not right for Su to do this. If it wasn't for someone you like wanting to be close to you, would you welcome them? Just as Shin Changlu gets home, Su Bai rushes over to hug him, wanting to be close, but Shin Changlu pushes him away, saying it's not right. "I ask you, have you ever liked me?" Without thinking, Su Bai blurts out, I. Before he could finish, Shin Changlu interrupts, "Then what do I like to eat? What do I like to do?" Su Bai is stunned, he doesn't know any of these. Shin Changlu, however, presses on, venting as he lists Su Bai's preferences and his own meticulous care for him, expressing his dissatisfaction. "I've been good to you for 7 whole years, but after you graduated, you left me without a word and went abroad." Su anxiously says, "Changlu, it's not like that, I can explain." Then suddenly thinking of something, his eyes harden, and he questions whether Shin Changlu is upset because of something little is said. Hearing this, Shin Changlu can't hold back anymore, angrily pushes him against the wall, and roars, "What a joke! All these years, you've never responded to my affection. It's all just my unrequited love. What does little s have to do with it?" Su Bai instinctively retorts, "But that was your choice, what does it have to do with me?" Upon hearing this, Shin Changlu suddenly finds this person hopelessly selfish, laughingly realizing how madly in love he was with him before, then coldly says, "I don't love you anymore, let's leave it at that. From today on, I won't allow you to say a bad word about Mo Jiang." After saying this, he was about to leave but Su Bai was not happy. She stepped forward and grabbed his hand. "Where are you going? Are you going to see him? What's so good about him? You should know it yourself. You're only with him because he resembles me." Hearing this, Shin Changlu got even angrier and unceremoniously shook off Su Bai's hand. "It used to be, but not anymore. Su Bai, we are completely over." Su Bai, left standing there, was frightened by Shin Changlio's serious tone, thinking it must be that guy's fault that she was humiliated and pushed away by Shin Changlu. Early in the morning, Mo Jiang was pondering what to have for breakfast when the system beside him said, "Host, stop thinking about what to eat. Shin Changlu has been squatting at your doorstep for most of the night. Aren't you going to open the door?" Mo Jiang didn't care. He had no classes today and was determined to make him squat a bit longer. "After making me endure bland meals for so long, how can I not torment him a little?" Pitiful Shin Changlu was forced to squat for another 3 hours. When Mo Jiang finally opened the door and saw Shin Changlu, he also put on a shocked expression very cooperatively. Then, he immediately closed the door. The chase for his wife turned into a funeral pyre. Shin Changlu wanted to make amends but was refused entry. But after all, it was the person he loved. How could Mo Jiang bear to be too cruel? He gently opened a crack in the door. Shin Changlu seized the moment, dove in, and pinned Mo Jiang down. This left Mo Jiang, who was just about to put on his Oscar-worthy performance, completely baffled. Why isn't this guy playing by the rules? Shouldn't I be the one to cry and act pitiful first? Since that's how it's going to be, he didn't hold back either. He turned and grabbed her neck, welcoming the storm of passion, and then shifted the battlefield. Emoji Yang smiled bitterly and said this was the last time. Shin Chanlu, already clear about his feelings, looked deeply at the person beneath him and said, "This is not the last time. I want to be with you in this life and the next." Hearing this, Emoji Yang propped himself up and kissed him passionately, which made Shin Chanliu's actions become rougher out of excitement. He ripped the other person's clothes directly. "My pajamas," he cried, "but this feeling is so intense." At the crucial moment, Shin Changlu started talking about his own shortcomings. Emoji Yang pouted in dissatisfaction, internally complaining, "This man is so long-winded. Why talk so much when you're doing it?" Unable to stand it, Emoji Yang flipped Shin Chanlu over and took control, diligently plowing the field. Afterwards, enjoying a cigarette in bliss, Emoji Yang, smoking, said to Shin Chanlu, "You should go back." Shin Chanlu, utterly incredulous, asked, "What heartless little thing are you? Where do you expect me to go? Mr. Su must still be at home waiting for you to return. Today is the last time for Z. In a couple of days, I will resign from school and leave this place. Rest assured, I won't mention our affairs to anyone. Let's pretend we don't know each other." After saying this, Mo Ziang got up to leave, but Shin Chanlu wanted to explain and reached out to hold him back. "No, I came to tell you." Before he could finish, Mo Ziang, displaying an "I'm not listening" attitude, shook off his hand and said in tears, "I am human too, I have feelings. You treat me like a stand-in. I love you so I endure. But do you see me as a person?" In a panic, Shin Changlu hugged him tight, desperately explaining, "You're not just some stand-in, I can't live without you, but you have Mr. Su, you don't need me." Just then, Mo Ziang realized he accidentally pressed his cigarette onto Shin Chanliu's elbow. Anxiously, Mo Ziang asked if it hurt. He immediately hurried to get a first aid kit. Seeing his concern, Shin Chanlu knew he still cared and took the opportunity to explain his past with Su as Mo Ziang was treating his wounds. Since ancient times, how many stand-ins have outshined the old love? In an attempt to win Mo Ziang back, the movie star feigned pity to garner sympathy while Mo Ziang was treating his wound. While Emoji Yang was disinfecting his wound, Shin Chanlu explained that he fell in love with Su Zi at first sight back in his first year of high school and even had a falling out with his family over him. "I was young and thought that was love, but it turned out I was just looking for an excuse for my rebellion." Shin Chanlu held Emoji Yang's hand as he continued, "But ever since I met you, everything has changed. I really don't know how I would live without you." He pressed Emoji Yang's hand against his face, his eyes filled with sincerity and love. "So, Yang, let's make up, okay?" Emoji Yang was speechless, sighing inwardly, "He's really something." As expected of the best actor, only I can handle this kind of pitiful act. Having played his own part sufficiently, Emoji Yang wiped the corner of his eye and asked, "What about Mr. Su then?" Shin Chanlu said softly, "I will talk to him clearly. If you don't want to see him, I won't let him appear again." Hearing this, Emoji Yang couldn't help but sigh. "You're really something, Shin Chanlu. Devoted when you love, cold as ice when you don't." Of course, the image of a pure and innocent lotus flower couldn't be tarnished. So Emoji Yang said to Shin Chanlu, "There's no need to go that far." Shin Chanlu excitedly pulled Emoji Yang into his arms. Yang, you are so cute, I love you so much. Let's go home." And so, Shin Changlu took Emoji Yang back to his villa. To their surprise, when they opened the door, they found Su Zi was still there. Shin Changlu questioned, "Why are you still here?" Su Zi was even angrier and more unwilling to accept the situation. "Is this how you humiliate me? 15 years of relationship, you can just end it like that?" The innocent and fragile Su Zi immediately put on a scared expression and hid behind Shin Changlu. Shin Changlu quickly comforted him, "It's impossible between us, Yang." Su Zi, trembling with anger, suddenly pulled Emoji Yang out. "Emoji Yang, what makes you better than me? I'm smarter and better looking than you. You're just my stand-in. Look at yourself in the mirror. Do you think you're worthy?" Emoji Yang's tears came instantly. He said with a sob, "Mr. Su was right. I'm really not worthy of Shanlu." Shin Changlu rushed over and grabbed Su Zi's hand forcefully. He said angrily, "Shut up. I'm warning you to get out of my house now, or I don't know what will happen." Su Zi pointed at Shin Changlu and said to Emoji Yang, "He can treat me like this now. He will treat you the same way when he meets another person who looks like you. I advise you not to be too complacent. Just wait and see." After saying that, he slammed the door and left. Emoji Yang turned to Shin Changlu and asked, "Will you, Changlu?" Shin Changlu, of course, said that he would only love him in this life. Hearing this, Emoji Yang felt depressed and retorted, "Didn't you also tell me that you only loved Subai?" Hearing this, Shin Changlu felt very guilty. He was such a jerk before. He immediately leaned over and hugged him tightly. Yang Yang, I hope you can give me a chance. I'll prove my loyalty with the rest of my life, okay? Emoji Yang, who was being held, showed his usual smile. Don't talk about this life, Shinchanlu. I will let you only have me in your heart in the next life. How could the dignified best actor be such a person? Ever since best actor Shinchanlu succeeded in winning his wife back, he had become a clingy person. He wanted to be with Emoji Yang all the time. When he woke up and found that there was no one beside his pillow, he was so scared that he immediately got up. Then he remembered that Emoji Yang had gone to make him breakfast, and his worried heart finally relaxed. Finding that the wound on his arm had healed well, he narrowed his eyes, a dangerous glint in them. Then, without hesitation, he reached out and squeezed the healed wound, causing it to bleed. At this time, Emoji Yang was happily cooking porridge in the kitchen. He was startled by Shinchanlu suddenly hugging him. Changlu, what's wrong? Shinchanlu took a deep breath and said in a low voice, nothing. You smell so good. The little system couldn't bear to watch their mushy behavior. Emoji Yang blushed and glanced at him, his peach blossom eyes alluring. I've made breakfast. Finish it and hurry to the set. Shinchanlu didn't listen, his hand slowly stroking Emoji Yang's waist. He said affectionately, Yang Yang, only I can see you like this. Emoji Yang looked at him with hazy eyes, intoxicated, but also wanted him to stop fooling around. As a result, he accidentally touched the blood flowing from Shinchanlu's wound. Emoji Yang quickly turned to get Shinchanlu medicine, muttering, it's been so many days, why hasn't the wound healed yet? That shameless Shinchanlu claimed his wound was too deep to heal anytime soon. He then asked Emoji Yang to bring him lunch. Emoji Yang couldn't help but complain inwardly, bring him lunch? He sure knows how to enjoy himself. Seeing that Emoji Yang didn't answer, Shinchanlu put on a pitiful look. He was acting cute, which made it hard to believe he was the dominant one in bed. So at noon, Emoji Yang arrived at Shinchanlu's filming set with lunch. As he was about to look for Shinchanlu, a woman stopped him. She had an arrogant look and spoke unkindly, no outside food deliveries allowed here. Don't you know the rules? Emoji Yang wanted to explain, but seeing Shinchanlu not far away, he decided to play the innocent role. I'm not delivering food. Changlu asked me. Before he could finish, the woman interrupted him. Changlu is not someone you can call so casually. There are so many people trying to sneak in under the guise of food delivery every day. Get him out of here before the gossip bloggers get wind of this. The assistant next to her pointed at Emoji Yang, urging him to leave. Seeing that Emoji Yang didn't move, she reached out and shoved him. Standing at the edge of the stairs, Emoji Yang was pushed backward and almost fell. Shinchanlu had just caught a glimpse of Emoji Yang being stopped, and immediately dropped his script and ran out. Shinchanlu ran out just in time to see Emoji Yang being pushed. He rushed forward and caught Emoji Yang in his arms. Yang Yang, are you alright? Don't be afraid, I'm here. Emoji Yang leaned against Shinchanlu's chest, looking weak and scared. In reality, he was secretly laughing in his mind, thinking, trying to mess with me. The two women next to them awkwardly wanted to apologize, but Shinchanlu, with a displeased look on his face, said, Miss Xiao, you'd better behave yourself in the future. He didn't give them a chance to apologize and turned away. The two brazenly hugged each other and went upstairs, ignoring the outside world's discussion. At this time, Emoji Yang was nothing like the innocent little white flower he was just now. His eyes flashed with shrewdness. A real white lotus flower doesn't need to do it herself. After all, white lotus flowers are spotlessly clean. On this day, Shinchanlu came to pick Emoji Yang up from work. After sending off the last two students, Emoji Yang saw Shinchanlu and asked in puzzlement, why did you come upstairs? Shinchanlu stepped forward and took Emoji Yang's hand. I couldn't wait to see you. Emoji Yang blushed and rebuked him coquettishly, you really? What if someone sees us? Hearing this, Shinchanlu became jealous. You don't want others to see us together? Emoji Yang quickly appeased him, it's okay for an ordinary person like me, but it wouldn't be good if the paparazzi took pictures of you. Seeing the male colleague who was close to Emoji Yang before appear, Shinchanlu immediately threw himself into Emoji Yang's arms and said, I don't care. Yang Yang, you're so good. He didn't forget to raise his eyebrows provocatively at the approaching male colleague. The male colleague was dumbfounded. What did I do to deserve this? He was so frightened that he turned around and fled in panic. That night, Emoji Yang was leisurely lying on the bed listening to music. Shinchanlu walked over and said, Yang Yang, I got water in my ear. Can you help me? Emoji Yang swallowed hard. His naive body was really not bad. Then he turned around to find a cotton swab for him and casually said, "How did you manage before? Did Susie help you?" After saying that, Emoji Yang realized he had misspoken. He originally wanted to make a sarcastic comment but couldn't stop himself in time. Shin Changlu thought he still minded about the previous incident with Susie, causing his heart to ache and his face to turn pale. Seeing his reaction, Emoji Yang thought the situation had turned serious. He deliberately pretended to be angry and pouted, "Yes, I mind, so why haven't you kissed me yet?" This made Shin Changlu laugh. "Yang, you are really cute. I chased Subai for 15 years and never even held hands, let alone cleaned ears." Emoji Yang couldn't help but feel sorry for this guy in his heart. Emoji Yang continued to clean his ears while asking, "Who was that woman today? She was so fierce and even yelled at me." Shin Changlu, with his eyes closed enjoying the moment, said, "Don't worry, she won't yell at you anymore." Then Moji Yang asked if he had caused any trouble at work today. Shin Changlu said, "No, but you have caused me a lot of trouble in life." Emoji Yang didn't have time to ask what kind of trouble when Shin Changlu suddenly grabbed his hand and stood up. "You're too sweet, I can't leave you. Everything I do, I think of you." Then Shin Changlu pushed him down. Emoji Yang, unable to struggle free, whispered for mercy, reminding that he has an early class tomorrow. Shin Changlu compromised, "How about we do it twice?" Emoji Yang didn't dare to say no. Soon after, Emoji Yang was dragged away by Shin Changlu, starting a battle between the two men. "If your rival offers you 5 million to leave your partner, would you accept?" Su Ziyue meets Emoji Yang. He said arrogantly, "I hope you can leave Changlu of your own accord." Emoji Yang and his mini-system quietly mocked, "The Su Yueguang isn't very smart." Maintaining his innocent facade, Emoji Yang lowered his head, "But Changlu loves me, and I love him too. I don't want to leave him." Subai laughed, "There's no eternal love in this world, only eternal interests." A classic scene of a domineering CEO novel. Su Ziyue took out a card and pushed it towards Emoji Yang. "Here's 5 million. Leave Shin Changlu. How about that?" Emoji Yang shook his head, nearly in tears. "You've misunderstood, Mr. Su. I'm with Changlu because I love him, not for money." Yet, inside, he was tempted and somewhat moved. Su Ziyue wouldn't give up so easily, persuading, "With these 5 million, you can do whatever you want. Instead of waiting for him to grow tired of you, why not leave with dignity now? He hates me?" Emoji Yang doesn't believe it. The big swindler Su Zi persists, saying he loved me for 15 years and then just abandoned me. "You've only been for a few months, who knows, you might detest me by tomorrow." Emoji Yang is not someone so easily fooled. He firmly says no, Shin Changlu wouldn't do that. Then he expressed a lot about his unwavering love for Shin Changlu and pretended to be sad and ran away. Suzy, annoyed, said, "Really boring," then took a voice recorder out of his pocket. He didn't expect this guy to be so tight-lipped, not making a single mistake. Emoji Yang, who had run far away, scoffed, "Humph, a voice recorder is a trick I played with hundreds of years ago. How could you catch me off guard?" After returning home, Emoji Yang pretended to be distraught. Shin Changlu felt something was wrong and asked if he was feeling unwell. Emoji Yang only said he was tired and went to take a shower without explaining anything. Without an explanation, Shin Changlu was worried but didn't feel it was right to pry. He always felt something was wrong. At night, Emoji Yang went to bed without waiting for him. This made him even more certain there was a problem. He then went forward, hugged him, and asked if he was troubled. Emoji Yang didn't answer and pushed his hand away. Seeing Emoji Yang still unwilling to speak, he didn't insist and decided to go to sleep, planning to ask again tomorrow. Emoji Yang, who has never slept this early, is uncomfortably awake. Now all he can think about are hot and sour noodles, marinated hot pot, and sour fish. How long has it been since he last had spicy food? The little system is already too weak to ridicule. Enduring until 1 a.m., with the person beside him sound asleep, Emoji Yang gets unhappy. The saliva that was supposed to dribble from the corner of his mouth ends up at the corner of his eye as he starts to sob softly. "Why can you still sleep? Get up for me." Have you ever been angry while your husband is sound asleep next to you? Shin Changlu, who is sound asleep, is woken up by the intermittent sobs. Then he turns on the light and gets up, only to see Emoji Yang crying pitifully with tears streaming down his face. He hurries over to ask what's wrong with Yang. "Is it something I did wrong?" Seeing Emoji Yang just crying without answering, he then cups Emoji Yang's face and asks with emphasis, "Answer me, tell me what's wrong." Only when Emoji Yang feels it's about time does he say with grievance, "Mr. Su said you would despise me. You loved him for 15 years and said you'd abandon him, what's more for me who's only been a few months. After listening, Shinshanlu, full of guilt, hugs him into his arms to comfort him. Yang Yang, I won't leave you or despise you. I only ask that you don't leave me, okay? Emoji Yang, emotionally agitated and sobbing, says he indeed can't compare to Mr. Su, his hand also exerting force. At this moment, Shinshanlu sharply inhales, staring Emoji Yang. It was the place injured by the cigarette. Then he thinks it's not right. It's been so many days, why hasn't it healed? He wanted to grab the medicine box but was stopped by Shinshanlu grabbing his hand. Then Shinshanlu pours out his deep feelings. Yang Yang, in this life, I have no other wishes. As long as you care about me and are willing to be with me, I am very satisfied. Emoji Yang, fraught with insecurity, asks, then you really won't abandon me like Mr. Su said, right? Shinshanlu hugs him tightly into his arms. No, I love you too much to even think about it. In his heart, he bitterly thought, what did that damn Subai say to Yang Yang that made him so upset in the middle of the night? No wonder he's a high-class White Lotus. He easily made Shinshanlu hate the person he once loved. With the misunderstanding resolved, naturally, the two of them need to get closer to deepen their relationship. 10,000 words omitted here. The next day, Emoji Yang, supporting his old waist, sighed inwardly. Having to endure this dozens of times every week, this guy doesn't know how to hold back at all. Suddenly, someone hugged him from behind. Yang Yang, where are you going? It seems last night's battle was intense. Emoji Yang turned back and pecked the person behind him. I'll go make breakfast first, you sleep a bit more. Right after Emoji Yang left, Shinshanlu's phone received a message. He opened it and saw it was from Suzy, saying he had dirt on Emoji Yang and wanted to meet tonight at Taiha Hotel. Shinshanlu was just about to confront him, and now he came to him on his own. Just after seeing Shinshanlu off, Emoji Yang also received an invitation from Suzy to meet at Taiha Hotel, claiming to have something for him. Emoji Yang looked at his phone and commented to the small system, this guy is really stupid. This person is really stupid. The little system asked him if he's going and he should definitely go. What reason is there not to? After all, in the last life, it was Subai who spread rumors and forced the original owner into a desperate situation, leading to their death from illness. In this life, he is going to make Suzy pay the price he deserves. The drama is about to begin. Catching the old attacker in Zi Yueguang at the S meeting in the Taiha Hotel, how will you counterattack? Inside the Taiha Hotel, Suzy loosened his clothes. Stepped forward wanting to hug Shinshanlu while saying, it was all my fault before, can we start over, please? Shinshanlu dodged and looked impatient. Did you trick me into coming here just to talk such nonsense? I warn you, if you dare to bother me and Yang Yang again in the future, don't blame me for being merciless. Subai, unwilling to let go, questioned Shinshanlu, what is Emoji Yang to you? Why do you care about him so much? If not him, do you care about me? Then, without any mercy, he shook off Suzy's hand. Losing patience, Shinshanlu angrily said, Subai, just go back to where you came from. There's no possibility between us. He then prepared to leave. Subai sneered coldly, humph, you think you can run away that easily? Then, he used his last resort, rushing up to hug Shinshanlu. He was prepared to stubbornly cling on until Emoji Yang arrived and caught them in the act. It really is ask and you shall receive. The next second, Emoji Yang pushed open the door and saw the two of them in an embrace. The three of them had different thoughts. Shinshanlu, afraid that Emoji Yang would misunderstand, hurriedly shouted, Yang Yang, it's not what it looks like. Emoji Yang didn't give him a chance to explain and ran away with tears in his eyes. Now, Shinshanlu was in a panic and forcefully pushed Subai away to chase after. At this moment, Subai sneered in his heart. Misunderstanding is good. I will take back everything that belongs to me. In the rain, Shinshanlu caught up with Emoji Yang. He hugged him tightly. Yang Yang, don't go. Emoji Yang turned and forcefully shook off the person holding him. Crying, he shouted, Shinshanlu, haven't you had enough yet? Are you happy to see me make a fool of myself? Yes, I clung to you and took someone else's place, forcing you to only have secret meetings with Subai in the hotel. Emoji Yang spoke to himself, completely ignoring Shinshanlu's explanation. I shouldn't have come between you two. Forget it, Shinshanlu, I'm tired. The words forget it really triggered Shinshanlu. Shinshanlu couldn't imagine how he would live without him in the future. Completely exhausted, he collapsed to the ground and shouted, Yang Yang, it can't be over. This move shocked both Emoji Yang and the system. Is the male lead really going this far? Since he knelt down, he has to follow through. He hurriedly stepped forward to help him up. Taking the opportunity, Shinshanlu hugged him and explained the entire situation, even swearing on his life that if he lied, he would be struck by lightning. This is a common ploy used by men. Mo Jiang quickly covered his mouth. Stop talking nonsense. Seeing that Mo Jiang still cared about him, he knew he was forgiven. Then there was a touching rain scene. As a single dog, I feel so full, I'm going to get fat from this feeding. After spreading dog food in the rain, the two returned home for another round of desserts. Shinshanlu busied himself like a housemaid, showing concern and care, afraid that Mo Jiang might catch a cold from the rain. After Mo Jiang fell asleep, Shinshanlu went to the bathroom and punched the wall to vent his frustration. That damn Suzy not only set me up but also got Yang caught in the rain. However, Mo Jiang was in a great mood. He thought that Suzy must be too angry to sleep right now. Subai's attempt to sow discord not only failed but also strengthened their relationship. Before long, Suzy started causing trouble again. From the system, he learned that Subai had someone reveal the news of his and Shinshanliu's 15-year-long successful relationship. The system couldn't help but ridicule, he's really trying to kill himself, huh? Since Suzy still hasn't recognized the situation, I'll help him recognize it. He wants to take this opportunity to rightfully become Shinshanliu's partner. Shinshanlu returned home only to be hit with a pillow. Mo Jiang pretended to be pitiful and said, your 15-year love run with Suzy was successful, huh? How come you didn't die of exhaustion? Shinshanlu touched his head, not understanding, and said he didn't understand. Mo Jiang took out his phone to show him. Shinshanlu saw that the phone was full of gossip about him and Suzy, exclaiming, when did I fall in love with him? They are all talking nonsense. Mo Jiang said aggrievely, then why don't they make up stories about me and you? Shinshanlu quickly explained that it was all the media making things up. Why are you even jealous about this? Mo Jiang, unconvinced and looking sad, said, but they all say you and Suzy are a great match. Shinshanlu picked him up, tomorrow you'll come out with me. Let them see what a great match really looks like. The next day, both of them dressed up carefully. Holding hands, they went out and immediately turned heads. After a while, Mo Jiang, unable to resist his love for food, spotted ice cream. Dragging Shinshanlu, he wouldn't let go, acting coquettishly for a cone. Shinshanlu noticed that paparazzi were taking pictures. He then deliberately went forward and took a bite of Mo Jiang's ice cream, while Mo Jiang was still internally complaining. He ended up being fed a mouthful of strawberry-flavored ice cream, and Shinshanlu didn't forget to comment, really sweet. Sure enough, it didn't take long for the two of them to trend on social media. This news was indeed a blessing for countless fans. The little system even considerately broadcasted Mo Jiang's live reaction after seeing the hot search. Without a doubt, he must be fuming right now. With Mo Jiang's resourcefulness, he even made the movie emperor hold a press conference to announce his relationship officially and clarify that his rumors with Subai were false. I don't know why such news would break out, maybe because he and my partner look alike, which led to misunderstandings. He also hoped that everyone would stop speculating wildly, lest my lover forbids me from sleeping in the bed. Mo Jiang, seeing Shinshanlu say this at the conference, was so angry that he decided not to let him sleep in the bed tonight. Sure enough, by night, Shinshanlu was kicked out of the bed. He softly coaxed Mo Jiang not to be angry, saying, it's so late, just let me come up and sleep. Then Mo Jiang hit him with a pillow, didn't I say I wouldn't let you sleep in the bed? Then don't come up. Shinshanlu pitifully said he really was going to sleep on the floor. Mo Jiang turned over and ignored him. Sleep then, sleep, who's afraid of who? Shinshanlu also considerately turned off the light for him. But before long, Shinshanlu picked him up from the bed, scaring Mo Jiang to shout, what are you doing? Put me down quickly. However, Shinshanlu placed him on the floor mat and gently said, I am not sleeping on the bed, am I being obedient now? Then he hugged him tightly, Yang, you're not jealous now, right? As soon as Mo Jiang said this, he let him hold on to himself, but in his heart, he thought, Shinshanlu, you're the only one who hasn't realized it yet. Your heart is already mine. The next day, Mo Jiang said he was going to a teacher's birthday party in the evening and told Shinshanlu to handle dinner himself. Shinshanlu asked, is Teacher Chung going too? Mo Jiang kissed Shinshanlu and said, I don't know, he should be. If I come back too late, just go to bed first. Then he happily hummed a song and went out. He didn't see Shinshanliu's face suddenly change behind him. The party was very lively that evening. Mo Jiang used the excuse of having drunk too much and went outside to get some air. He was chatting with the small system in his mind. A dark figure appeared, startling Mo Jiang. It was Teacher Chang, who was worried about Mo Jiang and came down to find him. Teacher Chang was worried about Mo Jiang coming down alone to find him. Hearing a sound similar to a cat's meow, he went forward to check. Unexpectedly, he saw Emoji Yang being tormented relentlessly. I wonder if this is something Teacher Chang can watch without paying. Knowing that Teacher Chang was watching, Shin Shanglu became even more unrestrained and bit directly on Emoji Yang's bone. Emoji Yang, realizing someone was approaching, wanted to see who it was. Shin Shanglu then pinched his chin and said, "Focus, your eyes should only look at me." Having achieved his goal of asserting dominance, Shin Shanglu lazily prepared to leave with Emoji Yang. As he left, he didn't forget to look back provocatively at Teacher Chang, as if to challenge him, suggesting Teacher Chang was somewhat unlucky. Back at home, Emoji Yang looked at the bite marks on his neck and couldn't help but resent Shin Shanglu, calling him a real dog of a man. He then saw Shin Shanglu reading a script, mentioning they could take a break, and cryptically said that the significance of this award was different. They needed to wait until everything settled down before telling him. At this moment, Shin Shanglu's phone received a message. The little system was curious why the boss suddenly came to the concert today. It turns out that Emoji Yang felt bored and uncomfortable not causing some trouble. Upon hearing about the matter, the little system quickly checked Subai's location and, as expected, found Subai was also here. The little system couldn't help but complain that this master really excels in everything, always ranking first in causing trouble. As the concert was nearing its end, Emoji Yang received a message from Shin Shanglu saying it was raining outside and he would come to pick him up after the concert. This encounter with Subai was actually orchestrated by Emoji Yang. Subai pretentiously asked, "Mr. Su, do you need me to take you back?" Xiaobai must maintain his persona. He repeatedly stepped back indicating it wasn't necessary as someone would pick him up soon. Hearing this, Subai started a new performance, catching raindrops and appearing lost in memories, sharing his beautiful memories from university days with Shin Shanglu. Emoji Yang was speechless inside. This foolish Shin Shanglu, not knowing what he likes, no wonder he gets dumped. Soon, both of them saw Shin Shanglu's car arriving. What followed was a dramatic showdown between Bai Lian and Green Tea. Subai cheerfully squeezed Emoji Yang's shoulder saying, Yang, let's be good friends," hoping to leave a good impression on Shin Shanglu. However, Emoji Yang didn't play along and forcefully pushed the person twisting his shoulder, causing Subai to fall to the ground. After pushing, he appeared shocked and approached with concern, "Mr. Su, are you alright?" He pretended to reach out to help Subai up, but was rejected. Subai thought that now Shin Shanglu would definitely speak up for him. Emoji Yang, feeling guilty, apologized to Subai. Shin Shanglu pretended not to see Subai and instead covered Emoji Yang with his coat, asking if he was cold. Emoji Yang turned to Shin Shanglu to explain that it wasn't intentional. Shin Shanglu comforted him, saying it wasn't his fault. Then, with a look of disgust towards Subai, he said, "I saw that he suddenly hugged you and scared you, so you pushed him away. It's his own fault for being so jumpy, not yours." Then, tenderly holding Emoji Yang, they were about to go home, leaving Subai sitting on the ground embarrassed. Subai stood up slowly, not sure if he was angry or cold. He gritted his teeth, unable to understand why he wasn't as good as Emoji Yang. In the car, Emoji Yang kept feeling guilty about what had happened. Shin Shanglu reached out to unbuckle his seatbelt and said, "Even if it was intentional, so what? If you broke something, I'd pay for it. You shouldn't see Subai anymore, he might bully you." Then Shin Shanglu showered him with sweet talk and watched the girls outside the car. As the intimate sounds inside the car continued rhythmically, the little system thought, "I shouldn't be in the car, I should be under it." One day, Emoji Yang ran into his senior from university, Lu Liang, at the supermarket. Lu Liang had gone abroad for music studies right after graduation and didn't even live in this city. It was too much of a coincidence for him to suddenly show up and say hi. Something was definitely off. The two of them pretended to argue, and then the senior suggested treating Emoji Yang to a meal. Without hesitation, the beer lover Emoji Yang agreed. He wanted to see what kind of trick Lu Liangming was up to. At the hot pot restaurant, the senior enthusiastically chatted with Emoji Yang, asking if he remembered the club they joined together in college. Emoji Yang, focused only on eating, didn't care what kind of game Lu Liangming was playing. He would eat first and deal with it later. This was the self-discipline of a seasoned troublemaker. At that moment, Shin Shanglu called. With the system's reminder, Emoji Yang finally answered the call. On the phone, Shin Shanglu asked where he was and if he needed a ride. Emoji Yang, sensing the perfect opportunity to tease Shin Shanglu, pretended to drop his chopsticks. "Oh, I dropped it," he said. Lu Liangming, as expected, picked it up for him, saying, "Here, you can have mine." Of course, Shin Shanglu heard a man's voice over the phone. Jealousy from 1982 flared up. After hanging up, Emoji Yang thought to himself, "Since you've decided to get involved in the mess between me and Shin Shanglu, you better get ready for what's coming." After all, the last person who tried this, Miss Xiao, was completely blacklisted. Lu Liangming dropped Emoji Yang off at home, saying he had a great time and suggested meeting again. Mo Jiang sweetly agreed. Lu Liangming watched Mo Jiang enter his home with a sinister smile. Not only could he get a recommendation, but he could also play around with the little lover of the movie star. This deal was worth it. But really, who was playing whom? Back home, Mo Jiang saw that Shin Chanlu was in a bad mood. Sitting next to him, he asked, "What's wrong with Chanlu?" Shin Chanlu hugged him and said worriedly, "Next time you eat out, you have to tell me, you had me worried." Mo Jiang soothed him for a while, saying he would take a shower first because of the smell of life, then turned around with a mischievous smile. In the room, far from Shin Chanlu, he circled around, wondering who that man on the phone was and how to ask without upsetting Yang Yang. Shin Changliu's sharp ears picked up the sound of footsteps outside the room. Sure enough, it was Mo Jiang coming over after his shower, asking why he wasn't asleep yet. Shin Chanlu distractedly said he couldn't sleep and would watch TV for a while. Did everyone catch that highlight? Then, putting down the book, he dried Mo Jiang's hair and half-jokingly said, "If you want to eat hot pot again, call me. If you go alone and your bowl is taken away, you'll regret it." Mo Jiang couldn't help but reveal his intentions, saying, "I didn't go alone. I went with a senior from college who took good care of me." Hearing this, Shin Chanlu was both jealous and wished for a time machine so he could go back and protect Mo Jiang from the rain and wind. Mo Jiang expressed happiness at having him by his side now. He even confessed he had liked Shin Chanlu since junior high. Since junior high? Am I that old? To prove he was still young, Mo Jiang was dragged into. The system shook its head, saying, "Host, I can't help you with this." Shin Chanlu proved that he was indeed not old and still not satisfied, holding Mo Jiang with slightly reddened eyes and sniffling. Mo Jiang couldn't understand what he meant. After all the clinginess, there was no reason not to be happy. Shin Chanlu let go of him and asked sadly, "Would you despise me?" A tall guy over 1.8 meters looked pitifully. Mo Jiang comfortingly placed his hand on his face. "Despise you for being too handsome, too heavy, or despise your strength, Shin Chanlu?" I was so moved that I pounced on him. Let's not waste time being sad over these little things. Hearing this, Shin Chanlu gulped and blushed. Then Shin Chanlu proved once again that he is indeed still very young. But is it really appropriate not to draw the curtains? The next day, Mo Jiang woke up feeling extremely tired. The culprit, however, was full of energy and told Mo Jiang to drink more water, feeling sorry for his sore throat from all the shouting last night. Speaking of which, Mo Jiang got even angrier. He pulled the blanket over himself and said he wouldn't talk. Shin Chanlu knew he was upset and helped rub his waist. When Mo Jiang felt better, he pretended to remember something and said, "By the way, Yang Yang, didn't you say last night that you agreed to have dinner with Senior Lu? Do you have his contact information?" When Mo Jiang said he did, Shin Chanlu was very displeased. He casually said, "It's nothing. Can you make an appointment with him for dinner today?" But in his heart, he thought it's okay to have the contact information, he would just delete it later. In the evening, the film emperor dressed more formally than for an awards ceremony to go to the appointment. Mo Jiang, rubbing his head, thought it was really unnecessary for a casual dinner. Shin Chanlu, however, seriously said he couldn't embarrass Yang. But Mo Jiang feels quite embarrassed being surrounded and photographed like this. When the two men met, they were particularly jealous. Mo Jiang watched them quietly compete, which was really childish. He quickly passed them the menu to break it up, and while ordering, Senior Lu Shilu and Mo Jiang started talking about the old days when they also came here to eat stir-fried clams during college. Mo Shin Changlu watched the two chat happily in front of him. They shared memories that belonged to just the two of them, and Yang Yang was also very happy. Beef bone broth made Shin Changlu turn dark. It seems that this Lu Lianglin really did stay behind. The actor's eyes are sharp enough to make Mo Jiang notice his pretended stomach pain. When Mo Jiang inquired, he saw Lu Lianglin enduring as though nothing was wrong. It must be said, what the actor raises in a minute, he supports for 10 years, his eyes are indeed amazing. Mo Jiang couldn't understand what this sly man was up to. Shin Changlu saw Lu Lianglin showing favor to Mo Jiang, so he pretended to be in even more pain. "I am not in pain, am I?" Mo Jiang saw right through his act, but what could he do? He had to play along with his own man. Then, appearing weak, Shin Changlu leaned on Mo Jiang's shoulder, saying he just needed to rest a bit and insisted that his illness should not disrupt the meal with Senior Lu. Mo Jiang was exasperated, wondering when Shin Changlu became such a drama queen. The little system also joked, "It's really like the aroma of tea." Meanwhile, Senior Lu, observing Shin Changliu's act, began to doubt his capabilities. Believing Shin Chanlu was too weak, Lu decided to undermine him in front of Shin himself, expressing his regret for not having pursued Mo Jiang earlier. If looks could kill, Lu Lianglin would not know how many times he had died. The battle between the two men, without late-night snacks, had begun. When Liang Lin invited Mo Jiang to visit their alma mater together the next day, Xin Chanliu's eyes bulged, and he collapsed onto the table with a groan, acting as if he had severe stomach pain. Mo Jiang approached with concern, waking from the convincingly disguised pain. As Mo Jiang helped him up, he heard him burst into laughter. Mo Jiang was at a loss for words. The truth about this sly man had taken him by surprise. Since dinner was ruined, he took the opportunity to bid farewell to Senior Lu. Mo Jiang carefully helped the man into the car and was about to turn around when Xin Chanlu grabbed him. A handsome car owner, Mo Jiang, pretended to be naive. Aren't you having a stomachache? Thinking of you going out with him, it's not just my stomach that hurts, but my heart aches too. Mo Jiang struggled angrily, so you lied to me? Get up now. The result was his hands being seized in the dark. Looking like everyone was an enemy, Xin Chanlu explained, I'm just jealous seeing you two so close. Mo Jiang, feeling wronged, said there was nothing between her and her senior, accusing Xin Chanlu of unwarranted jealousy. Xin Chanlu, holding Mo Jiang's tightly clasped hand, sadly said, I believe you, but I'm just afraid you'll leave me. Then he grabbed Mo Jiang's hand and placed it on his heartbeat. Unable to respond to his flirting, Xiao Quan cleared her chest in displeasure, saying, I knew you were lying to me. Oof. Don't let it happen again, Bai Lian said, trying to end the matter. Mo Jiang wanted to get up and let Xin Changlu drive home, but Xin Changlu stopped her, pulling his tie and saying, Yang, let's trend on social media tomorrow, okay? Without waiting for Mo Jiang's consent, they started engaging in intimate activities in the car. Is Xin Changlu really this daring? With people coming and going outside, someone saw them. In the heat of the moment, Mo Jiang experienced what it felt like to be with a 32-year-old man again. Regretting her choices, Mo Jiang was left in tears and slept until the next day. When Mo Jiang woke up, he felt utterly despondent and then asked the system about the intimate photos it had previously made him post online. Xin Changlu checked but didn't hear back from the system. After he found out, he regretted it. After last night, he realized that Xin Changlu gets agitated easily. Bai Lianhua is valuable even in death, but surely not for being tormented by the subject of the mission. Meanwhile, Xin Changlu decided to attract attention for talks with political and economic figures. Although Xin Changliu's decision to attract attention was sudden, the agent had no choice but to let him go. After all, who dares to refuse the crown prince of the audit group, who can just quit any time? When Xin Changlu returned home, there was a gentle lifting and hugging. Holding the person in his arms, Xin Changlu cautiously asked, Yang, would you mind if I quit the entertainment industry? Mo Jiang cupped his face, then would you still be my Chanlu? Of course, no matter what, I will always be your Chanlu. Then it doesn't matter what you are, as long as you're my Chanlu. Do whatever you want, I will always be with you. Hearing this, Xin Changlu felt like he must have saved the galaxy in his past life. In this life, he met such a miraculous strawberry. After dinner, Xin Changlu mentioned that his movie would start shooting next week. Mo Jiang, who can only meet on weekends, looks reluctant to part but is thinking about leaving quickly in his heart. Xin Changlu, on the other hand, hopes Yang can follow him, but he also really likes his job. Thinking about only seeing him twice a week, he worries Yang might be lured away. If that's the case, it's better to clear out a mansion at home for shooting. It has to be said, Xin, the tycoon, is capricious with his wealth. Immediately, Xin Changlu tells Mo Jiang that he will discuss with the crew so they can meet every day. Mo Jiang, feeling guilty, says he also needs to go on a business trip, actually wanting to hide away for a few days because his waist can't take it anymore. Xin Changliu's expression gradually changes as he asks how many days he will be gone. Mo Jiang, the little manager, seeks help online from netizens on how to survive in the hands of a 32-year-old man. If Yang really can't handle it, he plans to put sedatives in the thermos. Mo Jiang then turns around and says probably about 3 days. Xin Chanlu is not having it and complains with a bunch of metaphors. He's so envious that your principal can go on a business trip with you. Mo Jiang, not to be outdone, fights back. I can't bear to leave you, but I can't make you unhappy either. Inside, I'm roaring, if I sit any longer, this old demon really won't survive. He snuggled up to Xin Chanliu's chest, acting coy, rubbing against him. I'm just going for 3 days, okay? Just 3 days. Green tea. Xin Chanlu gave in, alright, fine. I'll come pick you up in 3 days. Mo Ziyang was happy, finally feeling liberated. But, it's fair to say Mo Ziyang was celebrating way too early this time. With Xin Chanliu's increasingly possessive and dark tendencies, how could he easily let Mo Ziyang go? After work, a female colleague wanted to invite Mo Ziyang out for dinner. Mo Ziyang didn't want to get involved with Xin Changlu again. He declined, saying that his boyfriend would get jealous. That scared the woman into fleeing. Mo Ziyang, speechless, said, "It's not that serious, is it?" He took out his phone, wondering what Shen Changlu was doing. As soon as he walked through the door, he was startled by a sudden shadow. Shen Changlu had hidden in the room, planning to surprise Mo Ziyang. But with the lights off and the room pitch black, it ended up being more of a scare. Mo Ziyang, startled, threw a punch toward the shadow. Just as the punch landed, Shen Changlu quickly spoke up to stop him. "Yang Yang, it's me." He turned on the light, revealing Shen Changliu's pitiful, smiling face. Mo Ziyang scolded him, saying he deserved it, but still tended to his bruised area. Still annoyed, Mo Ziyang asked why he suddenly came over. Shen Changlu said his parents wanted to meet him. Mo Ziyang scoffed inwardly, thinking, "Yeah, right. You could have just told me that over the phone." With a worried look on his face, he said he wasn't ready yet. But Shen Changlu wasn't really here to discuss that. Pointing to his injury, Shen Changlu said, "It hurts. I need compensation." And of course, the compensation was exactly what you're thinking. Mo Ziyang, physically drained, couldn't escape, no matter how hard he tried. He hoped he'd live to see tomorrow. By the end of the night, his knees were sore and red. He had thought going on a business trip would be restful, but now he felt it would have been better to stay at home. At least the bed at home was softer on his knees. Then, the system asked him if he wanted to meet Shen Changliu's parents. Mo Ziyang immediately said yes. He was looking forward to a grand family drama. Something like, "Here, take this money and leave my son." The system was speechless, dumbfounded by his thoughts, and urged him not to overestimate himself. After Shen Changlu finished his bath, Mo Ziyang went over and said they'd meet his parents after his face healed. Shen Changlu touched his cheek and teased, "What, are you afraid my parents will think you beat me?" He then hugged him and reassured, "My parents are great. Don't worry." Mo Ziyang pretended to be nervous, saying he was just a little anxious. In truth, he was already eagerly anticipating the possibility of a billion-dollar family fortune. Shen Changlu held his hand and affectionately said, "Yang Yang, don't be nervous. I'm here for you, always." Mo Ziyang, moved, leaned against Shen Changliu's chest, thinking, "This is perfect. He doesn't want to work hard, and neither do I. Who wouldn't want a billionaire boyfriend?" Shen Changlu brought Mo Ziyang to meet his parents, and when he saw Shen's mother with a huge diamond ring, Mo Ziyang was certain there must be billions involved. Mo Ziyang was nervous, thinking that Shen's mother was about to hand him a card, following the classic rich family trope of paying him to leave. But instead, Shen's mother happily gave him a card, telling him to spend it as he liked. Mo Ziyang was in complete shock. Why isn't she following the script? Then, Shen's father gave him a villa. Mo Ziyang was overjoyed, regretting not having thought of getting into this business sooner. After the banquet ended, Mo Ziyang realized that Shen Changliu's family background wasn't simple. Upon learning that Shen Changliu was the heir to the Shen Group, Mo Ziyang felt he needed to start thinking more carefully. He pretended to be downcast and, once home, remained silent, lost in his thoughts. Shen Changlu approached, asking what was wrong. Mo Ziyang, changing the subject, replied, "The flowers outside are beautiful. You'll encounter even more beautiful flowers in the future," he said, gently touching Shen Changliu's cheek, then added, "I'm just tired and want to rest." Back in his room, the system asked if Mo Ziyang really cared about Shen Changliu's family. Mo Ziyang responded, "Of course not." The system was puzzled, asking, "Then what was that whole act about?" Mo Ziyang told it to figure it out on its own. The system was sweating, finding the situation too complicated to handle. A few days later, after work, Mo Ziyang ran into Lu Lianglin, who had come to bring him flowers. Lu Lianglin said he was going abroad in a few days and wanted to treat Mo Ziyang to dinner as a farewell. Mo Ziyang was about to refuse, but then saw Shen Changliu's car approaching from the corner of his eye. He sighed and thought, "Lu Lianglin, you're walking into this mess yourself, so don't blame me." In the end, Lu Lianglin handed over a box of flower crabs, and the two began chatting. In the car, Shen Changlu saw everything, his face showing displeasure. After leaving Lu Lianglin, Mo Ziyang took out his phone and messaged Subai. "The fish has taken the bait." Clearly, she had been bribed by Subai. When Shen Changlu got home, he found Mo Ziyang completely drunk. He rushed over, asking why he drank so much. Mo Ziyang, tipsy, smiled and suggested they break up. Hearing Mo Ziyang say break up, Shen Changliu's heart sank, and he desperately asked Mo Ziyang to admit it was just a joke. Mo Ziyang said, "Lu Xuezhang is right. You're the heir of the Shen Group, and I'm just a piano teacher. You'll see countless spring flowers in the future. I just want to grow old with the one I love, not be discarded by you later." Shen Changlu panicked, grabbing Mo Ziyang's hands, and pleaded, "Yang Yang, I'd give you my heart if I could. How could I abandon you? All these years, I've only felt truly alive when I met you." Mo Ziyang's tears fell as he tried to argue back. But Shin Shanlu immediately pulled him into a tight embrace, not giving him the chance to rebut. Yang Yang, I'm yours, only yours. Please don't ever say you want to break up again. I would die. Feeling Shin Shanliu's deepened commitment to their relationship, Mo Ziyang prepared to wrap things up. I'm sorry. I was just afraid you'd leave me. The system, watching the whole thing unfold, was utterly stunned. The system couldn't understand what Mo Ziyang was doing and rushed over to ask why he acted this way. Mo Ziyang mischievously winked and replied, I'm making sure that Shin Shanlu will never cheat on me. With his status now, there are too many temptations he'll have to face. I need to let him feel the pain of losing me before he falls in love with someone else. Shin Shanlu, surprised by his boldness, couldn't stop crying from laughing too hard. Shin Shanlu then said he had a way to fix this. Before Mo Ziyang could ask what the method was, Shin Shanlu dragged him to do some aerobic exercises. Mo Ziyang, exhausted, yelled out that he couldn't do it anymore. But Shin Shanlu wasn't done yet. He picked him up and whispered, then let's change locations. He then placed Mo Ziyang on the cold coffee table and teasingly said, you're not hiccuping anymore, right? Mo Ziyang was furious. No, I'm not hiccuping, but now I really want to punch this dog of a man. After their aerobic exercises, Mo Ziyang, exhausted, collapsed onto the bed, thankful to have survived. Shin Shanlu walked over, knowingly asked, what's wrong? Mo Ziyang angrily replied, I want to rip your dog head off, that's what. When rabbits are cornered. Shin Shanlu nodded, gently patting his head with a meaningful expression. Let me take care of it for you. Just tell him you're too busy to come. Mo Ziyang reluctantly agreed, thinking, Shin Shanlu, I've already served him up to you. You better seize the opportunity and make your move. The next morning, Mo Ziyang hadn't even woken up yet. While still dreaming, he smelled something strange and rushed to the kitchen. As expected, it was Shin Shanlu. Shin Shanlu awkwardly apologized, saying he was just trying to make porridge but almost burned down the kitchen. Mo Ziyang sighed, busy cleaning up the mess for him. Shin Shanlu followed him around with a pitiful look, then hugged Mo Ziyang and started acting coy, calling himself useless, unable to even handle something as simple as cooking. Mo Ziyang sarcastically responded, well, you sure know how to handle things in bed. Right then, his phone buzzed. After answering a call, Shin Shanlu said he had an urgent matter to attend to and told Mo Ziyang to stay home. Mo Ziyang knew Shin Shanlu was off to deal with Lu Lianglin. But oddly enough, by nightfall, Shin Shanlu still hadn't returned, and his phone couldn't be reached. The little system worried, could Lu Lianglin have overpowered Shin Shanlu? Mo Ziyang had full confidence 10 Lu Lianglins couldn't outmatch Shin Shanlu. Yet, around 10 p.m., he received a message that Shin Shanlu had been kidnapped, demanding 5 million yuan for his release. The system urged him to call the police immediately, fearing for Shin Shanliu's safety. But Mo Ziyang pondered, Lu Lianglin doesn't have power or status, how could he possibly capture Shin Shanlu? Unless, that bastard staged the whole thing himself. Realizing the truth, Mo Ziyang decided to confront them personally. After all, he was just a simple, naive flower. How could he stand by and let something happen to Shin Shanlu? When he arrived at the meeting spot, he saw 2 kidnappers holding Shin Shanlu, a gun pressed against his shoulder. Mo Ziyang's face turned pale as he begged, I'll give you the money, just don't hurt him. One of the kidnappers snatched the suitcase from him and angrily asked, did you call the police? Mo Ziyang frantically explained he hadn't and then asked Shin Shanlu, what's going on? Shin Shanlu, looking furious, said it was all Lu Lianglin's doing. Yeah right, you're the real lunatic, Mo Ziyang thought, though outwardly he showed a trembling, remorseful face, apologizing for not anticipating Lu Lianglin's actions. He then pleaded with the kidnappers to release Shin Shanlu. One of the kidnappers shouted, pointing the gun at him, shut up. Neither of you will leave here alive. Mo Ziyang feigned fear, crying out, Shanlu. Seizing the moment, Shin Shanlu suddenly grabbed the gun and pretended to hold one of the kidnappers hostage. In truth, Shin Shanlu had staged the whole kidnapping just to sever Mo Ziyang's ties with Lu Lianglin. In the warehouse, Shin Shanlu pretended to overpower the kidnappers and escape with Mo Ziyang. Shin Shanlu anxiously instructed Mo Ziyang to get the car, his acting so convincing that Mo Ziyang had no choice but to go along with it. Once Mo Ziyang had driven the car over, Shin Shanlu exchanged a glance with the kidnappers and in a well-rehearsed move, pushed the kidnappers aside. Then he quickly got into the car and drove off without leaving any trace of their performance. In the car, Mo Ziyang acted terrified, while Shin Shanlu hugged him, comforting him by saying everything was okay now and explaining that it had all been Lu Lianglin's plot. He planned to drug you at dinner and blackmail you. He didn't expect me to show up. I let my guard down and got knocked out. When I woke up, I saw you. Mo Ziyang, pretending to feel guilty, said, it's all my fault. I never imagined Lu Lianglin would do something like this. I got you involved. Shin Changlu reassured him, this isn't your fault. You never truly know someone's heart. Lu Lianglin's intentions were evil, he deserved it. Don't worry, I'll always protect you. Emoji Yang, leaning into Shin Chanliu's embrace, thought, heh, that story almost fooled me. Playing the innocent, Emoji Yang said, Chanlu, don't worry. I'll never trust anyone so easily again. With his mission accomplished, Shin Chanlu gently patted Emoji Yang's head. From now on, just stay by my side. Back home, after settling Emoji Yang into bed, Shin Chanlu watched him sleep, feeling deeply moved. He never expected Yang Yang to risk so much to save him. Shin Changliu's Yang Yang was truly the best treasure in the world. The next day, Shin Chanlu met with the kidnappers from the previous night. This time, it was Lu Lianglin who was tied up. Shin Changlu scolded his men for pointing a gun at Emoji Yang the previous night, saying, what if you'd really scared him? Bound and furious, Lu Lianglin shouted, what you're doing is illegal. Shin Changlu asked him if Su Bai had given him some benefit in exchange for trying to steal Emoji Yang away. Lu Lianglin refused to admit it and hastily said, I really like a Yang. Hearing this, Shin Changlu grabbed his hair and sneered, you? Like you even stand a chance. He then threatened coldly, I have many ways to make you disappear. You want to try? Completely terrified, Lu Lianglin immediately broke down, crying and begging for mercy. Shin Changlu, not wanting anyone to disrupt his relationship anymore, had his men arrange to send Lu Lianglin and Su Bai to Africa, far away. Yang Yang is mine and mine alone. You two can forget about returning to the country or getting anywhere near him again. No one will take him from me. After the kidnapping incident, Shin Changlu was completely won over, and the relationship between the two became even stronger. A year quickly passed. Mo Jiyang was watching fireworks while Shin Changlu, staring affectionately at him, accidentally blurted out, Yang Yang, let's get married. But the sound of fireworks drowned him out. Mo Jiyang asked, what did you just say? Shin Changlu, hugging him, replied, nothing. Thankfully, he hadn't heard it. Shin Changlu had been planning his retirement from the entertainment industry and was preparing to propose to Mo Jiyang. Finally, Shin Changlu won the Best Actor award, the last of his career. Right after receiving the award, he announced his retirement and publicly confessed his love for Mo Jiyang. Then, amidst a sea of flashing cameras, Shin Changlu walked toward Mo Jiyang, knelt down, and pulled out a ring from his pocket. In front of everyone, he proposed in a grand gesture. Meeting you brought color to my life. You are my one and only love. Mo Jiyang, will you marry me? The crowd cheered, say yes. Get married. At that moment, Mo Jiyang was truly moved. The system also excitedly urged him to say yes. Wiping his tears, Mo Jiyang smiled and accepted. Unable to hold back, he threw himself into Shin Chanliu's arms, giving him a passionate kiss in front of everyone. Shin Chanliu, trembling with excitement, shakily slipped the ring onto Mo Jiyang's finger and vowed to always be a loyal, loving husband. Their proposal quickly went viral, receiving blessings from countless netizens. Not long after, the two appeared at a church in wedding attire. In front of a priest, they officially became a married couple. Just as they were celebrating their union, the church doors burst open. Su Bai barged in, wearing a suit identical to Mo Jiyang's and looking strikingly similar to him, shouting, Shin Changlu, you can't be with him. Seeing Su Bai burst in, Shin Changlu was puzzled. Wasn't this guy sent to Africa? Why are you still here? Mo Jiyang reached out to cover Shin Changliu's eyes. Jealously said, don't look at him, I'll handle it. Shin Changlu was a bit worried. Mo Jiyang comforted him, saying, it's nothing, it's time to resolve it. Without giving Shin Changlu a chance to stop him, he forbade Chao Subai from leaving. Subai shouted unwillingly, why has everything changed? Shin Changlu was supposed to be mine. Mo Jiyang was not going to indulge him. You are selfish and take others' kindness for granted. You only see Shin Changlu as a backup plan, don't you? Subai immediately denied, no, I really like him. You are the one who doesn't deserve Shin Changlu. Mo Jiyang approached him and said softly, from the beginning, it was me who influenced Shin Changliu's thoughts. How could you still think I am the weak one in this relationship? When it comes to winning hearts, you'll never surpass me. Hearing this, Subai realized that the person in front of him was not as simple as he seemed. Grabbing Mo Jiyang's shoulder in anger, he questioned, how can you do this? But Mo Jiyang brushed him off, otherwise what? Is it better to watch Shin Changlu struggle in your lies? For 15 years, if you had truly loved him or cared even a little, you wouldn't have behaved this way. You only accepted his kindness without giving anything in return. Looks like I'm much better than you. With that, Mo Jiyang had people take Subai away. He then returned to the wedding with a sense of relief. Faced with Mo Jiang's wisdom, Subai finally understood that he was the foolish one. Refusing to give up, someone called out to Mo Jiang and asked, "Do you love Shinchanlu?" Hearing this, Mo Jiang stopped, turned back, and smiled triumphantly with an ambiguous reply, "What do you think? Do you guys think Mo Jiang has fallen in love with Shinchanlu?" After the wedding, Mo Jiang was smoking on the hotel rooftop when Shinchanlu came up from behind, hugged him, and said it was the happiest day of his life. Mo Jiang chuckled while smoking, looking irresistibly charming, which Shinchanlu really couldn't resist. The smoke spread, igniting a suggestive atmosphere. After the marriage, Shinchanlu faithfully kept his promise, not giving a glance to any temptations outside, which was rare. The sweet life after marriage was supposed to continue indefinitely, having lasted for years, but Mo Jiang's health deteriorated day by day. One morning, as Mo Jiang was washing his face, blood suddenly spilled from his eyes, shockingly. Mo Jiang, however, was not surprised. It turned out this illness was inherited from the original owner and the system had no way to help. Having no choice but to cope, Mo Jiang came out of the bathroom but couldn't hold on and fainted in Shinchanlu's arms. After talking with the doctor, Shinchanlu then learned that Mo Jiang indeed was in the late stages and didn't have many days left. Looking at Mo Jiang's frail face, Shinchanlu comforted himself by saying, "I checked, there's nothing wrong." Mo Jiang weakly said, "You don't have to hide it from me. I know my own body well." Shinchanlu, in utter despair, asked Mo Jiang, "Why didn't you tell me earlier? You clearly know I can't live without you." Watching Shinchanlu cry like a helpless child, Mo Jiang comforted him, "You should understand that life often does not go as planned. Changlu, stay with me for a bit more." Shinchanlu, in denial, insisted, "The doctor said you'll recover soon. I've bought lots of strawberries for you to enjoy when you come home. Spring is almost here, and we are supposed to go to Ireland together, where there are vast meadows," Shinchanlu said, while Mo Jiang just listened quietly. Until the system's voice echoed in his mind, mission completed, preparing to enter the next world. Mo Jiang, with his last bit of strength, sat up and gave Shinchanlu one final embrace. "Chanlu, see you in our next life." Shinchanlu ultimately couldn't keep Mo Jiang, and the empty house was left only with traces of Mo Jiang's existence to accompany him for the rest of his life. Meanwhile, Mo Jiang opened his eyes in a new realm with the system. Now, Mo Jiang found himself disguised as a minor royal in the imperial palace. The system informed Mo Jiang that the antagonist queen in this realm was a regenerist also tethered to an empress system. Queen Tang Wanwan's goal is to eliminate Qi Guanyin and ascend the throne herself. Meanwhile, Mo Jiang's mission is to protect the male lead Qi Guanyin and incidentally win his heart. In a realm where two systems appear, Mo Jiang was curious about which system had higher authority. The minor system confidently said, "Our authority is greater than his, he can't detect me. Moreover, my host, you are widely recognized as a top influencer. You will definitely fight the host of that empress system." Mo Jiang thought about how he barely completed the last task, and yet ended up forgetting his talent completely. He immediately stood up, declaring it didn't matter whether it was a villain or an empress, they all had to bow down. While saying this, Mo Jiang saw three people walking out of the palace. This must be Emperor Qi Guanyin, right? When Mo Jiang saw Qi Guanyin's face, he was shocked. Who could tell him why this male lead looks exactly like the scoundrel men of the world? Mo Jiang complained to the system, "Your system's main god really isn't paying attention anymore. How could they even use the same face for the male lead?" Mo Jiang had just transmigrated and saved the emperor from an assassination, but the emperor seemed to have taken a liking to him, which was just bizarre. At this moment, the reborn Empress Tang Wanwan was preparing to offer her self-made solitude soup to Qi Guanyin, but Qi Guanyin, deeply suspicious, didn't appreciate it. This empress, toiling away at midnight to offer him soup, must surely be plotting to poison him. Tang Wanwan, with an uneasy expression, explained that she merely wanted to help nourish his body. In the shadows, Mo Jiang was watching intently. This emperor is really too full of himself. No wonder Tang Wanwan dislikes you. Just then, an arrow suddenly shot towards the emperor. Fortunately, Mo Jiang noticed in time, quickly drew his bow and shot. He hit the assassin's arrow with a single shot, saving the emperor. This caused chaos in the courtyard. Qi Guanyin calmly picked up the arrow on the ground, marveling at the superb archery. Looking up, he saw a young man chasing the assassin. It was him who just saved the day. Mo Jiang, who was chasing the assassin, shot an arrow into the assassin's shoulder but deliberately let him escape into the empress's palace. The system was puzzled. "Boss, why did you let him go on purpose?" Mo Jiang replied with a mischievous look, "I'm giving myself a card to play. According to the plot, Tang Wanwan will save him. He will later become Tang Wanwan's assistant in overthrowing the emperor. But everything has its advantages. I shot his shoulder, and he won't recover in 2 months. During this time, He will be like a knife hanging over the Empress's head. When it falls, all depends on my mood. The system listened and stars appeared in its eyes. Boss, you're amazing. I just need to be a relaxed system. Suddenly, a loud shout almost scared it out of its wits. It turns out it was the commander who came to pass the message that His Majesty wants to see him. Every time, Emoji Yang would be brought before the Emperor and obediently kneel down. Accustomed to curiosity, he wondered what his person looked like. He asked Emoji Yang to lift his head to have a look. Emoji Yang. The day before yesterday, Shi Guanyin looked up with a smile. The moment he saw Emoji Yang's face, he was stunned. Why does this person give him a familiar feeling? Emoji Yang squinted his watery eyes and tilted his head in a charming manner. What's wrong, Your Majesty? Shi Guanyin quickly turned his head and coldly said, for protecting the Emperor, a reward of 100 taels of silver. After speaking, he left as if fleeing. Emoji Yang was stunned by the sudden fortune, thinking he had encountered the god of wealth. Why had it been so comfortable before? The commander was dumbfounded by Emoji Yang's silly demeanor, rubbing his head and telling him to go back and rest early. He stepped forward and said he would stay on duty tonight, as the Emperor had just survived an assassination attempt and he was a bit worried. On the other side, Shi Guanyin, who had just fallen asleep, was awakened by a nightmare. Unable to sleep, he walked to the window and thought of the special agent who had saved him. So he blew a whistle to see if he was around. Upon hearing the whistle, Emoji Yang immediately appeared in front of Shi Guanyin. Knowing that Emoji Yang had always been nearby, he felt much relieved. Then he asked Emoji Yang what his name was, and Emoji Yang smiled and replied, "My name is Emoji Yang, given by my master." Shi Guanyin heard his name and thought that even the child's name sounded so nice. But is he really as innocent as he looks? Lost in thought, Shi Guanyin reached out and leaned forward. Emoji Yang took the opportunity to obediently lean closer. Shi Guanyin suddenly snapped back to reality and instantly turned around to send Emoji Yang away. After Shi Guanyin left, Emoji Yang sat on the rooftop. The system beside him was criticizing him. "Boss, are you really not up to it this time? Shi Guanyin doesn't even want to touch you, unlike the previous NTC." Emoji Yang calmly ate his snacks and explained, "The dog emperor was betrayed in the past, so he's very cautious. We just need to maintain our persona and patiently wait for him to lower his guard. The prey will eventually take the bait. When the transmigrator and the reborn person face off for the first time, whose tactics will prevail?" According to the plot, Tang Wang indeed saved the assassin who tried to kill the emperor. The maid beside him tried to dissuade him, that assassin. But before she could finish, Tang Wang silenced her with a look. The Empress system was still reminding Tang Wang that he must assassinate Shi Guanyin within half a month, or he would face 30 seconds of electric punishment. This gave Tang Wang a headache. He had been in the palace for 5 years, and the emperor hadn't even looked at him. How was he supposed to get close enough to kill him? After feeling things out, he thought this person might be able to help him, but it indeed was not feasible to keep him here. Early the next morning, Emoji Yang appeared near Weiyang Palace, and indeed found that the assassin from last night was preparing to leave Weiyang Palace. Upon seeing this, Emoji Yang headed towards the inner court community. He forced the man back to the Empress's palace. He couldn't let him leave. Did he still want to see the drama of the Emperor discovering the Empress hiding an assassin? However, this scene was seen by the Empress, who was sending the assassin out of the palace. The Empress was furious. It was this man who repeatedly messed up her good plans, so she ordered her people to capture Emoji Yang. She arranged a charge of reckless behavior without discipline and ordered him to be dragged out and kneel. Kneeling on the ground, Emoji Yang was not at all flustered and even pretended to be innocent and ignorant, asking what the charge was. Tang Wanwan thought to herself, "This guy must be an idiot." Then, with a defiant face, she said it was a reward from her, and he would find out soon. Still not satisfied, she lifted her foot and stepped on Emoji Yang's hand. She pressed down hard and rolled it back and forth. The little system by the side watched in horror. The leak burned 3 sticks of incense for Old Heaven's treasure, Tang Wanwan. "Please don't die in front of me." At that moment, the commander realized Emoji Yang's predicament. Hastily stepped forward to intervene, saying that Emoji Yang was the emperor's guard and that others had no right to deal with him. Tang Wanwan, upon hearing he was the emperor's man, thought of the emperor's deep intentions and feared getting involved with fireflies. Thus, she carelessly said to release him and turned away. The commander looked at Emoji Yang's swollen hand with a heartache. This black-hearted queen had injured the child like this. Hurriedly took the child back to apply medicine. And Emoji Yang, with a scheming look, glanced at the commander. It seems the queen is in trouble. After nightfall, a whistle sounded. Emoji Yang hurriedly removed the bandages. Expressionless, he forcefully squeezed his wound to worsen the injury. Emoji Yang, with an innocent and harmless look, said it was a reward from the Empress. Qi Guanyin gently held Emoji Yang's hand and looked at it. You call this a reward? Emoji Yang still innocently nodded. Your Majesty, don't you like it? Saying this, he placed his hand on Qi Guanyin's hand, all the way up his arm. Unexpectedly, this move reminded Qi Guanyin of the scenes when he was abused by the Empress Dowager as a child, scaring him into angrily yelling, "Get lost," as he forcefully shook off Emoji Yang's hand. Emoji Yang was thrown to the ground in an instant, leaving both of them somewhat at a loss due to the sudden turn of events. Emoji Yang got up, dusting himself off, and repeatedly said it was okay, suggesting his hand had accidentally slipped under Qi Guanyin's arm. Knowing he had overreacted, Qi Guanyin told Emoji Yang to go back and not to bother. On the way back, Emoji Yang pondered if the boss's strategy had failed, wondering why it didn't go as planned. With a look of having everything under control, he thought, let's wait and see. How suffocating it must be to be the Empress. Not only did the Emperor prevent him from advancing, but even a hidden reprimand was met with retaliation from the Emperor. Qi Guanyin spent the whole day in the hall regretting his momentary loss of control when he pushed Emoji Yang the night before. He then ordered Gao Wufan to prepare the finest medicinal ointment and summoned Emoji Yang to apply the medicine, helping him up with concern. While asking if his wound still hurt, he unwrapped the bandage on Emoji Yang's hand. Emoji Yang did not miss the opportunity to have the Empress apply the medicine, saying the Empress's reward shouldn't hurt, yet his face showed an expression of unbearable pain. Qi Guanyin, looking at him, comforted, it will soon feel better after applying the medicine. After wrapping it up, Emoji Yang looked at Qi Guanyin with a face full of admiration. However, Qi Guanyin suddenly remembered that he almost forgot to deal with the Empress. He immediately ordered the guards to go to the palace. This is going to be an autumn reckoning. The Emperor suddenly passed away. Tang Wanwan finally had a chance to shine. Unexpectedly, Qi Guanyin immediately ordered the servants to serve the Empress a cup of tea. It looked like a cup of hot tea without tea leaves. Tang Wanwan reluctantly thanked him, picked up the scalding teacup and screamed. It was going to burn him to death. The Emperor even had Gao Wufan continue to pour hot water into the cup. The Empress was scalded badly but didn't dare to complain and bore it silently. After Tang Wanwan had been scalded enough, Qi Guanyin warned the Empress that whatever was given to her was a reward. After saying this, he led the crowd away, leaving Tang Wanwan with an angry expression. The Emperor actually humiliated her like this for a guard. It seems this guard must not be kept. On the other side, the system watched the real-time footage and lamented that the Empress was probably going to explode. Emoji Yang sighed helplessly, saying that he still had a big gift to give her. Yuan Guanyin came back and asked Emoji Yang why he was sitting on the ground. Emoji Yang explained that he didn't know where to sit, looking obedient like a child. Yuan Guanyin leaned in and asked softly, "What else do you do besides practicing archery?" Emoji Yang perfectly answered, "Protecting His Majesty. My master told me nothing else matters but protecting His Majesty." Yuan Guanyin puzzled by this response, Emoji Yang took Yuan Guanyin's hand and placed it on his own chest. "All my training in martial arts are for His Majesty." Emoji Yang's words were firm and sincere, stunning Yuan Guanyin. No one had ever spoken to him with such conviction. Yuan Guanyin was momentarily stunned and then quickly got up and asked Emoji Yang to leave. After Emoji Yang left the room, Yuan Guanyin called him back to take some medicine and reminded him to apply it. After leaving, the system directly said, "Host, your skills have regressed. I thought the Emperor would treat you like Xinchanglu, hugging and lifting you up. But he just let you go back like this." However, Emoji Yang asked the system to bet with him that within half a month, he would make the dog Emperor fall in love with him. If he lost, he would call the system the boss of a plane. Thinking about the possibility of dominating the host in terms of seniority, the system immediately agreed with a slap on its chest. That night, in the inner chambers of Weiyang Palace, a maid was applying medicine to Tang Wanyan, who, in pain, suddenly lashed out and knocked over the maid administering the medicine. This damned emperor, if she doesn't vent this fury, she can't quell the hatred in her heart. Then she turns to ask the maid for the things she had asked her to prepare earlier. Watching the maid hand over the disintegrating M-Soul, all she needs to do is to poison the emperor at the Mid-Autumn family banquet. Once the drug takes effect, she'll seize the opportunity to assassinate him, and her task will be complete. Meanwhile, Yuan Guanyin, who had already gone to bed, is having a bizarre dream. In the dream, it's something I can't cut out for everyone to imagine. Frightened, he wakes up instantly, lifts the quilt, and indeed, it's wet. He feels incredibly awkward, thinking, how could I have such thoughts about that child? Deeply suspicious, he feels certain that Emoji Yang must have cursed him. This emperor, misguided by medicine, neglects the 3,000 beauties of his harem, yet has a special affection for a mere shadow guard. In the blink of an eye, the Mid-Autumn family banquet arrives. A graceful dancer performs before Yuan Guanyin, who, however, shows little interest, thinking to himself that this singer's voice isn't as pleasing as that child's, nor is her figure as agile and eye-catching as his, like a dragon in flight. At this moment, the Empress appears on stage in an exotic dance costume, saying she wants to perform a song for Yuan Guanyin. With that, she begins her performance. It must be said, this Tang Wanwan is quite attractive. Yuan Guanyin is also mesmerized, but what he's thinking is that such a refreshingly cool red dress would look even better on that child. Tang Wanwan saw him staring intently, so she danced even harder. She couldn't help but think that indeed all men are visual creatures. After the dance, Tang Wanwan had someone bring out the seasoned wine she had prepared earlier. The added ingredient was the fainting and fever-inducing medicine she had ordered prepared beforehand. Yuan Guanyin gave Gao Wufan a meaningful glance. However, this drug could not be detected by the silver test. Hearing Gao Wufan say the wine was fine, Yuan Guanyin then relaxed and drank it all in one go. Seeing the emperor drink the seasoned wine, Tang Wanwan smirked triumphantly. Unexpectedly, after drinking, Yuan Guanyin said he was tired and wanted to go back to rest. Tang Wanwan quickly tried to dissuade him. If he left, the effects of the medicine on both of our bodies would be difficult to handle. Yuan Guanyin, growing impatient, asked her if there was anything else. Tang Wanwan knew that if she kept him any longer, the emperor would surely become suspicious, so she decisively bid Yuan Guanyin farewell. Back in his bedroom, Yuan Guanyin felt his heartbeat quicken. Not only was he dizzy, but his body was also getting hotter. Realizing something was wrong, he waved for Gao Wufan to leave. Then he got up, went to the door, and blew a whistle for the secret signal. Emoji Yang was comfortably enjoying the moon and eating mooncakes on the rooftop. Hearing the secret call, not by a big fire, this clumsy fairy calls while I'm eating, yet I have to appear in front of Yuan Guanyin promptly. After waiting for a while and seeing no response, I looked up and realized something was off with the emperor. Then I asked, Your Majesty, did you call me for something? Yuan Guanyin looked at Emoji Yang and softly said, Come here. Then, uncontrollably, he reached out and caressed Emoji Yang's face, slowly sliding down from the cheek. Emoji Yang's heartbeat accelerated, and he quickly grabbed his unruly hand, just about to suggest calling the imperial physician. But Yuan Guanyin pulled him into his arms and bit him lightly. Emoji Yang thought the pace was perhaps too fast. Was this man drunk? While he was stunned, Yuan Guanyin pinched his chin and asked, Do you like me? Emoji Yang absent-mindedly replied, I like. Before he could react, he was lifted off his feet. Emoji Yang struggled to get down. What's with this old man? What happened to being suspicious? Yuan Guanyin ignored Emoji Yang's struggles and instead bent down to bite his clothes, then took off the arrows from Emoji Yang's back. With no obstacles, everything fell into place. What follows are scenes I cannot disclose. Due to Yuan Guanyin's aggressive first wedding night, Emoji Yang spent the whole night begging for mercy. Poor Yang Bao, quickly tag your friends to replace him. This emperor is somewhat scummy. Last night he was still intimately close with Emoji Yang, and today he's giving away 100 taels of gold to send him away. Yuan Guanyin looked at Emoji Yang with an indifferent gaze and said, Yesterday was an accident. Do not disclose this matter to outsiders. The association will compensate you. Then, Emoji Yang was taken away by Gao Wufan. Meanwhile, the empress, who had also drunk the spiked wine, had a reaction after the emperor had left. By a twist of fate, she neutralized the drug with the help of an assassin she had secretly harbored. Upon learning that Emoji Yang had been with the emperor last night, she was so filled with hatred that she gnashed her teeth, feeling outmaneuvered. Thus, she devised a plan. She sent someone to deliver a letter to Emoji Yang, inviting him to meet in the imperial garden in the name of the emperor, planning to take the opportunity to frame Emoji Yang. Receiving the letter, Emoji Yang didn't believe it was written by the emperor. If the emperor had something to say, he could have summoned me as usual instead of leaving an ambiguous letter. The handwriting is sloppy and hesitant. I suspect this letter was written by Tang Wanwan impersonating the emperor. The little system asked worriedly, What should we do then? Could Tang Wanwan be trying to frame you? Emoji Yang was not afraid. This is a rare opportunity. It would be a waste not to go. The next day, Emoji Yang went to the imperial garden and indeed saw that the person who had invited him was the empress. He pretended to be unaware and looked around, asking why the emperor wasn't there. Tang Wanwan said the emperor had grown impatient and left. Then, she feigned a friendly gesture towards Emoji Yang. I misunderstood you before. I haven't had the chance to apologize to you. Emoji Yang, with an innocent look, said, I would be too happy to receive any favor from Her Majesty, why would I need to thank me? Tang Wanyan, seeing Emoji Yang playing dumb, then said she has been concerned about his injury and wanted to see if his hand had healed. While saying this, her hand also touched Emoji Yang's. Could you give me a chance to make it up to you? Emoji Yang, puzzled, watched as Tang Wanyan's hand continuously touched his own. What is this woman trying to do? He quickly withdrew his hand and stepped back cautiously. He quickly retracted his hand and stepped back warily. Your Majesty, I must go patrol now, please excuse me. Unexpectedly, Tang Wanwan grabbed his wrist and shouted, Don't pull me, this is harassment. Understanding her intent, Emoji Yang coldly laughed and shouted louder, Your Majesty, I am not pulling you. Let go of my sleeve. Then he forcefully shook her off. With too much force, the Empress was flung into the water. Struggling in the pool, she pretended to cry for help. Coincidentally, the Emperor was passing by. Tang Wanwan thought it was divine intervention and quickly reached out, calling for the Emperor to save her. Hearing the commotion, the Emperor instructed Gao Wufan to rescue her. Gao Wufan internally mocked, This pool isn't even a meter deep, how could the Empress be drowning? As soon as Tang Wanwan was pulled out, she cried and shouted, Your Majesty, you must seek justice for me. I came here to discuss something important, but he harassed me. When I didn't comply, he pushed me into the water. She then covered her face and cried. Watching Tang Wanwan's exaggerated performance, Emoji Yang was speechless. Yuan Guanyin turned and asked Emoji Yang if he had anything to say. Emoji Yang immediately stated that he was there on orders and did not cross any boundaries with the Empress. Upon hearing that he commander could testify since they came together, Tang Wanwan realized her plan had failed. Sure enough, he commander stepped out from the side and exposed the Empress's lie. After hearing the details of the incident, Yuan Guanyin was furious. Empress, your behavior is outrageous. You're grounded for 5 days and must copy the palace rules 100 times. You can't leave until you're done. After saying that, he turned towards Emoji Yang. As for you, I punish you with 2 days without meals. Any complaints? Emoji Yang felt miserable. Recently, he's been having strange dreams due to his strict wife. Could it be true that what you think about during the day, you dream about at night? Since Emoji Yang was punished with 2 days without food, he swore he'd never speak to the Emperor again even if he starves to death. But he quickly ate his words when faced with Yuan Guanyin's delicious food offerings. Emoji Yang soon forgot his vow from minutes ago. He thought, the world is big, but eating is bigger. While eating, he even invited the Emperor to join him. Yuan Guanyin said he wasn't hungry and just kept staring at Emoji Yang, thinking how someone could be so handsome. Emoji Yang felt a little embarrassed under the intense gaze and awkwardly explained the day's incident, saying it wasn't intentional. Yuan Guanyin said he understood. The palace is full of deceit and intrigue, and even those who don't want to compete get dragged into power struggles. Hearing this, Emoji Yang felt a bit sorry for him. So, with a smile, he stepped forward to comfort him and said, Now you have me, Your Majesty. I will protect you. Your Majesty will not be harmed in the future. Please trust me from now on. Seeing the Emperor reach out to touch his own face, Emoji Yang thought he must have been enchanted by his own sweet words. So he instinctively closed his eyes, pouted his lips, and waited for a kiss. But Yuan Guanyin just reached out to wipe the rice grains from the corner of his mouth. Emoji Yang guessed that Yuan Guanyin's feet were doing large-scale construction. Awkwardly, they both quickly turned around to ease the embarrassment. Yuan Guanyin blushed and said, It's late, go rest. Emoji Yang covered his mouth and quickly fled, his eyes full of disbelief. He had actually taken the initiative to ask for a kiss and failed. On the other side, Yuan Guanyin was also uncomfortable. That kid was too cute, he had really touched his heart, but he had to restrain himself. After the morning court, Yuan Guanyin wondered if Emoji Yang would participate in the autumn hunt. Since their awkward parting that night, he hadn't seen Emoji Yang again. Meanwhile, Tang Wanwan also thought that the autumn hunt was a rare opportunity. As long as she could get Chen Boyan to blend in, wouldn't there be a chance to assassinate Yuan Guanyin? So she immediately sought out Chen Boyan to conspire. The autumn hunt arrived in a flash. On the training ground, Yuan Guanyin seemed distracted. He thought of the dream he had last night. In the dream, Emoji Yang was incredibly sweet and charming. Thinking about how he couldn't control his impulses when he saw him, could it be that he was really falling for him? To win over the male protagonist, Emoji Yang also participated in the competition. Today, he planned to use a strategy to make Yuan Guanyin realize his own feelings. The first competition, subduing the tiger. Just from the name, you can tell it's dangerous. But he's not Wu Song. Emoji Yang blew catnip powder from the palm of his hand towards the ferocious tiger. If you told me this was catnip saying, I'd believe it. The big tiger, upon seeing Emoji Yang, immediately pounced towards him. Seeing the timing was right, Mo Jiang pretended to loudly cry for help. Seeing this perilous scene, Yuan Guanyin immediately panicked, without hesitation, jumped down from the stands. His follower Gao Wufan couldn't hold him back. Yuan Guanyin embraced Mo Jiang in his arms, dodging the attack. Then, worriedly, he asked if he was hurt. Mo Jiang, pretending to be terrified, burrowed into his embrace, weakly saying, "Your Majesty, I'm scared," yet thinking, this dog of a man, rushing over here and still daring to say he doesn't care about me? At this moment, a tiger's roar brought them back to reality. Turning their heads, lo and behold, the catnip took effect, and the ferocious tiger turned into a playful, rolling catnip sang. The two embraced, feeling somewhat awkward. Mo Jiang quickly tried to ease the tension by asking, "Your Majesty, how did you come down from the platform?" This question stumped Yuan Guanyin. He had actually lost control. How was he to explain this? While Mo Jiang was waiting for Yuan Guanyin to express his concern, an assassin sent by the empress suddenly appeared, aiming a sleeve arrow at the emperor. As the arrow whizzed through the air, Mo Jiang immediately pushed Yuan Guanyin away and blocked the arrow. Mo Jiang used his body to block the dark arrow aimed at Yuan Guanyin, risking his own safety to save him. He finally realized the importance of Mo Jiang to himself, hurriedly caught the falling Mo Jiang who was hit by the arrow, anxiously carrying Mo Jiang back to the palace for treatment, not forgetting to order his subordinates to capture the assassin. Mo Jiang was seriously injured and almost lost his life, which terrified the little system. Mo Jiang quickly comforted it, saying not to worry, everything was under control. If the emperor really died, wouldn't my mission fail too? Yet, he was puzzled as to why he instinctively wanted to protect him. Before he could figure it out, he fainted. Looking at Mo Jiang, who had risked his life to save him on the sickbed, Yuan Guanyin's inner defenses collapsed. It seems that Mo Jiang's conquest was imminent. Because Tang Wani intentionally misdirected the guards at the drill field. Ho Gao reported back, fearing that the assassin had already escaped. Yuan Guanyin, with a sharp gaze, said, "This is wrong. The assassin could move freely in the palace, there must be someone helping him." He then immediately ordered a thorough investigation of all suspects at the drill field from that day. After an unknown amount of time, Mo Jiang finally woke up. As soon as he turned around, he saw a big face, which almost scared him to an early death. It's one thing for the assassin's arrow not to take me out, but to be scared to death by the emperor's loyal dog face, that's something else. The noise also woke Yuan Guanyin up. Both of them sat up at the same time. Yuan Guanyin asked, "Does your wound still hurt?" Mo Jiang quickly got up and said, "It doesn't hurt anymore, Your Majesty." "Your Majesty, I need to go on patrol, so I'll take my leave now." As he tried to leave, Yuan Guanyin couldn't bear to let him go and held him back, insisting he stay until his wounds healed. Then, Yuan Guanyin personally fed Mo Jiang porridge, making him feel ecstatically pampered. While eating, Mo Jiang didn't forget to look at Yuan Guanyin and say, "Your Majesty, I want more." Yuan Guanyin's lips curved in an ambiguous smile, "More?" Mo Jiang nodded eagerly, indicating he wanted more, only to have his chin pinched, forcing him to look up. "Do you know that you shouldn't say such things carelessly?" After this, even the little system had to cover its eyes in embarrassment. Just when the two were about to deepen their conversation, Yuan Guanyin suddenly remembered Mo Jiang's injuries. Seeing Mo Jiang wincing in pain, he thought to stop, but Mo Jiang, clinging to him, insisted he wasn't in pain and refused to let him go. After such declarations, Yuan Guanyin could hardly refuse and promised Mo Jiang he wouldn't let it hurt. "The red candle flickers," said Yuan Guanyin, inviting those who wanted to see more to join the fan group. The shaking of the bed curtains suggested their conversation was quite enjoyable. Waking up in the early morning, Mo Jiang asked what their relationship was now. Yuan Guanyin, looking at him fondly, said, "I want you to stay by my side forever." "Would you like that?" Confused, Mo Jiang asked, "What about the empress?" Yuan Guanyin thought that since he had already found out about the Tang family's betrayal, Tang Wanyan definitely could not be kept, but it still needed to be handled carefully. Thus, he comforted Mo Jiang not to worry about her as he would take care of it. In the following days, Mo Jiang was tormented by the emperor in various ways. He once again fell into the fear of being controlled by Shinshan Lu. Since Mo Jiang recovered from his injuries, Yuan Guanyin had him undergo various training exercises every day. Mo Jiang felt that if this continued, his back wouldn't last much longer. The mini-system bluntly revealed the truth, "Isn't this trouble you brought on yourself?" Turns out Mo Jiang is both incompetent and provoking. Feeling the sting of those words, Mo Jiang glowered and twisted the mini-system's face. "You said you wanted to stroll around the mortal world, right? Let's go, let's go." The mini-system, twisted and mumbling, tried to say, "I think you're the one causing trouble here." After eating and drinking his fill, Mo Jiang enjoyed the breeze on the rooftop. He couldn't help but lament that everything in ancient times was good except for the lack of cigarettes. Later in the evening, he stealthily returned to the sleeping palace and after checking around, noticed Yuan Guanyin was not there. He breathed a sigh of relief, but the next second, he heard Yuan Guanyin's voice behind him asking where he had been. This scared Mo Jiang terribly. When had the emperor returned? Mo Jiang immediately stepped forward to explain, I was just out on patrol to protect your majesty, though in reality, he had sneaked off to the kitchen to steal food. Yuan Guanyin didn't want him to work so hard and told him he no longer needed to do these things and should just rest well in the sleeping palace. Pretending to be downcast, Mo Jiang asked, Did I do something to upset your majesty? Yuan Guanyin reached out his hand and asked him to come and sit beside him. Embracing the person, he said, I am not unhappy. As long as you are by my side, it's like protecting the alliance. Mo Jiang, to test the limits of Yuan Guanyin's tolerance and to prevent himself from going too far in the future, then asked, Since I'm here to protect you, why do you still keep a sword under your pillow? Yuan Guanyin didn't want to talk about it and merely said it was for self-defense, better left unmentioned. Mo Jiang thought this must be the emperor's psychological barrier. If I could dissolve his shadow, he would surely be thoroughly won over by me. Yuan Guanyin, who didn't want to mention that matter, wished to bring up something else. Reaching out to touch Mo Jiang's mouth, he leaned in and whispered softly, From now on, let Yang Yang protect the alliance. The atmosphere between them was intense. Just then, Gao Wufan came in with the dinner, stumbling upon this embarrassing scene. Gao Wufan quickly put down the meal, covered his eyes, and muttered look not upon impropriety, before scurrying away. Yuan Guanyin, in a good mood, teased Mo Jiang, then you protect the alliance by having dinner now. Hearing this, Mo Jiang thought, the emperor wants me to watch him eat. He was not pleased at all, and thus glared at Yuan Guanyin to express his dissatisfaction. Yuan Guanyin, in an appeasing manner, patted Mo Jiang's head with a brilliant smile, this kid is really too cute. Then, he asked Gao Wufan to add another pair of chopsticks. After eating and drinking their fill, Mo Jiang felt immensely happy. While Yuan Guanyin was wiping the corner of Mo Jiang's mouth, Gao Wufan delivered a document. Not wanting Mo Jiang to be too far from him, Yuan Guanyin let Mo Jiang stay and look at the document together. Mo Jiang looked at Yuan Guanyin's figure with resentment. Sure enough, there's no such thing as a free lunch. Making me accompany you to read memorials again. I'd rather go out on patrol. The small system suddenly popped out provocatively, Host Daddy, I think this big golden retriever is raising you like his own child. This made Mo Jiang so angry that he pummeled it. How come? How come? I'm the one raising you like a child. Shut your mouth. No matter what, you're at the bottom of the food chain. Despite his complaints, Mo Jiang obediently accompanied Yuan Guanyin reading memorials, which made him drowsy. When Yuan Guanyin asked if he was sleepy, he immediately woke up and said he wasn't. How could he be sleepy with the White Lotus secret manual and with you? Seeing Mo Jiang's drowsy and appetizing appearance, Yuan Guanyin picked him up and said, Let's not read anymore, let's rest. As soon as he was put down, Mo Jiang quickly rolled to the inner side of the bed. Unexpectedly, he didn't stop in time and almost hit his nose. Originally wanting to protect his waist, now his nose suffered first. Yuan Guanyin knowingly asked, Why did you roll inside? Mo Jiang, feeling guilty, pretended to be very sleepy and said he wanted to sleep. Yuan Guanyin wouldn't let him off so easily, grabbed his hand and said he was hungry. Facing Yuan Guanyin's predatory gaze, Mo Jiang tremblingly extended one finger. Seeing Yuan Guanyin unmoved, he weakly added another finger. Just twice, really no more. Yuan Guanyin reluctantly agreed. This night was destined to be extraordinary. While satisfying his hunger, Yuan Guanyin sighed, Yang Yang is truly fragrant, sweet, and soft. Gao Wufan, who was watching the whole scene, shook his head repeatedly and sighed, youth indeed. Accompanied by the conversation from inside the house, you said just twice, Your Majesty, you're lying. I never agreed to that. As their affection for each other grew day by day, Yuan Guanyin saw Mo Jiang eating and hugged him from behind, asking why he was eating such strongly flavored food again, secretly wondering if it meant sour for a boy, spicy for a girl. Mo Jiang looked up with a sweet smile and said, Because it's delicious. Seeing his mouth red and puffy from the spice, Yuan Guanyin was tempted and told him to eat less spicy food, then personally fed him some sugar water. Before the sugar water could be swallowed, Yuan Guanyin took the opportunity to block his mouth, cleaned it out thoroughly, and the initiator said with a satisfied face, It's really sweet. Food lover Mo Jiang wouldn't have it, exclaiming, How dare you steal my food? He had to steal it back, so Yuan Guanyin's mouth also got plundered. Tell me, can I really take it back like this? Mo Jiang pressed against Yuan Guanyin saying, Your Majesty, quickly get fans to like Simu, or I won't give you any food later. Yuan Guanyin, unable to move and looking indulgently at him, agreed, okay, I promise you, then poked Mo Jiang's waist and asked. Then he reached out and poked Mo Jiang's waist and asked, how come you are still so light at 19? Mo Jiang replied, I need to be lighter for my training, but he suspected that the big golden retriever disapproved of how much he ate. Could it be that his stingy nature was about to be revealed? At this moment, Yuan Guanyin, the big bad wolf, was daydreaming. It would be adorable to have a child like Yan Yang, but thinking about the possibility of being neglected if he had a child, he decided not to have one. Are you overthinking, henpecked husband? Yuan Guanyin snapped back to reality and pulled out a piece of paper. It was a letter to Mo Jiang. Yen Yan. The character Yen alone seems cold, but adding Yang makes it joyous. Yang Yang, you are my own warm sunshine. Hearing such sugary sweet words, Mo Jiang choked on his own saliva and coughed incessantly. Yuan Guanyin mistook it for him having eaten too much spicy food and hurting his throat, and ordered him not to eat spicy food starting tomorrow. Hearing that he wouldn't even be allowed to eat something spicy, Mo Jiang felt stifled and thought this dog emperor had grown weary of living. To express his dissatisfaction, the little devil started to act up and huffed before walking away. Yuan Guanyin, bewildered by the little devil's behavior, wondered, what's wrong with Yang Yang? Seeing the two part on bad terms, Gao Wufan quickly tried to mediate, advising the emperor, Mo is just being childish, your majesty. Don't harm your health over this. Hearing this, Yuan Guanyin also grew angry. How can I, the sovereign of a nation, allow him to act so petulantly? He then ordered that no dinner be prepared for Mo Jiang tonight, thinking to himself that he was just showing some concern, yet he's holding a grudge. I've been too indulgent with that child. Yet his gaze uncontrollably kept stealing looks at Mo Jiang. Is he truly ignoring me? On the rooftop, the little system also asked Mo Jiang if he was really angry. Mo Jiang replied, this is just being playfully coy. A bit of fun like this will only make him fall for me more. Princess Qi, sent by the kingdom of Nanchu, looks exactly like Mo Jiang. Just yesterday, Yuan Guanyin was wishing for a child who looks like Mo Jiang. Isn't this wish coming true now? However, from the looks of Princess Qi, she probably isn't a good person. The Empress, having heard the news, also prepares to use Princess Qi to stir up trouble. Mo Jiang, wandering aimlessly after the meal, sees the paper kite of Prince Z hanging on a tree and struggles to get it down. Mo Jiang skillfully retrieves the paper kite and hands it to him. This stunned the prince, this person who looks just like his sister. Mo Jiang leaves suavely, not forgetting to remind him to not fly kites in the palace anymore, as the emperor would be displeased if he saw. Then he disappears with a leap. The system doesn't understand. Why do you want to help him, boss? Of course, because he's good-looking. A day passes, and Mo Jiang indeed ignores Yuan Guanyin. Watching Mo Jiang kick stones on the side, Yuan Guanyin begins to reflect, wondering if he really said something wrong. So, he leans on the doorframe and calls Mo Jiang over. Hearing the call, Mo Jiang hesitates for a moment, then turns and walks away. Yuan Guanyin quickly follows, chasing after him. Are my words no longer effective? Mo Jiang then turns around with a look of grievance. Yuan Guanyin immediately softens, pulling him into his arms. Are you still angry? Mo Jiang weakly says, no, not at all. While speaking, he rubs his forehead against Yuan Guanyin's neck like a kitten, just a little bit unhappy. This adorably rule-breaking gesture hits Yuan Guanyin right in the heart. Then, holding Mo Jiang, he explains that his previous behavior was out of concern, that eating too many spicy foods is bad for health under the dry weather, and promises to have spicy meals every 2 days with him. Mo Jiang, eyes twinkling, stares at him, Your Majesty, you must not lie. Yuan Guanyin smiles and assures, a monarch does not jest. This makes Mo Jiang extremely happy and he directly pounces on him, smugly boasting to the system, a little act does wonders, right? The nearby system, already numb, grumbles, I can't bear to watch this. Following this, Yuan Guanyin scoops up Mo Jiang in his arms and gently places him on the bed. Pinching his chin, he says, You little heartless one, you haven't paid attention to me all day. Don't you miss me? How should I punish you? Mo Jiang cries out in protest, You said I could rest these 2 days. What happened to a monarch does not jest. Yuan Guanyin does not admit he ever said that, and the consequence of Mo Jiang's little act is that he gets thoroughly taught a lesson. The entire time, the system, watching the drama unfold, is smug, never thought the big boss could be dominated by an NPC one day. Mo Jiang is now very angry, the kind that can't be easily soothed. Having agreed on 2 times, the emperor went over twice again. The more he thinks about it, the angrier he gets. He bit the emperor's finger fiercely to vent his anger. Yuan Guanyin saw him biting his finger and said, fingers are not tasty, I'll give you something tastier. The little foodie, Emoji Yang, perked up immediately upon hearing about food. What's to eat? Boiled fish or boiled meat slices? I want green bean sprouts, not soybean sprouts. Yuan Guanyin, with a sly grin, pinched his chin. Eating bean sprouts is so bland. If you're eating, eat well. Hearing Yuan Guanyin utter something fierce, Emoji Yang's face turned red instantly. Fuming with anger and embarrassment, he pulled over the blanket and cursed, truly shameless. After teasing him a bit, Yuan Guanyin stopped and comforted him with a smile, go to sleep. The next day, while they were having breakfast, a eunuch came to say that the Empress Dowager requested to see them. Emoji Yang hurriedly scooped some food into his bowl and tentatively asked, should I move to another place to eat? Yuan Guanyin told him to sit down and eat properly. Emoji Yang felt embarrassed, but it's the Empress Dowager, how can I just sit and eat like this? Yuan Guanyin had no plans to dine with Tang Wanwan. With a wave of his hand, he signaled Gao Wufan to tell the Empress to wait outside until they finished eating. Emoji Yang, pretending to be worried, asked, is this really okay, Your Majesty? But inside, he felt quite proud, thinking, how come I feel like a favored consort in the harem? Yuan Guanyin said nonchalantly, why not? Should Yang Yang go hungry because of that woman? Thinking about how this empress had secretly hidden a man and now that they had caught her in the act, toppling the Tang family was just a matter of time. Outside, Tang Wanwan was clenching her teeth in anger. The damn system suddenly issued a random task to serve the despicable emperor dishes. Because she didn't complete the task in time, Tang Wanwan was shocked by her empress system for 30 seconds. Half an hour later, Tang Wanwan finally got her wish to meet Yuan Guanyin. If she couldn't complete the task, she would be electrocuted for 60 seconds. So she quickly said she had made 2 dishes for the emperor to try. Yuan Guanyin looked at the dishes and complimented her cooking skills. Seeing Yuan Guanyin take the bait, Tang Wanwan quickly picked up a piece. She wanted to feed Yuan Guanyin, while Emoji Yang quietly snickered on the side. Worthy of being emperor Go, seeing this, the empress held her breath, feeling that her earlier compliments were just to get her, but still smiled and urged the emperor to try it. Yuan Guanyin's expression changed. Why isn't the empress eating herself? Or is there something wrong with this dish? Tang Wanwan was frightened by his gaze, so she quickly ate it herself to show there was really nothing wrong with the dish. The next second, Yuan Guanyin asked her to eat all the dishes, and Tang Wanwan failed the task and was electrocuted, breaking out in a cold sweat. Being watched by Yuan Guanyin, she finished 2 large plates of dishes and was then driven out. The poor queen has probably never been so full in her life. It's no wonder she wants to turn over a new leaf and become the empress, given how suffocating her role as queen is. Yuan Guanyin says he's not good at archery and asks Emoji Yang to teach him. If I can hit the bullseye once, you should reward me by planting a little strawberry for you. Emoji Yang is full of confidence, as this is his strong suit. That man always bullies me in that regard. Watch me not school you thoroughly today. An hour later, Emoji Yang's face is covered in red marks. He never expected things to turn out this way, watching Yuan Guanyin hit the bullseye over and over again. Emoji Yang's cheeks were stamped with a red seal once again, while the instigator looked proud, saying, look, I've hit it again. Emoji Yang thought to himself that this guy was clearly playing him. You say you can't, but you shoot better than anyone else. So he asked, Your Majesty is obviously skilled in archery, why then do you need me to teach you? Yuan Guanyin sighed with a helpless look, I was originally not good at this, but the thought of stamping Yang Yang every time I hit the bullseye made me accurate with every shot. This Versailles-style bragging made Emoji Yang so angry that he got off his horse and left. He crazily shot at a target on a tree, muttering, damn emperor, watch me not beat you up. Yuan Guanyin still played dumb on the side, Yang Yang, your archery is really good, unlike me, who can only hit the bullseye by fluke. Mo Ziang pouted and looked angrily at Yuan Guanyin. Did you hit every arrow by luck? The useless man who can't do anything but excel in tea art. Yuan Guanyin dismounted and walked over, asking, still angry? Mo Ziang sulkily said, no. As she raised her hand to shoot an arrow, Yuan Guanyin grabbed it. She heard him say near her ear, it's a pity, I wanted to take you to the autumn hunt in a few days. Now it seems that Yang Yang doesn't want to go with me. Mo Ziang was half believing, half doubting. Yuan Guanyin immediately assured, a king never goes back on his word. He loosened his grip on the arrow, hitting the bullseye. Yuan Guanyin, the green tea master, reminded Mo Ziang that he hit the bullseye again. Mo Ziang looked displeased, but since the dog emperor said so, she would endure it for the autumn hunt. She frantically kissed Yuan Guanyin. Gao Wufan and the little system watched from the side with ant-like smiles. This is the joy of shipping a couple in person. On the other side, the CP of Tang Wanwan and Chen Boyan was having a tough time. Due to repeated failed assassination attempts on the emperor, Tang Wanwan had to deceive Chen Boyan to leave the palace. If Yuan Guanyin found out, they would both be finished. She also told him that once he overthrows the emperor, she could abandon her wealth and leave with him. Hearing that killing the dog emperor would save Wanwan, Chen Boyan fell for it. Tang Wanwan found it annoying. Ever since that night, Chen Boyan had been insisting on being responsible for her. Watching Chen Boyan's departing figure, Tang Wanwan finally breathed a sigh of relief. If it weren't for his usefulness, she wouldn't bother with him. She then turned and started discussing with her maid. Princess Nan Chugui of the 7th led Yuan Guanyin to stage a plot to kill with a borrowed knife. However, Tang Wanwan's schemes were all too clear to Yuan Guanyin. Hearing that the secret guard reported that the empress wanted the 7th princess to lure him, simply because she looked a bit like Yang Yang. How could my treasure be replaced by just anything? So, he ordered the secret guard to follow the assassin, just needing to know where they settle. Waiting for everything to be clear before capturing them all at once, Yuan Guanyin passed by the royal garden and indeed met the 7th princess, who was flying a kite. On the roof, Mo Jiang watched the kites in the sky, wondering if flying kites was the only entertainment for women in this palace. The little system disdainfully said, "The host, their main activity is to serve the big golden hair. You took their job." A maid hurriedly came to report that the emperor was coming. The 7th princess was secretly delighted. It seemed the empress hadn't lied to her. The emperor really would pass by here. Mo Jiang watched the three meeting below. He couldn't help but sigh that there was a good show to watch again. Watching the figure in pink from a distance, Yuan Guanyin thought it was all set up like this. He wanted to see what this foolish empress was up to. As the emperor approached, the 7th princess smiled cunningly while flying her kite, occasionally letting out bell-like laughter. Then, pretending not to see the emperor, she kept retreating and deliberately broke the kite string. She was about to fall on Yuan Guanyin, causing her to sprawl on the ground. The 3rd prince, who came along, realized why she came to fly kites here and couldn't help feeling disappointed. Didn't the emperor know her intention to become his favorite concubine? The 7th princess, seeing she didn't fall into the emperor's arms, quickly got up and pretended to be scared and pitiful. "It wasn't intentional, Your Majesty, please punish me." Yuan Guanyin asked, "What crime have you committed?" Yet he thought the pink dress on her would look better on Yang Yang. The kneeling 7th princess feigned wiping her teary eyes and with a crying voice said, "It was all because Ninger was carelessly playing and bumped into the emperor." She thought the emperor would surely pity her, but instead, Yuan Guanyin, far from showing any pity, shocked her with a stern command. "You shall kneel here until evening without permission to get up." Seeing that things didn't go as she expected, the 7th princess weakly tugged at Yuan Guanyin's sleeve to plead. Yuan Guanyin, with a darkened face, disgustedly shook off her hand and walked away. Watching this half-sister, the 3rd prince initially wanted to persuade her. But seeing her gloomy look, he turned and left, while Mo Jiang picked up the kite and called out to him, cheerfully handing the kite back to the 3rd prince. "Here you go." Just as the 3rd prince was about to ask his name, Mo Jiang vanished in a blink without a trace. The system thinks Mo Jiang is wrong. Why involve the 3rd young master who was unrelated to the mission? Why does the host repeatedly seek him out? Just listening to Mo Jiang, in the original storyline, this person was bullied in Nanchu from a young age, and later bullied by his own sister in Yun country. After Tang Wanwan rose to power, she took him as her male consort. Yet he was unaware and despised by Tang Wanwan. Later buried in chaotic times, those who struggle to survive deserve tenderness. When Yuan Guanyin came back at night, he saw Mo Jiang lost in thought. Mo Jiang said today in the Imperial Garden, he saw a girl who looked very much like him, and picked up her paper kite. He didn't dare to give it to her directly, so he gave it to the man beside her. Hearing that Mo Jiang was thinking about that girl, Yuan Guanyin, although smiling, his eyes revealed a dangerous message. "Your Majesty, do you think she received the paper kite?" Yuan Guanyin, suppressing his resentment, smiled and comforted Mo Jiang. "I guess she definitely received it, so you don't need to worry about her." But internally he thought, not only will she receive it, but I will also send her many, letting her enjoy herself thoroughly. It seems that the 7th princess is in trouble. Not only was Mo Jiang tied up, he was also stamped with a special seal. It must be said this strict wife really knows how to play. Yuan Guanyin has always wanted Mo Jiang to wear pink, and today he took action. He leaned in and asked Mo Jiang if he liked pink, happily saying he liked it himself. Especially things like snail noodles, hot and sour noodles, all kinds of delicious noodles which he really liked. Then he got tied up with a pink ribbon. "Didn't you say fans?" He asked Yuan Guanyin puzzledly, "What's this for?" Yuan Guanyin said, "I have something to ask you. If Yang Yang answers wrong, he might be punished. Yang Yang, if you answer incorrectly, you'll be punished." But no matter what question Yuan Guanyin asked next, Mo Yang was judged wrong. Naturally, there was no shortage of punishments. I've watched the punishment scenes for you, there's nothing much to see. Under Mo Yang's continuous pleas for mercy, Yuan Guanyin finally stopped. He looked at him and said, Yang, you can't think about anyone else in the future. You can only think about me and look at me. Then he took out a stamp and stamped Mo Yang's collarbone, holding him and saying, you belong to me alone. The punishment continued, and this time even begging for mercy didn't work until Mo Yang fell asleep from the punishment. The main culprit held his hand and glanced at it, thinking next time Mo Yang should wear red, definitely with a phoenix coronet and bridal attire. The next day, Mo Yang looked at the stamp and was speechless. Moreover, today is the Autumn God Festival, and Yuan Guanyin didn't take him out to play, saying he feared Mo Yang would see the outside world's allure and not want to return to the palace. Isn't that ridiculous? Suddenly, Mo Yang heard someone sneaking into Yuan Guanyin's palace. But Yuan Guanyin wasn't there. Could they be setting a trap for him? Since he had nothing else to do, he decided to help Yuan Guanyin check things out. There might even be some excitement. Unexpectedly, as soon as he entered, he was ambushed. After dodging one attack, he realized their target was actually him. Then, he was knocked out without any warning. The little system beside him urgently tried to wake him up. When he woke up, he found himself tied up. What a thrilling day! The system kept chattering beside him, but he felt no sense of crisis, almost as if he was resigned to his fate. At this moment, the door was pushed open, and the seventh princess walked in backlit. Mo Yang still had the mood to comment to the system that the seventh princess was beautiful. The little system was speechless and told him he could just say he found himself attractive. The seventh princess looked at Mo Yang with disdain. How could a servant look like her? Remembering the empress's words that the emperor disliked her because of this little guard, she thought that as long as she got rid of him, no one would compete for favor with her. So she took out a bottle of poison. The system exclaimed, "Host, that's poison." Mo Yang's expression became serious as he told it to stop shouting. His hands behind his back kept cutting the ropes. Just as the seventh princess said she would send him to the underworld, Mo Yang seized the moment to crash into the seventh princess, shouting for help. His cries were heard by the third prince, who was just passing by the door. At this moment, Mo Yang was pinned down by the seventh princess, who was forcing him to take some medicine, when suddenly an exclamation broke the seventh princess's concentration. Startled, she dropped the medicine bottle. The seventh princess, grinding her teeth in anger, glared at the third young master who had interrupted her. Now that it had come to this, the person today must be dealt with. She then pulled out the hairpin from her hair and, in a frenzy, lunged at Mo Yang, thinking, as long as he dies, I can definitely become the favored concubine. Just at the critical moment, Mo Yang managed to break free from the ropes on his hands, grabbed the seventh princess's malevolent hand, and inexplicably thanked the seventh princess for her cooperation. Then, he dragged the seventh princess's hand to scratch a bloody mark on his own neck, just as the guards arrived. In an instant, Mo Yang became dramatically weak, holding the wound and feebly called out for help, then pretended to faint. The guards immediately restrained the seventh princess and took her away. They also sent someone to report the incident to official Yen. The third young master, watching Mo Yang who had fainted, was filled with worry. Mo Yang had no choice but to open his eyes and reassure him that he was fine, asking him to keep this a secret. Seeing Mo Yang continue to pretend to be unconscious, the third young master couldn't help but admire him. He truly was formidable. Upon receiving the news of Mo Yang's murder, Yuan Guanyin frantically flew back, thinking Mo Yang was about to die from his tragic state, not knowing it was a disguise by the system. In fact, it was all staged with the system's props. Yuan Guanyin was so scared that he hurriedly called for the imperial physician. Holding Mo Yang in distress, he couldn't believe that just leaving for half an hour led to this mishap. Recalling the Empress Dowager Zhao's words that he was cursed by Z-Star, people slightly close to him from a young age couldn't escape a tragic fate. So, he couldn't help but burst into tears, asking, Yang, are you also going to leave me? After the imperial physician's examination in the bedchamber, it turned out Mo Yang was fine and had only fainted due to a small dose of D poison. He would recover fully after taking some tonic for a few days. Yuan Guanyin breathed a sigh of relief and asked how the wound on Mo Yang's neck was. The imperial physician awkwardly reassured him that it was nothing serious, thinking to himself that if Yuan Guanyin had arrived any later, the wound would probably have healed. Yuan Guanyin ordered the physician to prescribe some medicine. And watching Mo Yang in a coma, he blamed himself, thinking if he had known something like this would happen, he would have definitely kept him by his side. A few days later, Mo Yang finally woke up. As soon as he woke up, he started complaining about the system, saying it's a high-risk job to be a White Lotus, and reminded himself to ask the broken main god to provide him with social security and benefits. Yuan Guanyin thought he was dreaming when he saw Emoji Yang awake. Emoji Yang, seeing Yuan Guanyin's haggard face, asked in disbelief, "Your Majesty, are you all right?" The system by his side immediately explained, "Host Dad, while you were unconscious these few days, the big golden retriever has been staring at you, not eating or drinking nor going to the morning court, which was really scary." Hearing this, Emoji Yang was touched and grasped Yuan Guanyin's hand. Feeling the warmth from his hand, Yuan Guanyin believed that he was not dreaming and excitedly threw himself at Emoji Yang. "I will never allow you to leave me again, we shall be together forever." Emoji Yang gently patted him, comforting, "I will always protect your Majesty and stay by your side." Thinking to himself, it seems the big golden retriever was really frightened this time, but the hardships I endured were worth it, as he sipped the porridge personally fed to him by Yuan Guanyin. Emoji Yang casually mentioned that it was the third prince of Manchu who had saved him. Upon hearing this, Yuan Guanyin immediately declared, "Since he saved Yang Yang, he is a good person and will not be implicated." Emoji Yang sincerely hoped that the third prince could break free from control and live his own life. At Yuan Guanyin's command, the seventh princess vanished from that moment onwards. As for the third prince, the petty-minded Yuan Guanyin was worried that if this person stayed in the palace for too long, Yin Yan might develop deep feelings for him, which would not be good. So he had him released from the palace. Yuan Guanyin said that a small trick to cure a cold was to sweat it out, and insisted on teaching Emoji Yang how to do it. Emoji Yang, who understood instantly, refused with a worried face, "Your Majesty, you're still sick." Yuan Guanyin, smiling brightly, insisted, "That's why I need Yin Yan to help me sweat it out, so I can recover faster. But after sweating once and then again, are you sure you won't get cooked?" The experienced little system pulled out its full gear, and Jay finally quieted down. The next day, Yuan Guanyin's illness was indeed cured by sweating. He brought breakfast and called Emoji Yang to get up. Yuan Guanyin coughed twice, pretending to be sick, and Emoji Yang immediately got up to check. "You were fine in the morning, why are you coughing again?" Unexpectedly, Yuan Guanyin grabbed him, "As long as Yin Yan cares for me, it doesn't hurt." After a bout of tea ceremony tactics, Emoji Yang realized he had been tricked and angrily took a bite, letting him know that disturbing young master's sleep had serious consequences. Yuan Guanyin, however, dotingly held him and said, "No matter how Yin Yan bites, it doesn't hurt." He then personally combed and tied his hair, taking advantage of every opportunity during the process. During this time, Emoji Yang had all his tofu eaten, which really angered him as he was still hungry. After having his fill, Emoji Yang began to cause trouble. In the Wei Yang Palace, a maid carefully brought a bowl of bird's nest soup to Tang Wanwan. After drinking it in one gulp, Tang Wanwan immediately felt stomach pain. The maid was so frightened that she hurriedly went to call for the imperial physician, who diagnosed it as food poisoning. Tang Wanwan, weakly, instructed the maid to find out who was responsible for almost causing her death by diarrhea. Unexpectedly, the next second, she found a large cockroach in her medicinal soup. Tang Wanwan's scream echoed through Wei Yang Palace, while the instigator, Emoji Yang, was on the roof, laughing until tears flowed. That evening, Emoji Yang cheerfully returned to his sleeping quarters. There he was caught by Yuan Guanyin, who asked sternly where he had been fooling around. Emoji Yang, with a grin, denied fooling around and said he was just making his usual rounds. Suddenly, he noticed a bowl of syrup in front of Yuan Guanyin and couldn't help but slurp his saliva. Seeing Emoji Yang's craving look, Yuan Guanyin held the bowl ready to feed him, but Emoji Yang held his hand, insisting that Yuan Guanyin eat first. Yuan Guanyin was so happy. "Yang Yang loves me so much now that you're willing to let me eat first?" Seeing Yuan Guanyin drink, Emoji Yang leaned in, and a golden retriever snatched the food from his mouth. After eating, he licked his lips proudly and said, "Your Majesty, please don't misunderstand. I just found that the food in someone else's mouth smells better." Yuan Guanyin didn't mind and implied, "Since you've snatched my food, I won't be polite either." Emoji Yang let out a cry as he was lifted off the ground and taken away. The golden retriever was about to start eating. The little system teased from behind, "That's what you get for flirting recklessly." Yuan Guanyin gave all his gentleness and trust to Emoji Yang. He learned from Gao Wufen that someone recently wrote a rebellious poem. In his rage, Yuan Guanyin arrested hundreds of people. Sounds of Yuan Guanyin's furious outbursts and throwing things could be heard from inside. Emoji Yang decisively decided to go in and check. Pushing the door open, indeed, the floor was covered with brushes, ink, paper, and inkstones, accompanied by Yuan Guanyin's angry shout, "Get out!" As soon as Yuan Guanyin saw who had come, he hurriedly ran towards Emoji Yang, holding his hand with concern. "Yang Yang, why are you here? Are you hurt?" When Emoji Yang asked why he was angry, without a trace of impatience, he gently soothed him, saying he wasn't angry, it was all trivial matters, and then changed the subject to ask where Emoji Yang had been. Emoji Yang, about to speak, said, I went around to inspect, and when I returned, I saw this place. Yuan Guanyin glanced at his own recent creation. It was a mess, probably frightening the child. He then suggested they take a walk in the Imperial Garden. The two walked hand in hand among the maple leaves. Yuan Guanyin talked about the deceit and intrigue of the Imperial Palace, saying only Yang Yang truly cared for him. Although Emoji Yang tried to comfort him, saying many people liked him, his words ultimately seemed pale. After all, Yuan Guanyin had experienced the brutal struggles for imperial power since childhood. Only Yang Yang's affection for Yuan Guanyin was genuine. Hearing about these tragic experiences, Emoji Yang thought how the big golden-haired one had indeed suffered a lot of grievances. He must ensure he is well taken care of. In the evening, while Yuan Guanyin was bathing, Emoji Yang took the opportunity to investigate what the counterpoem was about. The 7-character regulated poem he held mentioned the words no Guanyin. It wasn't really a counterpoem, nor worth losing one's head over. Emoji Yang thought this must be someone intentionally causing trouble, wanting to use big golden hair to frame someone. So, when Yuan Guanyin came back after washing up, Emoji Yang quickly pulled him into the tent. Reaching out, I took off the protective talisman I was wearing. I want to give this to your majesty. This was given to me by my master. He said that encountering too many evils could shorten one's life. This talisman could extend one's life. I hope your majesty can always stay with Yang Yang. After saying that, she placed the talisman into Yuan Guanyin's palm. Yuan Guanyin thought about how Emoji Yang was only 19 while he himself was already 30. If he didn't live long enough, leaving the child alone, what would happen if the child was bullied? For Yang Yang, I can't continue to indulge in vices as I did before. Thus, he gladly accepted it and let Emoji Yang put it on for him, thinking that this might save some innocent people. The little system couldn't help but lament, host dad, despite his young age, has two faces. Towards those unrelated to missions, he always harbors goodwill. But once it involves a mission, he shows another face. How bad Emoji Yang is, sending all sorts of tonics to the Empress every day, causing Tang Wanwan to not eat or sleep well, feeling extremely uncomfortable. Through a maid, she learned that the location for the autumn hunt was set at Jiuyun Mountain. That's exactly where Chen Boyan is hiding. Isn't the autumn hunt a perfect opportunity to act? Thinking about getting rid of Yuan Guanyin, Tang Wanwan felt somewhat better. That day, everyone prepared to head to Jiuyun Mountain for the autumn hunt, including the beauties from Yuan Guanyin's harem. Simu expressed his liking for the one who smiles beautifully. Yuan Guanyin and Emoji Yang are intimately talking in front of everyone. Tang Wanwan, seeing this, is very disdainful. The emperor really has a peculiar taste for not wanting the women in his harem who are as beautiful as flowers and jade. The concubine is also gossiping. Being a widow while alive is really infuriating. As soon as he got on the carriage, Emoji Yang was like a curious baby, finding everything fascinating, even suggesting that he wanted to go to Jiuyun Mountain by himself. Yuan Guanyin thought to himself, sure enough, as soon as Yang Yang goes out, he becomes so happy that he doesn't want to return. He still needs to be kept by his side. Thus, he pulled Emoji Yang back into his arms. What's there to see outside that's better looking than me? Emoji Yang hooked his arm around Yuan Guanyin's neck and sweetly said, Your Majesty is unparalleled in this world, naturally the most attractive. Yuan Guanyin was very happy to hear this and promised to roast venison for him when they reached Jiuyun Mountain. Then he coaxed him to take a nap, saying they would arrive upon waking. Emoji Yang fell asleep in a second, so quickly that Yuan Guanyin felt a bit reluctant. Watching Emoji Yang's obedient sleeping face, Yuan Guanyin's mind was racing with thoughts of wanting to do something, yet he struggled to control himself and held back, finding it extremely difficult to restrain his impulses towards the boy. An hour later, Emoji Yang woke up groggily, rubbing his eyes, and turned his head to tell Yuan Guanyin in a dazed and cute manner that he was hungry. Yuan Guanyin immediately added 5 more points to bring in the food box, and the little foodie Emoji Yang ate happily. Yuan Guanyin watched him indulgently and reminded him to slow down, saying no one would compete with him for food, while pointing out the crumbs on Emoji Yang's cheek. He licked the crumbs off his fingers and didn't forget to praise, Ji Yang, you're really sweet, which made Emoji Yang blush and mutter green tea man under his breath. It was only in the evening that they arrived at the Jiuyun Mountain Palace, and Emoji Yang, full and sleepy, fell asleep again. Yuan Guanyin personally carried him back to their residence. Meanwhile, Tang Wanyan was eager to meet with Chen Boyan, and to anyone unaware, it looked as though the two shared a deep, tortured love. In reality, Tang Wanyan was impatient to confirm with Chen Boyan whether the plan to assassinate Yuan Guanyin was properly arranged. Seeing that using Chen Boyan was indeed the right move, she then had the opportunity to plot against the emperor, and thus she launched into another round of tender and sweet persuasion towards Chen Boyan. So she launched another wave of tender and loving attacks on Chen Boyan, and all of this was seen by the shadow guards sent by Yuan Guanyin. Yuan Guanyin said he was teaching Emoji Yang to ride a horse. Emoji Yang was so exhausted that he fell asleep. The horse's back was still wet, making me realize it must have been playing in the water. In the morning, while Emoji Yang was still in a deep sleep, he suddenly heard the Empress requesting an audience. It scared him so much that he sat up abruptly. Oh no, he overslept. In a panic, he was about to run off, looking like a runaway young groom from someone's house. But Yuan Guanyin caught him and asked where he was going. Emoji Yang timidly replied, "Your Majesty, the Empress is here. It wouldn't be good if she saw us." Yuan Guanyin, satisfied, snuggled up to Emoji Yang and said, "Then let's depose the Empress." Emoji Yang was stunned for a moment, then happily leaned against Yuan Guanyin and continued to sleep. Outside, the two who came to pay their respects didn't even get to see the Emperor's face before being sent away. Tang Wanwan naturally felt disdain, thinking, "Dog Emperor, you won't have many good days left." On the way, Tang Wanwan asked Consort Jia to lend her a young eunuch from her palace. Consort Jia readily agreed, saying, "Empress, feel free to use him as you wish. Who knows what bad idea Tang Wanwan is plotting again." Yuan Guanyin, after sleeping enough, called Emoji Yang to get up, seeing him still looking half asleep. So he pulled the person out of bed and helped him dress and do his hair, looking just like he was serving a little ancestor. Gao Wufen watched and couldn't help but cover her mouth and giggle. His Majesty diligently attended to another little ancestor. Indeed, one thing overcomes another. After dinner, they arrived at the long-awaited racetrack where Yuan Guanyin introduced his precious horse, Bua. But Yuan Guanyin lifted him onto the horseback in one move. Saying this, he began to teach Emoji Yang how to ride a horse. Seeing the two of them walking away, Commander he wanted to follow. But Gao Wufen reached out and stopped him, saying if Commander he went over now, His Majesty would definitely not be pleased. Better to just stay put. Meanwhile, Yuan Guanyin took Emoji Yang on a fast ride to a secluded part of the woods. In broad daylight, some people have no shame. Emoji Yang quickly pressed down his misbehaving hand in refusal, saying, "Your Majesty, this is not okay, really not okay." Yuan Guanyin asked why not with his mouth, but his hands didn't stop. He just told Emoji Yang to grab the reins tightly and spurred the horse to run. The horse ran so fast that no other actions were necessary. Because the bumpy rhythm of the horseback was completely in Yuan Guanyin's hands, and the little system, with its foresight, wouldn't bother joining such a joyful ride. It was tough for Gao Wufen today, their head felt unusually heavy. They didn't return until the evening after going out in the afternoon. Emoji Yang was also so tired that he fell asleep. Yuan Guanyin held Emoji Yang and ordered Gao Wufen to prepare water for bathing and to also watch the shielding moon. Gao Wufen, blushing, didn't know what to think. He knew nothing about what happened, assuming the horse must have played in the water to get wet. Emoji Yang, who had just learned to ride a horse, was sore all over and exhausted. In contrast, Yuan Guanyin appeared lively and energetic in front of Emoji Yang. Unable to bear it, Emoji Yang kicked Yuan Guanyin in the face. With too many focal points, Gao Wufen didn't know where to look anymore. Despite being kicked, Yuan Guanyin was not annoyed and praised Emoji Yang for his strong legs, making Gao Wufen feel embarrassed. "Your Majesty, can you maintain some dignity?" Yuan Guanyin expressed that dignity was less important than Yan Yang. As he was about to hug Emoji Yang to go eat, Emoji Yang pushed him away. During the push, Emoji Yang accidentally slapped Yuan Guanyin. Stunned by his own action, Emoji Yang thought, "What am I doing? This isn't like me at all." He weakly asked, "Your Majesty, are you all right?" Yuan Guanyin held Emoji Yang's hand against his face, still tenderly coaxing, "Yang Yang, after this, you shouldn't be angry anymore." Emoji Yang, seeing the situation was better, immediately expressed that he didn't want to move and wanted a hug. Yuan Guanyin naturally wouldn't refuse, holding him and gently patting to soothe him. "Is your heart calmed down now?" He then personally fed him, making Gao Wufen incredibly envious. Then he told Emoji Yang a bedtime story about a little rabbit and a big bad wolf. The next day, during the autumn hunting session, Gao reported that some thieves had been spotted near the hunting grounds. He asked if they should be captured. Yuan Guanyin instructed not to alarm anyone. He wanted to see what tricks these people had up their sleeves. After saying that, he went back to the palace to see if Emoji Yang was awake. But when he returned and opened the curtains, Yuan Guanyin couldn't believe his eyes. There was a half-dressed man lying on top of Emoji Yang. He angrily questioned, "What are you doing?" Seeing the man in front of her, Emoji Yang was so scared she kept backing away, even speaking in her dialect, "I don't know anything." Yuan Guanyin stepped forward, pulled the man away, and kicked him hard. "Get out of here, you blind fool." Meanwhile, Emoji Yang was crying her eyes out. Yuan Guanyin quickly held her and comforted her, saying everything was fine. Emoji Yang pounded his chest with her fists, sobbing, "It's all your fault for telling me that story about the fox spirit last night. It scared me to death." She then glanced at the man kneeling on the ground, thinking he wanted to frame her. Fortunately, she acted first. She then turned to Yuan Guanyin with a pitiful look and said weakly, "Who is he, Your Majesty? I don't know him at all." After interrogation, it turned out that this person was a minor eunuch serving close to Consort Jia, sent to meet with Official Yan but accidentally bumped into Emoji Yang. However, Official Yan didn't think the situation was that simple. In the evening, to appease Emoji Yang, everyone sat together roasting venison. Emoji Yang, the little foodie, was impatient, wondering when the venison would be ready as he could hardly hold back his drool. While telling him not to rush, Official Yan also draped a coat over him to keep him from catching a cold. Commander He, seeing his servant's demeanor for the first time, was quite unaccustomed. Gao Wu, calm as an old dog, remarked, "You'll get used to it after seeing it a few more times." Suddenly, Emoji Yang heard the sound of arrows being loaded. The next second, a hidden arrow flew through the air, and Emoji Yang immediately threw himself over Official Yan to dodge the arrow. He grabbed Official Yan and shouted, "Someone is trying to assassinate us, let's go." But unexpectedly, Official Yan pulled him back and fell on top of him, saying, "I know, Yang Yang, don't be afraid, I will protect you this time." Official Yan smirked, confident of victory. Seeing how assured Dijin Ma was, Emoji Yang realized that he must have anticipated this, including the other two who were calmly still roasting meat. Is it really okay to show no respect to the assassin? A message from the mini-system said, "The assassin in the small woods is surrounded on one side," and Emoji Yang felt relieved. It seems this assassin is really clumsy. Just as Gao Wufen said the barbecue was ready, Emoji Yang, who loves food, smelled the barbecue and was extremely happy with stars in his eyes. However, he turned and handed the barbecue to Yuan Guanyin, urging him to try it quickly. Yuan Guanyin was stunned, even though he was so eager, he thought of letting others taste it first. Such behavior from Yang Yang is really adorable. Then, he bit lightly on Emoji Yang's hand and said, "It's truly delicious." Emoji Yang was furious, calling him an old durian who was always looking for a chance to take advantage. So, ignoring everyone else, he praised himself lavishly. The aroma made even the nearby system cry from delight. Leader He has captured 5 living assassins. Does His Majesty want to interrogate them personally? Yuan Guanyin expressed that after watching such a good show for so long, it was time to see who the actual performer was. It's time to see who's performing the opera. Shout for Emoji Yang to accompany you to watch the opera. Emoji Yang had no choice but to agree, and as he got up, he felt a chill on his neck. There was a sharp sword across Emoji Yang's neck. Yuan Guanyin was shocked, asking how there could still be an assassin, and quickly told the assassin not to hurt him. Emoji Yang angrily bit into a piece of roasted venison. The person holding him hostage was none other than Chen Boyan, right? The little system was about to cry, asking host daddy to be more careful and stop eating. Seeing the emperor trying to approach, Chen Boyan slightly pressured the sword in his hand, warning the dog emperor that one more step forward would endanger his life, frightening Yuan Guanyin, who quickly agreed to whatever demand as long as he was released. Chen Boyan angrily said, "You've schemed against my brothers, I want you to s." Hearing this, someone daring to demand the big golden retriever meant his mission was doomed. "I couldn't even if I s him." Emoji Yang, held hostage by the assassin Chen Boyan, demanded Yuan Guanyin to substitute himself, but Emoji Yang would not agree as he himself needed to survive even if he s Yuan Guanyin. Yuan Guanyin truly loved Yang Yang, holding a knife against himself, demanding Chen Boyan to keep his word and release him. Then he raised the knife, ready to stab himself. Ignoring the advice from those around him, Emoji Yang got angry when he saw this, furious that someone dared to hinder the mission of the White Lotus boss. His life was on the line. Emoji Yang silently drew a hidden weapon from his belt and, seizing the right moment, threw it. It hit Chen Boyan's foot. Chen Boyan bent down in pain instinctively, allowing Emoji Yang to slip away, creating some distance. Seeing Emoji Yang in danger, Yuan Guanyin immediately stepped forward to hug him. At the same time, Chen Boyan was subdued by He Tongling with a kick. Even while being held down, Chen Boyan kept spouting golden lines, cursing the scoundrel emperor. Emoji Yang snorted coldly, stood up, and said he still had words for Chen Boyan. He picked up a thick stick from beside the fire, walked towards Chen Boyan with a sneer, and said, "You want the emperor's life, huh? Not bad, little brother." He raised the stick and swung at Chen Boyan, saying, "Tired of living, huh? Calling the emperor a scoundrel? Why don't you ascend to heaven then?" He kept scolding while never stopping the beatings, stunning the onlookers with the ferocity of his attacks. When he had beaten Chen to barely a breath left, the system hurriedly intervened, "Host Dad, calm down. If you keep beating him, he'll be gone." Emoji Yang calmed down, threw the stick away, and said, "Remember, you're not allowed to call the emperor a scoundrel," mentally adding, "Only I can call him that." As soon as Wanrun turned around, they saw everyone looking at them in shock. Emoji Yang tilted his head, smiled innocently, and scratched his head saying, "Ah, it was just a random DD. Why are you all staring at me like that?" Yuan Guanyin was amused by his cleverness and covered his mouth to snicker. "This little guy has claws and teeth too," he said, then caught him and comforted, "All right, don't be mad. I'll call the imperial physician to bandage your wound." Tang Wanwan originally wanted to lead the young concubines to see Yuan Guanyin fall from grace. Unexpectedly, Yuan Guanyin was fine, and she ended up being fed a mouthful of dog food, infuriating her so much that she gritted her teeth and cursed Qin Boyan as useless. The young concubines behind her, who had never seen such a scene, were terrified and shivered. Not long after going to bed at night, Yuan Guanyin suddenly woke up, shouting Yang Yang, Yang Yang. Emoji Yang, woken up by the noise, sleepily asked him what was wrong. After finding out he had a nightmare, Emoji Yang comforted him and finally coaxed him back to sleep. Then, he wanted to pour himself a glass of water. Before he took 2 steps, someone caught him from behind and asked where he was going. Emoji Yang said, "I'm just going to have a cup of tea, don't worry." However, Yuan Guanyin wouldn't let go and insisted he not leave. Emoji Yang sighed helplessly and said, "I won't go." He understood that verbal comfort wasn't very effective and that action was the key to solving the problem. But Yuan Guanyin, taking advantage of Yang Yang's initiative, started trying new tricks. Yuan Guanyin was having a great time, and Emoji Yang was very angry. "If you keep this up, I will really leave you." Emoji Yang just dry-heaved a few times and was misunderstood by Yuan Guanyin as being pregnant. The food-loving Emoji Yang rarely loses his appetite, seeming to be lost in thought. He turned to ask the system if Qin Boyan getting a meal box counted as completing the mission. The little system said no, at least ensuring a successor for the Yun Kingdom was necessary. Emoji Yang was speechless. "How can I ensure that? Why don't you have a child yourself?" "Stop joking, boss, do you want me to give birth to a string of code?" Yuan Guanyin returned to see Emoji Yang hadn't eaten and asked if the food didn't suit his stomach. He then personally prepared a bowl of soup for Emoji Yang to nourish him. Just after taking a sip, Emoji Yang felt nauseous. He turned around and vomited cleanly. Yuan Guanyin was able to keep it together, asking if Emoji Yang was pregnant. It wasn't strange for him to think so, as the empresses in his youth showed similar symptoms when pregnant. Hearing this, Emoji Yang immediately denied it. "How is that possible? I don't have that function." Yuan Guanyin didn't listen and hurriedly called for the royal physician. Yuan Guanyin was still saying that if it was true and there was a little prince, he would make him the crown prince. This shocked both the royal physician and Emoji Yang, leaving them at a loss for words. Emoji Yang disheartedly let the physician check his pulse, thinking as long as he wasn't embarrassed, it would be someone else's problem. Yuan Guanyin, with a serious face, demanded from Emoji Yang, "Even if it's a burden on your heart, I need to know, understand?" Emoji Yang felt like dying, the situation making it seem like he could actually give birth. At this moment, the imperial physician took the pulse and said it was acid reflux and vomiting caused by improper diet. Emoji Yang felt he had never been so embarrassed in his life and quickly covered himself with the quilt. Yuan Guanyin instructed the physician to go and prescribe medicine. Emoji Yang, covered with the quilt, said to Yuan Guanyin, "If you like children, you can have them." Hearing this, Yuan Guanyin was displeased. "Yang Yang, do you want someone else to give birth to my children?" Emoji Yang, feeling disheartened, tearfully expressed that he didn't want that, but thinking about the emperor being sad because he had no children made him very upset. Yuan Guanyin wiped his tears and comforted him, "I do not particularly like children. Even if there are no children, we can adopt one from the royal family. But you are the only warmth in my heart. Having you in this life is enough for me." The two embraced emotionally. In his heart, Emoji Yang hummed, "You sly emperor, lucky for you to realize that if you dare to have children with someone else, I'll show you why the flowers are so red." On the other side, Tang Wanwan felt uneasy. Ever since Qin Boyan was captured, there has been no news at all. If he exposes her, both she and the Tang family would be finished. She remembered she had a system and asked if it was there. "What should I do now?" There was no response, and the surrounding silence made her shiver. Tang Wanwan was horrified, thinking, "Has the system given up on me too?" Unable to accept this blow, she blacked out. These two people were originally husband and wife but betrayed each other. Yuan Guanyin and Emoji Yang were just about to eat the exquisite pastries when a servant came to inform them that the empress had fainted. The imperial physician said it was due to excessive worry. Yuan Guanyin instructed to take good care of her, as the S method was too lenient on her. Then he saw Emoji Yang poking at the dessert. He affectionately pinched his nose. Yang Yang, if you keep playing like this, you won't be able to eat the dessert. Emoji Yang then treasured the dessert like a jewel and handed it to Yuan Guanyin. Look how lifelike this little rabbit is. Yuan Guanyin squinted his eyes and moved closer. Is the rabbit prettier than me? Emoji Yang was embarrassed, knowing that he was getting jealous again, so he quickly smiled to soothe him. Of course not. Obviously, your majesty is the most handsome. Yuan Guanyin was delighted, saying his sweet words were honey-coated. After tasting, he left Emoji Yang to play by himself. Yuan Guanyin then went off to settle scores with Tang Wanwan. Emoji Yang, while agreeing, sneakily followed him to the rooftop and started spying with the small system. Peeking with Xiaoxi, we saw Tang Wanwan kneeling on the ground, while Yuan Guanyin, 5 feet tall, brought something over. 2 guards carried a large chest and with a thud placed it beside Tang Wanwan. Yuan Guanyin asked, "Do you know what's inside?" "I do not know," she replied. "Do you know how the history books will write about you?" "I guess they would probably write, the Empress conspired with the third son of South Chu, secretly communicating and colluding with South Chu assassins to assassinate the Emperor, and was executed after the plot was discovered." Hearing this, Tang Wanwan was shocked and kowtowed repeatedly, begging for mercy. "Your Majesty, I am wronged. Please do not believe the slanderous words of others." "I knew she wouldn't admit it." Yuan Guanyin commanded Gao Wufan to open the chest. "Inside this chest is the evidence of your treason." Tang Wanwan looked at the chest opening nervously, only to find it actually contained Chen Boyan, with whom she had had dealings. She was so scared that she fell to the ground and immediately denied, "Who is this? I do not recognize him." Seeing her denial, Yuan Guanyin took out a document detailing the collusion between Tang Wanwan and Chen Boyan. Hearing that Yuan Guanyin knew everything, she thought it was all over. Yuan Guanyin approached Tang Wanwan and said somberly, "The court will execute Chen Boyan under the identity of the third son of South Chu, solidifying your crime of treason. The two of you can be together in the afterlife." Tang Wanwan lowered her head and laughed loudly, then pointing at Chen Boyan, said, "Be together in the afterlife with this worthless man? From beginning to end, I was just using him. You disregard the beauty all around you and mix with a shadow guard instead. You deserve to be cuckolded." Yuan Guanyin doesn't care. Who in the harem truly loves Lien? They just want wealth and glory. Yuan Guanyin gestured for the crazed Tang Wanyin to be taken away. Emoji Yang watched the entire process from the rooftop, realizing that the golden retriever still remembered the third son's matter. He then suggested to the system, "Why don't we stay in this realm for a few more years?" Without waiting for the system to respond, he swiftly ran towards Yuan Guanyin, pretending the mission wasn't completed. Leaving such a good golden retriever alone would be too lonely. Yuan Guanyin simply saw Emoji Yang as his sunshine, but wasn't he also Emoji Yang's salvation? Snowy Spa. But which system would commit such a foul? Half a month has passed since the Empress went offline. The Tang family fell and the harem was disbanded. Rumors are spreading outside that the Emperor was cuckolded by the Empress. This golden retriever deliberately let these idle talks spread. Wearing a cuckold's cap is really foolish. At that moment, Commander he came to find Emoji Yang, saying that Gao Wufan was looking for him. The two headed towards the sleeping palace. Commander he mentioned that he had once heard that being with the one you love during the first snow ensures a lifetime together. He also talked about his own wife. He then advised Emoji Yang like an elder to take good care of himself. Emoji Yang nodded in agreement, wondering why Captain he was suddenly so sentimental today. Emoji Yang enjoyed a hot spring bath with the mini-system, contentedly. However, after the bath, he was puzzled by the clothes Gao Wufan prepared for him, questioning why a shadow guard would wear such a color, and why he had to be mysteriously blindfolded. What is this golden-haired guy up to? It felt like, as Gao Wufan led him into a room and he stood still, Yuan Guanyin's voice reached his ears, "Yang Yang, take off the blindfold." He saw the room was filled with festive red colors. He had guessed right, they were to form a pact, and he even felt a bit excited. The mini-system didn't understand what there was to be excited about, noting that it wasn't like they hadn't done this in the past life. Emoji Yang simply said it was different this time, his lips curving into a cryptic smile. Then he pretended to ask Yuan Guanyin what they were doing. Yuan Guanyin took his hand, looking at him deeply, and said, "To make a pact with you. With an eternal true heart as the betrothal, to stay by your side forever, never to part even in old age." He tied a red silk ribbon around Emoji Yang's wrist. "Today's first snow marks the day of our pact." Emoji Yang stuttered, asking if they needed to hold a ceremony. Yuan Guanyin affirmed, "Yes, but we will only bow to each other, not to heaven and earth." "Why?" Emoji Yang was confused. "Because in this world, you are the only one I would bow to." The vast snow outside could not cover the joy within the house. As the two exchanged vows under clear skies, finally united, Commander He and Gao Wufen, who sneaked in to watch, were moved to tears. After bowing, Mo Jiang was helped up by Yuan Guanyin, who had a red forehead from the kowtowing. Yuan Guanyin teased Mo Jiang, saying, "Let's make it heavy so that the deities above and the demons below all know we've made our pact." Hearing this, Mo Jiang laughed, covering his mouth, calling him nonsensical. Yuan Guanyin, holding his hand, sat down. "I ascended the throne at 19, with a grand coronation celebrated by the whole nation, yet I was the only one unhappy. Tonight, though there are no others to celebrate, I am exceedingly joyful. Yang Yang, you are the one I desire for life. With the room full of spring beauty, I find myself believing in love again." Despite the occasion, Yuan Guanyin still insists on making a dumpling. But Mo Jiang ends up in fits of laughter upon discovering the bed is covered with red dates, peanuts, longans, and lotus seeds. I wonder if everyone knows this custom. Sprinkling these dry fruits on the marital bed symbolizes the wish for the couple to have children soon. Yuan Guanyin picks up a red date and puts it in his mouth, intending to feed it to Mo Jiang. After feeding him the red date, he teasingly asks if Yang Yang wants to try a lotus seed next. The candlelight casts their moving shadows within the canopy, accompanied by Mo Jiang's resigned voice, "Your Majesty, even with lotus seeds, we can't make dumplings." Even the seasoned little system couldn't help but feel moved by the scene. Yuan Guanyin is quite playful. Several years later, Mo Jiang welcomes the emperor back from court like a little wife. She shows Yuan Guanyin the new paper-cut window decoration she made, looking so loving that others are envious. Yuan Guanyin takes Mo Jiang to the Lantern Festival. It's rare for her to leave the palace, so everything she sees is fascinating. This time, she clings to Yuan Guanyin and playfully asks for a sugar figurine. The oblivious vendor chimes in, "Sir, make one for the young master. Your son is so charming." Hearing this, both of them widen their eyes in disbelief. Yuan Guanyin's face darkens instantly. "What nonsense are you spouting?" Mo Jiang quickly pulls Yuan Guanyin away, saying they no longer want the sugar figurine. The vendor, not knowing when to stop, calls after them, "Sir, aren't you going to buy a sugar figurine for your son?" Yuan Guanyin stops in his tracks, his face as dark as a pot bottom. Mo Jiang sees that the big gold retriever looks like he's about to bite. Sure enough, Yuan Guanyin can't take it anymore and strides back to the stall, flipping it over with one hand. He yells angrily, "That's my wife." The scene is chaotic. Mo Jiang uses all her strength but still can't pull Yuan Guanyin away. The onlookers start gossiping. Yuan Guanyin keeps emphasizing to the vendor, "He is my wife, did you hear?" Finally, amidst the chaos, they manage to pull Yuan Guanyin away. They haven't gone far when they hear the vendor muttering, "They sure look like father and son. Why can't we say that?" Mo Jiang hurriedly covers Yuan Guanyin's ears, "Old man, please say less." Yuan Guanyin turned to hold Mo Jiang's hand, looking sad. "Yang Yang, if one day I leave this world before you, what will you do all alone and helpless? When we made our pact, didn't we say till death do us part? Of course, wherever you go, I will follow. Why should we be upset over such things now? If we are upset over these things now, wouldn't it be a waste of good times? Thinking that life is just a few decades, having Yang Yang as a treasure, I really should cherish it. Do you think Mo Jiang doesn't want to end the mission because he has fallen in love with Yuan Guanyin?" Yuan Guanyin and Mo Jiang adopted a child from their clan. When the child was 10, he was made the crown prince. Every year, Yuan Guanyin took Mo Jiang to see the first snow. Until the last year, the imperial physician shook his head helplessly. Yuan Guanyin was old after all and slowly called out Yang Yang. Mo Jiang knew what he wanted to say, so he took the initiative to lie in his arms. "Your Majesty promised till death do us part, a king should not jest." Yuan Guanyin didn't want to deprive him of his right to live, but he took the initiative to be selfish for once. On the night of the vigil, the crown prince looked at the two embracing each other in the coffin. His father defied norms for a minor dark guard, disbanded the harem, but an emperor actually found true love, which is really admirable. I probably don't have my father's good fortune, better just be a good emperor. As the coffin was sealed, Mo Jiang woke up in the system space with a hint of sadness in his eyes. After calming down, he asked the system what the setting for the next world is. The system chuckled, "Host Daddy, you'll definitely like this world setting." The sensation of weightlessness from space travel hits, and Mo Jiang unexpectedly turns into a rabbit spirit. Mo Jiang even dares to mock the Lord God as an old monster. Mo Jiang has traveled to a new world where animals work and live with human faces, but everyone hides their ears and tails well. This time Mo Jiang is a rabbit, however, his ears, injected with a serum, not only can't retract but are also particularly sensitive. This setting immediately infuriates Mo Jiang. If I ever run into that scum who sold the original owner to an old man as a pet, I will definitely not let him go. The mini-system begins introducing the current strategy mission. The person displayed on the screen is Tanzong. He is your target in this world. You need to accumulate his affection value to 99 before the mission is considered complete. Emoji Yang looks at the person on the screen thoughtfully. The more he looks at this face, the more familiar it seems. When he realizes it, he becomes unnerved and loudly says to the mini-system, "Can't you be more careful when you're creating faces? The NPCs almost all look the same. Is this reasonable?" The mini-system spreads its hands, showing helplessness. Maybe the Lord God has been too busy lately. I've heard from other systems gossiping that the Lord God has gone off dating, spending days playing in the world with his partner. Emoji Yang mocks, "I don't know who's so unlucky to be targeted by that old monster, the Lord God. By the way, system, how do I get close to this person named Tanzong?" The mini-system answers, "Tanzong is about to host a broadcast match in the underground arena soon. The winner will be hired as his personal bodyguard. Daddy host, you just need to knock everyone down to meet Tanzong." In the underground arena, the cheers from the audience grow louder, focusing on the two people in the ring. A burly man with a Tarzan-like build has his barriers exposed, while the other person in front of him appears extremely petite. At a height of 1.77 meters, wearing a black hoodie with the hood up, making it hard to see his face. The two engaged in a fight, but unexpectedly, the petite man needed no more than 3 moves to take down the tall and burly man. This twist set the whole place abuzz. A handsome man in the VIP seats watched the scene, finding the petite man quite interesting. Emoji Yang leaped down from the stage, and in front of Tanzong, he took off his hat. A rabbit is a rabbit, which not only shocked the audience below, but also made Tanzong frown slightly. Could such a delicate rabbit really be suitable for a bodyguard's job? Who wouldn't love a cute little rabbit? Especially one with the attributes of a self-reliant Lotus. The rabbit, brave and small, is an adorable little baby, tugging at Tanzong's clothes and acting coquettishly. Tanzong picked up the little baby, looking somewhat disdainfully at Emoji Yang. Can this delicate little rabbit really handle the job of a bodyguard? But unable to resist Xiaoran's crying, he agreed, "It's you, then. Come with me." Being disliked by someone doesn't make him angry. Now you're annoyed, but later you'll be begging him to give you a hug and lift you up high. Sure, Yuan said, "Okay," and Emoji Yang nodded. No matter what, the first step to getting close to Tanzong is done. In the study, Tanzong handed him a contract. "Your task is to protect Xiaoran for this year. Of course, the treatment is also the best. Take a look first." Emoji Yang looked at him with almond-shaped eyes. "Can I make a request?" "Go ahead." Tanzong's eyebrows slightly furrowed, seemingly displeased with his words. Emoji Yang pressed his hands over his own ears, pulling them down. His rabbit ears were extremely sensitive, a touch from someone else could weaken his knees. Blushing, he made his request, "Don't touch my ears." Looking at the rabbit-eared boy in front of him, those fluffy rabbit ears were almost unbearably cute. Tanzong's heart couldn't help but race. He averted his gaze and asked, "Rabbits only show their ears when they're in heat, right? I was injected with a drug 2 years ago, and my ears won't retract." Emoji Yang's voice lowered, unwilling to bring up the matter. But he had already noticed Tanzong's reaction and felt smug, knowing he was right. People generally can't resist cute things. Tanzong didn't press further and pushed the contract in front of him. "All right, I agree to your request. If there are no other issues, sign here. For the next year, you need to stay close and protect Xiaoran." "No problem," Emoji Yang signed without hesitation. Finally lying on the big bed, he sighed with enjoyment. "This room is really nice. By the way, system, what's Xiaoran's situation? Why does someone so young need a personal bodyguard?" Xiaoran's grandfather promoted policies that touched some higher-ups' interests, provoking retaliation from a certain organization. Xiaoran's grandfather and parents were successively assassinated. As his uncle, Tanzong had no choice but to take Xiaoran in and protect him. Just then, the door on the left side of the room opened. "Is that Xiaoran?" Emoji Yang wondered. Room 1 on the left, ding, ah, ding. Emoji Yang, puzzled if it was Xiaoran, stuck out his head to look around. Sure enough, he saw Xiaoran, who had just woken up from his nap, coming out of his own room. At this moment, he was holding a rabbit doll with a blank expression, seemingly still half asleep. "Where are you going, Xiaoran?" Emoji Yang stopped the little guy. "Where to?" Emoji Yang stopped the little guy. Xiaoran turned his head, saw the rabbit, and his eyes immediately lit up. He ran towards him with his little legs and hugged Emoji Yang's thigh tightly. "Rabbit, rabbit, rabbit. Who can resist the allure of bunny ears? Old Man Tan surely can't resist. Xiao Ran is extremely excited in Emoji Yang's arms. Your bunny ears are so pretty. As he spoke, he reached out to touch Mo's bunny ears. I'm Emoji Yang. Emo quickly dodged his hand, grabbed Xiao Ran's little hand and pinched it. Xiao Ran, behave, don't touch my ears. And I'm not called Bunny, my name is Emoji Yang. That night, when Tan returned home, he saw the bunny-eared boy hugging a doll, sleeping on the sofa. Under the warm orange light, the bunny ears trembled with each breath, utterly irresistible. Tan couldn't help but want to reach out and touch them. At that moment, Emoji Yang slightly curved his lips. Such a heartwarming scene, I don't believe you can remain unmoved. Indeed, Tan couldn't resist anymore, just as his hand almost reached Emoji Yang's bunny ears. Emoji Yang woke up. Pretending to be sleepy, he rubbed his eyes. You're back. With a gentle voice, Tan asked, why didn't you go to bed? Xiao Ran wanted to wait for you, Emoji Yang said as he stood up holding the child, slightly bowing his head to look at the child, seemingly cautious not to wake him, but actually to let his ears brush past Tan's nose. However, Emoji Yang underestimated his own sensitivity. As the bunny ears grazed his nose, the warm breath also hit the ears, and he almost collapsed, unable to hold back. He quickly found an excuse to leave. I'll take Xiao Ran back to the room first. Tanzong only regained his sense when people left. The fuzzy touch on the tip of his nose just now felt extremely comfortable. He was annoyed that he shouldn't have agreed to the condition of not touching his ears in the first place. After returning to his room, Emoji Yang looked at his own rabbit ears in the mirror. The little white rabbit was indeed a good bait. The system made a sarcastic remark about his dark-hearted self-promotion online. However, the little system was puzzled. Since you used the rabbit ears as bait, why won't you let Tanzong touch them? Emoji Yang tilted his head and smiled, because people are like this. The more you don't want them to touch, the more they want to. This is called playing hard to get. Have you learned it? The little system exclaimed, it's ruined, ruined. This time, Tanzong finally decided to make a move on Emoji Yang's rabbit ears. Early in the morning, Emoji Yang was barely awake when Xiao Ran started nagging him to draw with her. He propped his head up, watching Xiao Ran draw, almost falling asleep. As soon as Tanzong opened the door, he saw those adorable rabbit ears. Now, he thought of quietly touching them. He silently walked over, thinking he could sneak a touch without being noticed. Emoji Yang was secretly laughing in his heart. Touch it, hurry up and touch it. The soft and cute rabbit ears, don't you want to feel them? Tanzong swallowed his saliva. He nearly touched the rabbit ears with his sinful hand, just a little bit more. Just at that moment, Xiao Ran happily exclaimed, Bai Yong, you're here. In an instant, Tanzong hastily withdrew his hand and returned to his mature and composed demeanor. That was close, almost got caught. Emoji Yang instantly sobered up. Mr. Tan, I'm sorry, I just fell asleep. Tanzong sternly lectured, looking quite unapproachable. Although this is home, one must not let their guard down. Be more careful next time. Emoji Yang humbly accepted the criticism. I'm sorry, it was my negligence. It won't happen again. Seeing Emoji Yang's remorseful expression, Tanzong suddenly felt a bit regretful. Had he been too harsh just now? Yet, he couldn't bring himself to explain. With his already sharp and rugged features, coupled with that cold expression, he seemed very angry. Emoji Yang internally panicked, really? Just because I fell asleep for a bit? He quickly bowed and apologized. It won't happen again, rest assured. Tanzong felt anxious inside. He didn't mean to be so critical, but the more anxious he got, the colder his expression appeared, seeming even angrier. Xiao Ran thought Bai Yong was very angry. Not wanting his brother Yang to be scolded, he tugged at Tanzong's pants, pleading for his brother Yang. Uncle Bai, brother Yang played with me for a long time and got tired. He didn't mean to fall asleep. Please don't be angry. Tanzong smiled and patted the little guy's head. I'm not angry. But that smile, in Xiao Ran's eyes, still looked fierce. Indeed, Yang is really angry. Better not let brother Yang stay here and get scolded. He hugged Yang's legs and began to act coy. Brother Yang, I'm sleepy. Take me for a nap, please. Emoji Yang also noticed the little guy's intentions. Go ahead. He bent down to pick him up. Then I'll take Xiao Ran to rest first. Tanzong still had a cold face and nodded slightly. After they left, Tanzong frantically scratched his head. I really wasn't angry, I clearly didn't mean to scold him. How did it turn out this way? Why can't I speak when I try to explain? Tanzong, this stoic top, surprisingly has a cute contrast. Xiao Ran, the adorable one, insisted on having dinner with Tanzong along with Emoji Yang. Emoji Yang looked at the meat dishes filling the table, drooling. Xiao Ran's little short hands couldn't reach the dish he wanted. Brother Yang, I want that one. After Emoji Yang picked the meat for Xiaoran, he casually added a piece of braised pork for himself. But as soon as he picked the meat, Tanzong's eyes were fixed on that piece of meat. Emoji Yang felt worried. No way, he's staring even when I add a piece of meat for myself. Does he not want me to eat it? The atmosphere got a bit awkward. Emoji Yang gritted his teeth and directly gave the meat to Xiaoran. If he doesn't want to eat it, then fine. He added some vegetables for himself and started to eat his rice, head down. Oomph, so petty. What did your official partner see in you anyway? Stingy? Tanzong had a cold face, but his real thought was, why didn't he add meat for me? I wanted some meat too. Watching the desired meat end up in his nephew's bowl, Tanzong shamelessly transferred the meat from his nephew's bowl into his own and coaxed the little nephew, eat more vegetables. You need a balanced diet to grow. Emoji Yang was speechless. Xiaoran is like a wolf, telling him to eat vegetables? Go tell a ghost to eat vegetables. This uncle is truly something else. Emoji Yang had no choice but to say nothing, continued eating and combing his hair. Tanzong watched the rabbit ears tremble with each bite. Suddenly, he found the meat in his mouth less appetizing. He really wanted to touch those rabbit ears, to rub them. That evening, Emoji Yang had a hard time but finally managed to coax Xiaoran to sleep. He had just left Xiaoran's room, when, unfortunately, he ran into Tanzong. Startled, Emoji Yang greeted, "Good evening, Mr. Tan. I'll go back to my room now," and turned to leave. But Tanzong stopped him, pointing in the opposite direction. "Your room is that way."
Your room is over there. Mo Ji-young awkwardly scratched his head, but just as he took 2 steps, he was called back, surprised. What does this person want to do? Could it be that he's still holding a grudge over that piece of meat? Before Tanzong could speak, Mo Ji-young bowed apologetically once more. I'm sorry. I didn't do my job well today. I apologize again. It won't happen again. If you want to deduct my pay, that's fine. Tanzong was frustrated inside. I don't want you to apologize. But the more anxious he got, the colder his expression became, and he spat out 2 cold words, "It's fine." Mo Ji-young wiped the sweat off his forehead and muttered to himself, what a bad attitude. How can someone be so stingy? Misunderstood, Tanzong was somewhat absent-minded. However, looking at Mo Ji-young's smiling face, he found him really cute. At this moment, the system suddenly indicated that his heart fluttered slightly. Mo Ji-young was a bit puzzled. Did he suddenly have feelings? Oh well, never mind, better to leave first. Mr. Tan, if there's nothing else, I'll go rest now. Okay. Seeing the person enter the room and shut the door with a bang, Tanzong regretted it deeply. Why didn't he just say sorry earlier? He angrily kicked the wall. A sharp pain instantly shot through his toes. Mo Ji-young, who had just closed the door, heard a bang and thought something had happened. He opened the door to see Tanzong still standing there. Mr. Tan, do you still have something to say? Tanzong's expression changed instantly, coldly responding, no. Watching Tanzong hobble back to his room while leaning on the wall, Mo Ji-young was a bit worried and asked the little system, do you think Tanzong is sick? The kind that might suddenly grab a knife and attack me? Guess whether Tanzong's original official partner was male or female, the little system reminded Mo Ji-young. According to the original plot, the day after tomorrow at the amusement park is when you'll meet your end. Later, Tanzong's official partner accidentally saved Xiaoran and fell in love with Tanzong as a result. Mo Ji-young was jealous, so tomorrow not only will someone me, but someone will also compete with me for Tanzong. His anger rose instantly. If Tanzong likes Zhou Shen, what about his own mission? He cracked his knuckles and gritted his teeth. Dare to compete with me for Tanzong? Haha, Zhou Shen, you're in big trouble. In the crowded amusement park, Mo Ji-young, holding Xiaoran, was vigilantly looking around when he suddenly squinted his eyes and spotted a suspicious man in black at the entrance. He handed Xiaoran to Tanzong and used a hat to cover the upper part of his face, then walked towards the man in black. The man in black adjusted his communicator. Position normal, the target vehicle has just arrived. Mo Ji-young pretended to brush past him, then suddenly grabbed the man's shoulder. Hey, long time no see. What are you doing here? In the man's moment of confusion, Mo Ji-young quickly took him down. His technique was clean and efficient. He dusted off his hands, trying to ambush your dad? Maybe in your next life. Then, Mo Ji-young knocked out another man disguised as a mascot and another watching from the bushes. While celebrating the victory with the little system, he heard a particularly pleasant voice. Would this guest like some ice cream? Mo Ji-young looked up and saw a seductively handsome man smiling at him. That man's eyes were so captivating that they made Mo Ji-young's heart tremble. The little system told him this was Tanzong's official match, Zhou Shen. Zhou Shen liked the little rabbit in front of him very much, especially its pink-tinged white rabbit ears which looked exceptionally soft and touchable. "This ice cream is for you. My name is Zhou Shen, what about you?" Zhou Shen seemed very interested in him, smiling as he introduced himself. Seeing the food, Mo Ziyang's brain stopped working. "I'm Mo Ziyang, thank you." He licked the ice cream happily and giggled, "Yummy, so sweet." The little system was frustrated. "Host daddy, just a bit of food and you're bought over. He is your rival after all." Mo Ziyang started to make excuses again. "You don't understand, Zhou Shen is the protagonist. According to the plot, as long as he is there, Xiao Ran is safe. So, getting along with him might actually help with the mission." The little system chuckled. "You think I believe that?" Zhou Shen actually took a liking to Mo Ziyang. At the amusement park, Xiao Ran and Tan Zong had an accident and got trapped on the Ferris wheel. Mo Ziyang hurriedly threw down his ice cream and rushed over to the rescue. Zhou Shen watched Mo Ziyang with some confusion, wondering how this Qianqin Mian suddenly changed and even started protecting others. Could he also be here on a mission? At that moment, Zhou Shen also noticed the unusual situation and quietly followed. Xiao Ran shrank in the embrace, shivering, while Tan Zong held Xiao Ran tight, soothing her softly. "Don't be afraid, Xiao Ran. Your brother Yang is still down there. He will find a way to save us." Mo Ziyang rushed to the Ferris wheel's control room, cursing as the door was locked by the assassin. Inside the control room, the assassin was still operating the Ferris wheel. Mo Ziyang couldn't care less and forcefully kicked open the glass door. Just as he was about to subdue the killer, the next second a bullet penetrated the assassin's temple. Mo Ziyang turned his head to see Zhou Shen spinning around, smiling at him with pure benevolence. After resolving the crisis, Mo Ziyang sincerely said to Zhou Shen, "Thank you." Zhou Shen, casually holding the pistol, replied, "No need for thanks." A peculiar gleam flickered in his eyes. This is indeed an interesting little rabbit. Tan Zong and Xiao Ran safely landed from the Ferris wheel. Mo Ziyang ran over to them. "Mr. Tan, Xiao Ran, are you both alright?" Scared, Xiao Ran buried her head in Tan Zong's embrace, but still sensibly said, "Uncle, let's go home. Xiao Ran has had fun at the amusement park." Tan Zong patted Xiao Ran's back to comfort her, "Then let's go back." Mo Ziyang looked at Tan Zong, his face looking gloomy. He wondered if Tan Zong was going to blame him for not providing enough protection. Tan Zong frowned abruptly and scolded, "How did you get injured? Why didn't you protect yourself properly?" Mo Ziyang was taken aback and followed Tan Zong's gaze, only then noticing his hand was cut by glass. Scratching his head, he said nonchalantly, "It's just a small wound, it's nothing." In the small woods, Mo Ziyang furiously hammers the tied-up assassin, venting, "I'll teach you to ruin my mission, you think." After hammering for a while, Mo Ziyang finally carries the stick, revealing a very satisfied smile, feeling relieved. Zhou Shen, hiding behind the tree, watches this whole act of Xiao Mianzi and reveals a smile. "What a fierce little rabbit, I like it." Mo Ziyang, after all, can't forget Yuan Guanyin. Mo Ziyang ultimately couldn't forget Yuan Guanyin. Even when Tan Zong was applying medicine to him, he felt that Tan Zong resembled Yuan Guanyin a lot. Mo Ziyang endured the pain and used tweezers to remove the shards of glass embedded in the back of his hand. At this moment, Tan Zong came in with a medical kit. Mo Ziyang, looking at that sullen face, felt a bit worried. He wondered if Tan Zong was planning to rob him with the box. "I'll help you bandage the wound," Tan Zong said abruptly. Just as Mo Ziyang was taken aback, Tan Zong had already picked up his hand, and seeing the wound, Tan Zong felt extremely distressed, wishing it were he who was injured. "Bear with it, it might hurt a bit." Mo Ziyang's face turned slightly red as he nodded. Tan Zong was very focused and careful, gently disinfecting the wound, afraid of causing more pain. Mo Ziyang suddenly felt a bit dazed. Although he knew that NPCs all looked quite similar, his expression was still. He asked subconsciously, "Do you know someone named Yuan Guanyin?" He seemed to look at Tan Zong with some anticipation. Tan Zong paused, looked up, thought for a moment, and then shook his head, "I don't know." Mo Ziyang suddenly felt a bit disappointed. Well, it's a pity. He really resembled the big golden retriever just now. After treating the wound, Tan Zong repeatedly reminded, "Do not let the wound get wet these days. Take a good rest. I've arranged for an assistant to arrive the day after tomorrow." Mo Ziyang nodded happily, waved his bandaged hand, and thanked him. After Tan Zong went out, he closed the door but did not leave immediately. He placed his palm on the door, as if sensing something. After a long while, he sighed and turned to leave. Mo Ziyang found it a bit strange, lit a cigarette, and sat on the bay window to smoke. He asked the system, "Do you think Tan Zong is upset that I didn't protect Xiao Ran?" The system pondered for a moment and then said, "With Tan Zong's personality, it's possible, But you can avoid this by increasing the heart's desire value. Mo Ziyang gazed out at the vast night, his expression unfocused. But what is the ultimate goal of the heart's desire? The small system couldn't understand why the host had such doubts and replied straightforwardly. Isn't the ultimate goal of heart's desire just to complete the task? The small system squinted in confusion. Boss, you seem a bit strange. Why did you ask Yuan Guanyin in front of Tanzong just now? Tanzong unexpectedly forced Mo Ziyang. Mo Ziyang was playing with building blocks with Xiao Ran when Tanzong brought someone back. He introduced him to Mo Ziyang. This is Mr. Zhou, he's here to protect you. The moment Mo Ziyang saw Zhou Shen, he felt a pang in his heart. Indeed, the power of the plot is strong. He couldn't escape this official couple. Xiao Ran cleverly called out, "Hello, Uncle Zhou." Uncle Zhou Shen's heart skipped a beat. Did he really look that old? He turned to look at the rabbit that had been staring at him. Wei Wei smiled. Great. Wen is seeing the little rabbit. Mo Ziyang feigned a smile, but deep down he was paying the price, thinking, I can't let Tanzong and him get close. The heart-stirring must be mine. After coaxing Xiao Ran to sleep in the afternoon, Mo Ziyang knocked on Tanzong's door. It's time to sell some misery. Tanzong looked at the bunny ear poking in, feeling a bit excited. It's the bunny. The bunny actually came to see me. Mo Ziyang cautiously asked, is it because I previously scared Xiao Ran that you were unhappy and found Mr. Zhou? If that's the case, you can deduct from mine. It's okay. After saying this, he pursed his lips slightly, his big eyes filled with autumn water. Seeing him like this, Tanzong's heart melted. The bunny seems to have misunderstood. What should I do to explain? He stood up to explain, but his tone remained cold and hard. No, he's just assisting you. At this moment, the system prompted. Heart-stirring value +1, +1, +1, the little system exclaimed. Host, you're awesome. Mo Ziyang continued acting. I know I didn't do well in the end. He turned around, wiping his tears as he left. I'll reflect on it. Mr. Tan, I'll leave first. Suddenly, he was pulled back by a strong force. Tanzong forced him against the door panel, leaned down, and kissed him directly. The 6 sheep were confused by Q. They thought he was going to hit them, but he kissed them instead. And this why does it feel so familiar? Soon after, Tanzong let go. He patted Mo Ziyang's back and comforted him. I'm not disgusted by you or think you did poorly, I'm just afraid of you getting hurt. It was then Mo Ziyang came back to his senses, suddenly pushed Tanzong away, and turned to flee. Faced with Tanzong's sudden move, Mo Ziyang felt so embarrassed that he fled. Seeing him run away, Tanzong was a bit confused. The book didn't mention what to do if the other person runs away after a kiss. He pulled out a pink love manual from his pocket. He started to study it carefully and realized after reading that one should confess their feelings after kissing. So, it's because I kissed him before confessing that he ran away? Back in his room, Mo Ziyang exploded. System, you come out now. The little system also flew out helplessly. Tell me, what exactly is going on with Tanzong, Yuan Guanyin, and Shen Changliu? Are they just 3 NPCs that look alike? What's going on? Aren't they just 3 NPCs that look alike? Hearing this, Mo Ziyang suddenly calmed down. He actually wanted to ask why Tanzong's kiss felt so familiar, but it seemed there was no use asking the system, as its capabilities were limited. Moreover, I indeed have no way to prove the relationship between these 3 people. Is it just based on A.W.? Seeing the host not speaking, the system is a bit scared. Host Daddy, you also know the main god's face pinching loves to cut corners. This matter has nothing to do with me, don't take it out on me. We are in the same boat. Mo Ziyang leaning against the wall felt somewhat powerless. Forget it. Maybe it's just a coincidence. Perhaps I'm just being paranoid. But he gently touched his lips. But is it really just a coincidence? After lunch, Zhou Shen brought dessert. The taro flavor is for Xiao Ran. Xiao Ran, with big eyes, thank you, Uncle Zhou. Zhou Shen took the opportunity to try and get him to change how he addressed him. Actually, Xiao Ran, you can call me brother. Xiao Ran threw himself into Mo Ziyang's arms. I don't want to. Brother Yang is cute, you are not. That does make sense. Little Bunny is indeed quite cute, especially those ears, adorably breaking the rules. He reached out to Mo Ziyang's bunny ears. I offered you a strawberry pie, and in return, you let me touch your cat ears. Mo Ziyang hurriedly dodged backwards to escape his grasp. Annoyed, he said, I'll spit out your strawberry pie right now and give it back to you. What kind of problem is this? You are my love rival after all. Zhou Shen withdrew his hand. Scared of you now, stingy rabbit. Tanzong finally made a confession to Mo Ziyang. Mo Ziyang received a text message sent by Tanzong. It said that there was an urgent matter and asked him to rush to the rooftop. The tone seemed very urgent. He has a heart condition and didn't dare to delay, so he ran out immediately. Along the way, he held his pounding heart, not knowing what he had encountered, hoping he was fast enough that nothing happened to him. Upon reaching the rooftop, Mo Ziyang rushed out of the elevator, but he was stunned by the scene in front of him. The moment he opened the door, he saw rose petals scattered all over the floor and, thoughtfully, candles arranged in the shape of a heart. Tan Zong was standing inside the heart, holding a bunch of red roses. Mo Ziyang was speechless at the scene. Yang Yang, I like you. Tan Zong knelt on one knee, offering the roses to Mo Ziyang, who was walking towards him. He was still calculating in his mind. According to the romance guide, he had made his confession, wondering if he would not be pushed away now. Mo Ziyang accepted the roses with a sullen face, but the next second, he suddenly slammed the rose onto his head. It scared me so much, I ran over here so quickly. Do you know how scared I was? And then, just this. Mo Ziyang, furious, smacked the rose and turned to leave. Tan Zong was left with a head full of flowers. He was instantly stunned, quickly pulling out his love guide from his pocket to consult it. That's not right. The book didn't say confession would get me hit. Wasn't it supposed to be all good after confessing? After Mo Ziyang walked away, he finally curled his lips high. Young master likes sunflowers, not roses. Could you find out next time before sending them? His tsundere nature was fully revealed. Even the little system couldn't help but be sarcastic. Oh, if that's the case, why didn't you put the roses down first? Mo Ziyang sniffed the rose at his nose tip. Can't young master take it back for a bath? The system had already seen through everything. A man whose words do not match his heart. Just then, someone waving their hands rushed towards him. Ziyang, I finally found you. Mo Ziyang quickly dodged. Who are you? The system alerted. This is the original owner's college senior, Dan Quan. A few years ago, it was he who tricked you and sold you as a pet. You couldn't retract your ears because of the injection you got back then. Hearing this, Mo Ziyang instantly got furious. She kicked at the vital parts of the scumbag in front of her. Dan Quan began to play the victim, saying he was also forced. He even clung to Mo Ziyang's legs, begging for forgiveness. What are you doing? Tan Zong, after realizing his watch's procedure was correct, chased after them. When he saw Mo Ziyang entangled with someone else, his face turned dark immediately. Look at our Ziyang fiercely protecting her husband. My man is not someone you can hit. Tan Zong saw Mo Ziyang pulling and tugging with someone else. He instantly became unsettled and put Mo Ziyang behind him. Let go of him. What are you doing? He's my senior, Dan Quan. Mr. Tan, please don't make it difficult for him. Mo Ziyang explained softly from behind, but secretly delighted in his heart. He's definitely jealous. Now, the more I side with Dan Quan, the angrier Tan Zong will be, and the worse Dan Quan's fate will be. I'm really looking forward to it. Tan Zong clenched his fists, anger interweaving in his heart, his face growing darker. How can such a bunny be so innocent to be deceived by such a scumbag? Why can't I deceive someone into a hug or a lift? Annoyed, Dan Quan pushed Tan Zong away and grabbed Mo Ziyang's arm, trying to drag him away quickly. Tan Zong protected Mo Ziyang behind him, pushing away the person trying to pounce on him. Desperate, Dan Quan threw a punch at Tan Zong's face. The punch was solid. Mo Ziyang was just thinking of playing around and giving Tan Zong a thrill, but he didn't expect it to turn out this way. He pushed Tan Zong, who hadn't reacted, and kicked the single punch away far. My man is not someone you can hit. The scene was a bit thrilling. Tan Zong was punched and hadn't recovered when he saw this scene. Dan Quan was thrown 2 meters away, and the furious Mo Ziyang kicked and punched him. You dare to hit him? You think you're worthy? Tired of living, huh? Other men I can smash their heads. You try touching him and see, let you feel what a real body is. After dealing with the person completely, she turned around, took Tan Zong's hand, and left in a huff. In the car, Mo Ziyang gently touched the swollen spot on Tan Zong's cheek, looking very distressed. Does it hurt? Seeing this, Tan Zong remembered the teachings of the love guide, grabbed his hand that was pressed on the wound, feeling a bit painful but sweet inside because you just said I am your man. Mo Ziyang hastily shook off his hand and started to deny, I didn't. You heard wrong. That proud yet cute look melted Tan Zong's heart completely. You just said it, I heard it very clearly. The system announces the increase in affection points, add 1, add 1, add 1, add 1. Suddenly, Tan Zong hugged him and kissed him on the cheek. Can I come to see you tonight? Mo Ziyang was very embarrassed. What are you doing? The driver is still here. The driver in the front remained calm on the surface, but was quite looking forward to it inside. Don't mind me. I really want to see you guys get it on. Just do it now. The little system also feels the same, to kiss or to touch the ears. Tan Zong had a moment of soulful doubt. At night, just as Mo Ziyang finished bathing and drying his bare ears, he heard someone knocking on the door. Without thinking, he knew who it was. This damn green tea man. He walked over slowly, opened the door, and saw Tan Zong with a swollen face. He sighed, "Come in, I'll help you apply an egg to your wound." Tan Zong was now affected by that sentence. Tan Zong was energized by the phrase, "I am his man," and he quickly closed the door and even locked it. Today, he must rub those bunny ears. While Mo Ji-young was tending to his wounds, he warned him, "Be careful in the future. I can't always handle those scumbags for you." Tan Zong responded with a nod but didn't take it to heart. Dan Quan is just a normal monkey species. If I hadn't gone easy on him, he wouldn't have been able to hit me. But if taking a punch means hearing Yang Yang say I'm his man, it's worth it, even if I get knocked down. "Yang Yang, can I touch your ears?" Tan Zong looked at the fluffy, pink ears he had been longing to touch. Mo Ji-young stood up and casually tossed an egg to him. "No." Tan Zong caught him by the waist. "Yang Yang, just once, please. Just once." Mo Ji-young got anxious. "No, you promised me you wouldn't touch my ears. Why are you going back on your word now?" Tan Zong was determined to touch the bunny ears today or he wouldn't rest. He pinned Yang down and nudged his shoulder with his head. "Just once, okay." "No." Mo Ji-young still refused, intent on teasing him. Suddenly, several loud thunderclaps sounded outside, but the two inside seemed oblivious. Tan Zong, seeing his reluctance, thought of another tactic. "Do you want to kiss or for me to touch your ears? You choose." But there was no real choice. Mo Ji-young glared at him and was about to speak when a tearful voice came from outside. Brother Yang, where are you?" Mo Ji-young heard Xiao Ran's cries and sat up nervously. "I'll go check on Xiao Ran." Tan Zong blocked him, continuing the question, "Don't avoid it. First answer me, do you want to kiss or for me to touch your ears?" Outside the door came Xiao Ran's knocks and a whimpering voice. Even at a time like this guy was still hung up on the issue. He lifted his foot and directly nudged the person away, causing Xiao Ran to cry. Then he casually grabbed a down comforter and covered Tan Zong, who was pitifully sprawled on the floor. "You stay here quietly and don't make a sound." Tan Zong finally managed to poke his head out, only to hear Mo Ziyang's shout from the living room, and quickly retracted his head back to hide. Tan Zong's good moment was unexpectedly interrupted by his little nephew. But how could he let it rest? Watch how Tan Zong handles the little rabbit. As soon as Mo Ziyang opened the door, he saw the little one holding a bunny and standing guard at his door. Xiao Ran immediately leapt into Mo Ziyang's arms and began to cry pitifully. "Brother Yang, there's thunder outside. I'm really scared." Mo Ziyang gently patted his silver hair. "Xiao Ran, don't worry, Brother Yang's here. I just went to find my uncle, but he wasn't there, so I came to find Brother Yang. Can I sleep with you tonight?" "Of course, your uncle isn't in his room." Mo Ziyang turned and glared at the bulge on the bed, feeling a bit troubled. He was about to refuse when another thunderclap sounded, scaring Xiao Ran even more. In the blink of an eye, before Mo Ziyang could react, Xiao Ran had already crawled under his covers. Then it became awkward. The two people under the blanket stared at each other. Luckily, Xiao Ran was still a child and clearly hadn't expected his uncle to be there. With big, puzzled eyes, he asked, "Uncle, what are you doing here? Are you afraid of the thunder too?" Tan Zong helplessly nodded and said, "Yes, uncle is also afraid of thunder." Mo Ziyang picked up Xiao Ran. "It's okay Xiao Ran, Brother Yang will sleep with you." Xiao Ran nodded repeatedly. "Xiao Ran will be very quiet." The neglected someone pointed at himself. "And what about me?" Mo Ziyang sighed and made the biggest concession. "How about Uncle and Brother Yang keep you company?" Xiao Ran cheered. "Yay. Xiao Ran loves Brother Yang the most, and loves Uncle too." Tan Zong gently patted him to sleep. "Sleep well, tomorrow Brother Yang will take you to see the art exhibition." Xiao Ran quickly fell asleep. Mo Ziyang's eyes were a bit blurred, suddenly feeling someone holding his hand. He instantly woke up and turned his head to see Tan Zong smiling at him. He couldn't help but slightly curve his lips. Quietly, he gripped back the hand that Tan Zong sneakily reached out. "Good night." In the morning in the bathroom, Tan Zong asked Mo Ziyang, "Have you still not answered? Should I pinch or touch your ear?" Mo Ziyang was very reluctant, then just pinch. At this moment, Xiao Ran woke up, rubbed his eyes and sat up. "Brother Yang, where are you guys?" He searched around the room and saw his uncle and Brother Yang coming out of the bathroom. "So you were here?" Xiao Ran looked curiously at Mo Ziyang. "Brother Yang, why are your lips a bit swollen?" Mo Ziyang, feeling guilty, scratched his head. "A mosquito bit me this morning." Tan Zong, now dubbed a mosquito, was very satisfied with his smile. Tan Zong finally tackled Mo Ziyang and started a new round of pinching and the little ear-touching game. Just now, Mo Ziyang clearly remembered that he had fallen asleep with Xiao Ran, but woke up to find himself in Tan Zong's arms. Realizing something was amiss, Mo Ziyang suddenly sat up, but still felt very happy inside. "You're back. Why was Yang Yang sleeping in Xiao Ran's room? Were you waiting for me? Tan Zong's voice was gentle and filled with tender emotions. Mo Ziyang embraced his neck, looking a bit serious. I do have something to ask you. I just saw a strange woman coming out of Xiao Ran's room. Who is that woman? Tan Zong wasn't surprised and teased him by leaning his forehead against Mo's. Is Yang Yang jealous? Mo Ziyang gave him a glance. Stop joking and be serious. I just want to know if this woman is dangerous. If she is, Xiao Ran will sleep with me from now on. How can that be? If Xiao Ran sleeps with Yang Yang, then who will sleep with me? Tan Zong hurriedly explained. That woman was actually part of a setup meant to draw out the mastermind behind the S organization. Tan Zong embraced Mo Ziyang from behind, a bit nervously asking, Yang Yang, I hid this from you. Are you angry with me? Why should I be angry? Do you think I am that petty? He wondered inwardly. This man's plans are meticulous and intelligent, yet why does he act so clueless in front of me? As Mo Ziyang was thinking, Tan Zong suddenly pounced on him. Yang Yang, you are the best in my eyes, he said, and started rubbing his chin against the shallow hollow of his shoulder, displaying his big kitty cat traits fully. Mo Ziyang's face turned red instantly. Stop, it's so itchy, don't rub anymore. It's so itchy, stop rubbing. Tan Zong not only didn't stop but started to climb on Mo Ziyang's body. Yang Yang, you smell so good. Mo Ziyang was so startled that his ears perked up instantly. Tan Zong laughed in surprise. Yang Yang, your ears are so red and cute. You stay away from me. Mo Ziyang's words had no force behind them. Instead, Tan Zong grabbed his hands. Should I kiss you quickly or touch your ears? With this move, Mo Ziyang had absolutely no ability to resist and could only obediently make a choice. A quick kiss. Anyway, the ears can't be touched. Tan Zong respected his choice and went straight for a kiss. It's okay, I have all the patience for Yang Yang. Mo Ziyang was a mess from the kiss, finally able to breathe freely. Who would have thought this guy would start unbuttoning him? Even more outrageous questions followed. Do you want the clothes or your ears touched? The little bunny is going to be eaten up completely. Do you want the clothes or your ears touched? Faced with Tan Zong, Mo Ziyang was powerless. Tan Zong became more outrageous, just finished asking about a quick kiss or touching ears, now directly upgrading to whether it's the clothes or touching ears. This is clearly bullying, isn't it? At this moment, Mo Ziyang's watery eyes glared at him, but with no force. Don't you go too far. Tan Zong didn't care, his big hand lingering by his waist, continuing to pursue. Do you want the clothes or your ears touched? I don't want the clothes. Mo Ziyang bit his teeth. Anyway, you can't touch my ears. I won't let you win. Seeing his as if death were trivial expression, Tan Zong couldn't help but laugh out loud. Okay, then we'll do as Yang Yang wishes for the next plot. Just imagine it yourself. Anyway, Tan Zong threatened Mo Ziyang several times in the middle. The routine is still the same, asking for everything or touching the ear. Mo Ziyang felt that this man was really pushing his luck. He was so angry that he bit the man's wolf ear. Tan Zong lifted his head even more fiercely. Yang Yang, you're breaking the rules like this. Suddenly, Tan Zong felt something furry. When he touched it, it was soft. When he saw clearly what it was, he nearly had a nosebleed. The tail was actually a rabbit's tail. Yang Yang is just too cute. At this moment, Mo Ziyang felt helpless. The next day when Mo Ziyang woke up, he still felt a hand touching his tail. In anger, he couldn't hold back and kicked Tan Zong down. You're almost making it bald. Tan Zong let himself be kicked down without getting angry and lay on the side of the boat pretending to be pitiful. Yang Yang, my hand hurts so much. Mo Ziyang continued dressing, saying, no injuries, just get up yourself. Suddenly, Tan Zong saw the scratch marks on his back and felt it all so surreal for a moment. My little bunny is finally mine. So satisfied, more than having the whole world. Tan Zong got up and moved over, carefully massaging his waist. Yang Yang, are you hungry or still full from yesterday? Do you have no shame? Mo Ziyang glared at him. Where is the cold and domineering man I first met? The main character's persona has completely collapsed. Do you realize, Mo Ziyang and Tan Zong were all over each other all night? This morning, Mo Ziyang was walking with a limp. Zhou Shen frowned slightly, inwardly annoyed. His walking posture was abnormal, and he also smelled of another male's scent. Who managed to get the little bunny so quickly? Could it be him? Sensing Zhou Shen staring at Tan Zong, Mo Ziyang quickly stepped in front of Tan Zong, wrapping Tan Zong's arm. You can forget about other men. Just then, a little chubby hand tugged at Tan Zong's trouser leg. Uncle, are you going out? Can Sharon go with you? Auntie Chow is coming over this afternoon, and I don't want to play with her. Mo Ziyang sharply caught the mention of Auntie Chow. The little system beside him reminded the host, it's Chow Yin. The malevolent female supporting character is finally making her appearance. In the original story, Chao Yin liked Tan Zong and really didn't get along with Tan Zong's official partner, unlike now, with you being with Tan Zong. The small system laughed gleefully. Hee hee, the host is in trouble now. Mo Ji-young cracked his knuckles and grabbed the small system's head. When have you ever seen your host dad get poisoned? The small system quickly admitted defeat. I was wrong. Xiao Ran was still acting cute under Tan Zong's feet. Uncle, can you take me out with you? I promise to be good and nothing will happen. Tan Zong looked a bit troubled. Mo Ji-young pretended to cough lightly. I'm not feeling well today. How about you and Zhou Shen take Xiao Ran out together? Han Zong originally wanted to take Yang Yang out, but hearing this, he remembered how much he had worn Yang Yang out last night, and he really did look tired. He affectionately patted Mo Ji-young's head, then rest well at home. Watching Zhou Shen leave with him, Mo Ji-young flashed a mischievous smile. Zhou Shen suddenly felt a chill down his spine, as if he had a bad premonition. Only Mo Ji-young was left in the house. It was still early, the wicked female supporting character would only come in the afternoon. If anything was to happen, it would have to wait until the afternoon. He dashed to the fridge. Finally, no one's here to fight me for the strawberry ice cream. The small system was speechless. Is that cold stuff really that tasty? The small system dropped a bombshell. Something incredible happened when Mo Ji-young and Tan Zong were up to their antics. Just a moment ago, the wicked female supporting character Chao Yin came knocking. Mo Ji-young, aiming to shift the hatred value onto Zhou Shen, hinted that Tan Zong had feelings for Zhou Shen. Chao Yin immediately became interested in Zhou Shen, asking about him and Tan Zong, while Mo Ji-young seized the opportunity to signal wildly for money. Without a second word, Chao Yin took off the emerald earrings she was wearing and threw them to him, saying, "That should feed you for a few years." Mo Ji-young caught the earrings, weighing them in his hand, and realized they were valuable goods, exclaiming how generous she was right off the bat. Mr. Zhou was hired by Mr. Tan to protect the young master. The two of them seemed to be quite close, and Mr. Zhou is particularly handsome. There was one time I came in the morning to clean and saw Mr. Tan coming out of Mr. Zhou's room. System blushing, "Host Dad, are you sure you're not talking about yourself?" After hearing all this from the rabbit, Chao Yin knew she had met her match. She darkened her expression and casually took off the sapphire necklace from her neck and threw it to him. "Keep an eye on Tan Zong and Zhou Shen for me, and report their movements to me all the time. All this will be yours." On the balcony, Mo Ji-young facing the sun, carefully admiring the sapphire on the necklace, thinking to himself that he is indeed a money-making expert, saving up for the future when Xiao Ran needs to marry. When Xiao Ran gets married in the future, he'll give this set of emeralds as a betrothal gift. What a pure lotus flower. The small system is speechless about the host's shamelessness. "I think you should keep it for your own dowry." Mo Ji-young suddenly recalls something and turns to the small system, asking, "What's Tan Zong's affection value now?" Affection value is 51. The small system suddenly becomes shy. "Last night, when you were doing that, and Tan Zong touched your tail, his affection value rose faster than his blood pressure. I saw you were doing indescribable things, so I turned off the alert tone. It's not like I can announce the affection value while you're at it." Mo Ji-young highly appreciates this behavior, saying you've got some insight. The small system gets annoyed. "I may be just code, but I have my dignity too." Suddenly, someone rushes towards Mo Ji-young. "You're smoking?" The person says this while trying to snatch the cigarette Mo Ji-young is holding. "How can such a well-behaved little rabbit like you smoke?" Mo Ji-young dodges to the right and turns back to see it's Zhou Shen, retorting, "Mind your own business." Zhou Shen recalls that this morning Mo Ji-young was covered in Tan Zong's scent, so he hesitates to ask, "Are you and Tan Zong together now?" "Oh, look who's here to spy." Mo Ji-young boldly admits, "Yes, we've been together since last night." With an arrogant demeanor, you can't compete with a pure lotus flower for a man. It was Mo Ji-young who took the initiative with Tan Zong for the first time. Moreover, he saw the shadow of Yuan Guanyin in Tan Zong's eyes. When Tan Zong returned, he saw his little rabbit enjoying a pleasant talk with another man. His whole heart instantly fell into a jar of jealousy. "What are you doing?" Mo Ji-young shrank back and quickly pulled away from Zhou Shen. "Talking about Xiao Ran again?" Tan Zong squeezed between them, stopping Mo Ji-young, and snorted coldly at Zhou Shen. "What's there to talk about with this stinky cat? And so happily too." Mo Ji-young leaned in his embrace, conveying the message. "See? He is my man." Han Zong blocked Zhou Shen's view of Mo Ji-young and issued an eviction order. "Mr. Zhou, it's getting late. You should go back and rest." Is this man concerned about Zhou Shen? Mo Ji-young felt a sense of crisis. In the original storyline, Zhou Shen was Tan Zong's official partner. This shouldn't be, and yet he's concerned about him. Mo Ji-young couldn't swallow this anger and poked his head out with a kind smile. "Yes, you worked hard today. You should go back and rest early." Zhou Shen noticed Tan Zong's expression growing colder, while the little rabbit's smile appeared increasingly innocent, giving him a chill down his spine. How could it feel dangerous to stay any longer? He quickly made his escape. I am a bit tired. I'll go rest. As soon as he left, Tan Zong rested his head on Mo Ziyang's shoulder. Yang, I'm really tired too. He hoped for some concern. Mo Ziyang began to say, you've worked hard, but before he could finish, he suddenly noticed Tan Zong's face close to his. The way he looked at him was really like a golden retriever. He mischievously pressed a cigarette butt to Tan Zong's lips. Do you smoke? Tan Zong touched the back of his hand and softly said, for you, I can try. He took a deep drag on the cigarette, and just at that moment, Mo Ziyang suddenly leaned forward, using his mouth to block the smoke from escaping Tan Zong's mouth. This was the first time Yang took the initiative. Tan Zong was so thrilled that he pulled him into his arms and reversed the situation, entangling with him. Mo Ziyang felt like he could hardly breathe. After a long while, the two separated, and Mo Ziyang, weak as a puddle of spring water, leaned against his shoulder, panting, with the hand holding the cigarette resting on his left shoulder. After coaxing the nephew, he still had to please the uncle. Mo Ziyang really couldn't handle it. Just now, Mo Ziyang took the initiative to lean over to Tan Zong for the first time, but Tan Zong reversed the situation, and as a result, Mo Ziyang could only collapse weakly in Tan Zong's arms. Tan Zong nuzzled his head, softly saying, Yang, can you only look at me and care about me, ignoring everyone else? Mo Ziyang brought the cigarette to his mouth, took a deep inhale, apparently realizing that chatting with Zhou Shen just now had provoked Tan Zong's jealousy. Mo Ziyang turned around and hugged him again. Okay, I promise you. Tan Zong suddenly toppled him over, saying, Yang, you're so good. Mo Ziyang's heart was racing, not expecting that he really cared so much about me. and a good could get him all SS. Zhou Shen, what do you have to compete with me? Even if you are the official match in the storyline, my man is still my man. Tan Zong couldn't control himself and was about to get cozy with Yan. Mo Ziyang was shocked. This was on the balcony. He quickly reminded not to do it here as they could be seen. Just then, a soft and mushy voice disturbed them. Brother Yang, I'm scared alone. Can you stay with me? Xiao Ran, rubbing his eyes, looked pitifully at Mo Ziyang. Tan Zong's romantic plans were once again thwarted by his little nephew. He pitifully said, Yan, you go accompany Xiao Ran. Don't worry about me. Mo Ziyang saw his reluctance, patted his head to comfort him. I'll come to you after I tuck Xiao Ran in. Tan Zong, true to his drama queen nature, nodded sadly but was secretly delighted inside, giggling to himself knowing Yan couldn't bear to leave him. At night, after Mo Ziyang had tucked Xiao Ran into bed, he planned to see if his man was asleep. Then he thought, why should he tuck his nephew in and still keep his uncle company? So he turned around and went back to his own room. Tan Zong waited and waited, but Yan never showed up. Yan, this won't do. You can't just wait, you should take the initiative. Mo Ziyang lay in bed and heard the door being opened, turned over with his back to the door. He hadn't locked the door. It was also a bit of his pride, a way of not delivering himself directly into the wolf's den. Yan, why are you sleeping here? Tan Zong asked softly. With his back to him, Mo Ziyang pretended to be very sleepy. Sleeping in my own bed is more comfortable. I thought you were afraid of me. Tan Zong pulled him closer into his arms, the two of them very close together. I'm sorry, I can't assist with that request.